Hello, everybody, and welcome to an incredible update show. This is the kickoff of SMITE's Year 10 update show 10.1, the Fire Giant update. I am Titan Dandy, and I'm joined here by two people that y'all should all recognize. We have Titan Ajax, Titan Clumsy. Welcome aboard.
Hey, yo.
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
We are incredibly excited to kick this off. I say this a lot, right? Y'all will hear me say we got a big update coming, and I've said that for a lot of updates, and they have been big. Comparatively speaking, this update's gigantic. You see, this isn't paper. A lot of times we have, it would have killed me. It would have taken 100,000 trees, and we're better than that. So we're excited to get in to talk about all the incredible things we have. We have a battle pass, a new god, a crossover event, so many incredible things happening that I think the best way to get into it is just to get into it. So let's kick off by talking about something that's a little different now. This is SMITE Year 10, not Season 10. This is Year 10 now, because we're changing the way that we address these kind of things. Ajax, if you want to get into it.
Yes, that's right. So we're calling this year Year 10, and that's because of a very special reason that we are going to have multiple seasons throughout the year. So there are going to be 4 seasons throughout Year 10, each with their own big gameplay updates, thematic changes, conquest changes, and more. The first season of the year is the Season of Monsters, which we're going to be kicking off today with 10.1. But we've been evaluating our release schedule. We've been talking to our community, looking at what we are excited about. And what that is more big game changes, more meta shifts, more often throughout the year. So we won't have to wait all the way till mid-season and all the way till the new season. Now we're going to have Year 10, and we're going to have multiple seasons throughout, each with their own exciting changes.
Yeah, there's just so much that we want to do to celebrate 10 years of SMITE. That's the big 1-0, you know? We're here.
Double digits.
Yeah, and so we think that this format is going to be great because we are going to aim to provide larger and more exciting meta-shifting updates on kind of a quarterly rundown, you know? Obviously, this is a huge change, and so we'll let y'all know more about this as we move through the year and as we continue to make this into reality, but it's happening, and the Season of Monsters is the beginning of it, and I just couldn't be more excited about it.
Oh, yeah.
So to start out, though, we're going to get into some changes that are actually happening now, and the first thing that we're talking about is a brand new Conquest map.
Hell yeah, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
That's right.
It's a little out of rotation. We wanted to move it up because, again, big 1-0.
Yeah.
And the map is incredible. I could sit here and talk about it all day, and we have enough changes to talk about it all day, but just talking isn't that enjoyable. Let's get in and see the map as we talk about it. Yeah.
Well, you're going to get a theme from today. A lot of what is in this update is really honoring SMITE and what is SMITE. So we've got this brand new map that is Greco-Roman themed. We've got Olympus, the mountain of Olympus, facing off against the Beast's Lair, like a mythical beast's cavern on the Chaos side. And we draw a lot of inspiration on this map from our older maps, so the Season 2, 3, 4 map, or even the closed beta map. But what you'll see across this whole update and across the God release and other things is that we're trying to really celebrate SMITE and do things that are really fitting to the SMITE game. So there's lots of call-outs to old content, lots of old faces being brought back, a lot of exciting things across this map. And, this map is just gorgeous, completely redone. What we're looking at over here is the solo side of the map. Who's that?
Who is that? Yeah, that's new. That looks like some living environment right there. An angry environment, I think?
He's coming right for its Oscar.
So along with this new map, we're also going to have a brand new Fire Giant character model.
That's true, because y'all have seen Surtur is coming to SMITE, and we'll talk about that a little later. But, with him leaving the Fire Giant pit, we needed somebody scary to come and replace him, and they found a good guy for the job.
Yeah, so we've got the first big beat of this map is the new Fire Giant. Important thing to note is that this Conquest map is going to be a living Conquest map, as it has been in our previous years. With each season, we're going to see big updates to the Conquest map. We're going to see meaningful changes to the map's layout. So that means we want to see new pathing, new jungle paths, new lane shapes each season. That's going to change. We're going to see map-wide environment art updates. So we're going to have new themes for the future seasons. We're going to have changes across the map to fit with those themes.
Yeah.
And we're also going to have new mechanics, new objectives, and balance changes for every season this year.
Yeah, which is entirely incredible. That is, with 4 season changes in year 10, that means that the map is going to get a breath of life for each of those new seasons 4 times this year, which is it's just mind-blowing, honestly. So what an incredible thing. So, I mean, let's keep going. What else about this map is new? Because there are so many new things.
Well, before we get into any of the specifics, you can just see here looking at the mini map, the shape,
True.
the geometry, the pathing, very different. One of our goals for this map was to make sure you just glance at the mini map and you go, whoa, this feels like a new map.
Yeah, of course.
You can see some really unique changes to shapes and pathing. If you look at any one specific part of the map, you look at the jungle, you see 2 speed buffs. Interesting. You look over at the duo lane, you see a lot of new shapes, new paths, a new contestable camp there. You look at solo lane, you see other changes like that. Fire Giant and Gold Fury now spawn in the center of their pits, allowing for a full 360-degree combat encounter, as opposed to being backed up against the wall. That gives you a lot more strategic angles to defend and attack from.
Yeah.
So a lot of changes just in general, as well as you can see, the completely brand new art set from the ground up, everything redone in a more serious, I'd say, little more realistic tone, really leaning into that ancient mythology and having a more architectured order side, as is paired with Mount Olympus, kind of getting into the more wild mythical beast side, which is kind of like the enemies of Olympus, led by Surtur and maybe some other characters we'll learn about later in the year.
Ooh.
Like you mentioned,
Secrets.
it's all kind of themed and tied together to that season of the monsters, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, just an incredible amount of changes. Like, let me be clear. This is a completely new map. This isn't Conquest with a coat of paint. They have redone the map to make it brand new for year 10. So there are so many changes to talk about that, again, let's just dive in. Where do you want to start?
Let's see. So Fire Giant was the first change. He's got a completely new character model, new position. His abilities are remaining the same. We wanted to make sure we made that clear. That's just a very strong formula for Smite. It works really well. It's something we're open to looking into the future, but he's got the same attacks as players will be used to.
Got it.
There are some balance changes associated with him. An important thing to note is that his health scaling is increasing over time, so he can be tankier in the late game.
Yeah.
We've had some discussion about the recent map where he's a little too easy to take in the late game, and he's also going to now take less damage from critical strikes, which is a
Yeah.
very important thing for hunter
It's
balance.
pretty strong there.
True. A little less burst on with those hunters. So, all right. So how about the pyro?
Yeah, we have a couple important mechanical changes to the Pyromancer. First of all, as you can see here, there is now no traditional mid harpies. They instead have a spawn point here at the Pyromancer spawn.
Got it.
So there are effectively some mid harpies in the early game.
Yeah.
But that actually gets repurposed into the Pyromancer pit, which is now moved out of the Fire Giant pit. So they're a little bit more separated. It's a little bit harder to ward and just take both objectives at once.
Yeah.
That's also mirrored on the other side with the other mid-harpy camps that's going to turn into the oracles.
Got it.
So early game, instead of having more symmetrical mid harpies for the mid lane, you have a smaller mid harpy camp on the Oracle side and a bigger mid harpy camp that's worth more golden experience on the Pyromancer side. So you don't really want to just do that symmetrical clear anymore. You want to prioritize that Pyromancer side if you can clear that over your opponent, or you want to contest them at both of them and win those contests.
Yeah.
One of the main goals of this map was to make there be more opportunities for gaining your advantage in the early game and make those through unique objectives, not
Got it.
just direct snowballing.
Okay. I like that. Always good to have opportunities to get your team ahead, but based on merit of controlling a part of the map, you know, putting in that effort instead of just, oh, well, I have 2 more farms, so I'm going to slowly snowball up and up and up and up. So I love to see that kind of stuff.
And
So,
one important note
Please.
as well, because we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but
Yeah.
with all of these kind of new features showing up, one thing that was important were old features that were going to be taken away. Because now starting with a whole new Conquest map,
Of course.
it's important that we don't just keep building on and on. We just keep adding features and mechanics that kind of just overbloat and make it really hard to digest for each player, old and new, what exactly is going on. So for this Conquest map, we
Yeah.
are going to be removing several different objectives from the obelisks that we saw as a staple to this full year,
Yeah.
the Naga camps, the trebuchets, the enhanced buffs. But that doesn't mean we might not add anything back. Again, we want to just start with a strong foundation and build up from there. You're going to see a whole bunch of new stuff in this
I was
map.
about to say, yeah, with all the seasonal changes. So good to know. Some things are definitely going away. The obelisks have been around for a while, but I'll be interested to see some new things rotate in, especially as we keep moving through the famous year 10. So I guess, you know, we just walked by it in lane a little bit. Let's talk about those things floating in front of the towers. What were those? Look like shields.
Yeah, this is a new mechanic that's going to be present in all 3 lanes on the tier 1 towers. These are tower bastions. So these are positioned in a place that even melee characters could take them, and ranged characters can take them relatively safely outside the tower radius.
Yeah.
And they are a different way for you to gain advantage in your lane. So if you're, you know, a lot of times in Smite Conquest, if you had cleared your jungle and you'd push your wave, your opponent would just kind of like wait you out or stand there or run away. So this just gives you another thing you can do to gain that advantage in the lane. And if you destroy those bastions, you're going to significantly weaken the tower in that lane.
Okay, got it. So if they're, you know, if it's early on and you don't really have the damage or the pressure to get in under that tower, you still have something that you can work on if you are providing more pressure in the lane.
Right, and this will be a way. So they're going to be providing the tower with additional damage mitigation. So those towers are going to be much harder to kill until you kill the bastions. So you don't want to kill those first.
Okay.
You also get a small gold reward when you do kill them. So
Correct.
It's not like you're just doing that to weaken the towers. You're kind of incentivized to push that advantage. There you go. You get that 50 gold, and you can utilize that one. For the 2 bastions, you're gonna get the 100 gold. They don't respawn or anything, so it's a one-time bonus. Weakening the towers, giving you a bonus, letting you kind of express your skill in that lane against your opponents.
And a very interesting thing about them is they can be hit by abilities, which was demonstrated here in the video that is intended. So they're not so much towers themselves, they're more like totems or jungle camps, right?
Yeah.
So they can be hit by all sources of damage, gives you a lot more ways to attack them even from range. Your jungler can rotate through and help you clear them, get a gold bonus for themselves and for you. Just some new lane dynamics.
That's awesome. And you know, you mentioned this a second ago, the totem. I hear the totem's getting some changes.
Yes, the totem has been changed as well. We're now just referring to it as the totem because it has been re-arted to match the map's art style.
Got it. Bye-bye, Ku.
The Hawaiian god Ku will be missed. So it's a very interesting, ornate, skeletal totem now.
Very spooky.
Has similar features as before. As you attack it, it takes damage and the meter goes up, and whoever reaches the top claims it first. But important thing to note is that while you are in the area, it grants you a buff that gives you increased damage dealt to everything around you. To anything you deal, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So while you're in the area, you get a buff that makes you deal more damage to everyone. So what does that mean? A lot more high-risk, high-reward engagements between solo lane.
Yeah, I was about to say.
No longer can you just kind of ignore each other and take some splash damage while you're fighting that totem. You'll be able to really put the hurting on each other in that totem area.
If they're fighting it and you catch them from behind, you're really putting a wallop in. Like, they're noticing that they are losing health and debating if it's worth staying for the
And the totem, as you can see, has been relocated into the lane. So you can
Yeah.
even leverage that damage boost to help you clear wave or box your opponent. You can even you could stand in the totem range and intentionally not clear the totem to kind of leverage the damage boost and box them out. Just as we said earlier, we're trying to add a lot more unique ways for skill expression in the early game for each lane. So mid lane has a completely new side harpy rotation and new objectives to worry about. Solo lane has this very different change to totem. And then another change that's here in the solo lane, it also is mirrored over to the duo lane, is a new concept of stacking buffs, is what we're calling them.
Okay.
So there's a new contestable stacking buff here that when you kill this, you can actually get this buff and it can stack with any other jungle buff. Sorry, I'm going a little off script here. It was right here in front of me.
It made a lot of sense.
We're flowing through the map.
We're
you know,
going through the location.
it's a natural flow. We're all right. But the important thing to note is, like, this isn't classic Conquest or Onslaught. You can't just stack every jungle buff in the game, but you can stack the stacking buffs.
Okay.
So traditional jungle buffs will still work as is. You can only have one of them, but the 2 contestable ones, so either the one on the solo lane or the duo lane, can be stacked, and you can have both at the same time.
And so what does the stacking buff do? Is it just extend the duration of your buff, or what's going on there?
It's got a completely new effect. The one on the solo lane side is a cooldown reduction buff.
That's the silver buff. There will be a base amount of cooldown reduction that actually scales with you per level. And obviously, there was a cooldown component on the previous blue buff. That's actually going to be shifted off onto the silver buff.
Right, so now solo laners aren't going to have that cooldown reduction for free. They're going to have to fight for it.
Although there is some other stuff going on later that we're going to come back to. So if you're listening to this and you're upset about that cooldown reduction, you think it's just contestable, just give us a little bit, maybe a few hours, and we'll get to Caleb.
Warrior fans will be
Warriors
be
fans
pleased.
will
And there's also one here over on the duo lane. This one gives a shield when picked up and protections.
Got it. So kind of a good support pickup, maybe, to help you dive in and frontline a little better.
Exactly. So The Gold Fury, which we're now positioned at, no major changes to them.
Okay.
They've still got the rotation, the multiple different Furies. The main change is the shape to the arena.
Yeah.
But we should go back to the Pyromancer now that that spawned. That was one we had to delay briefly for the flow of the map.
All right, so what's going on with the Pyromancer then?
All right, so the Pyromancer has a brand new reward for defeating it, which, the speed buff, that's nice. It felt good, but we wanted to spice it up a little bit. There was a lot of discussion about how can we make this a little bit more different, a little bit more unique. And what we've got here now is the Runic Bomb, which can be picked up by anyone on the team who gets the last hit of the Pyromancer. It puts a new ability in your consumable slot.
Yeah, you can see it right there.
Oh, that's crazy.
And it then gives you a ground target area effect detonating bomb that you can place, which does physical damage and applies a big knock-up to God, or deals a significant amount of damage to structures and debuffs their attack speed. So you can use this as a way to push the siege.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can use it.
It's definitely potent.
Right, it does a
Yeah.
big damage, and then it slows the attack speed. So you can use this bomb even in the late game to help break through those difficult Phoenix pushes. You can leverage it in the early game to get a really strong push down one lane. Just a very new dynamic from the Pyromancer.
It seems like it. And correct me if I'm wrong, too, but the towers and the Phoenixes have actually lost a little bit of health, haven't they?
Yeah, that's correct. Let's see, where's my numbers here? So we did decrease the base max health of Tier 1 towers and Tier 2 towers and Phoenixes.
So, yeah,
All
across
of
the
them,
board.
right.
Yeah, which I guess for the Tier 1s especially, they have that extra stat boost, so that makes sense. And it'll make sieging these a little easier. You can't turtle quite as hard.
Well, last season we did buff their damage output a
Yeah.
good bit. We wanted to make them threatening, but we don't want them to just be sitting there too long through very long engagements.
Got it.
Sieging has always been something that a lot of players can struggle with.
Yeah.
So as part of it's good tie-in to the Runic Bomb. We wanted to give more opportunities for ways to break through sieges and avoid stalemates.
Yeah.
The Enhanced Fire Giant being one of the most well-known ways to do that. That's going to still be on this map. But now the slightly decreased tower health, Tower Bastions mechanic, as well as the Runic Bomb be additional ways to help your siege.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The map is just beautiful. I also saw a sea monster out there, so that's
Was there one?
yeah, no swimming, I guess. Not
Yeah, and those of you who remember the Season 2 map might remember the beach. A lot of people wanted the beach to come back. We have this
looks so
amazing
good.
It does look so
statue
good.
of like a
Hey,
Greek
crowd
hero.
from there.
Oh, we should have played the Kepri skin for this
Oh my
part. Cue the music, yeah.
But yeah, cool. So all right, let's wander back into the jungle. So what are unleashed jungle camps?
Whew, this is a big one.
yeah,
This is a big
massive.
one.
This is a big one,
All right,
Harrison.
we're diving in then.
Yeah, so what we've got here, we talked about the lanes and a lot of the objectives, but how about jungling? Or how about your gameplay moment to moment? How is that going to change in the new map? We wanted to
big.
find an interesting mechanical change that's going to affect everyone in every role.
Yeah.
What you can now do
Oh, look at that.
is you can pull jungle camps anywhere you want.
Anywhere you
Asterisks.
want.
There are a
Asterisks,
few
asterisks,
disclaimers,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Side effects may include. So they will de-aggro after a certain amount of time if you get too far away from them or don't attack them.
Yeah.
They can be re-aggroed. You can see the details on that in the patch notes.
Bye.
They also, you cannot pull enemy jungle camps. You can't run into the enemy side and pull
Drag
all
it
their
back
camps
home.
back to your side.
Okay.
So
or
if
the
you
contestable ones as well.
Right,
'cause
or the
that could be too
contestable
strong.
one. So only allied camps can you pull out
Got
of the
it.
location. But when pulled out of the location, you can use that to group camps up. You can use that to deliver buffs to your laners without them having
Yeah.
to go places.
Yeah.
It gives a lot of new. It gives what we've seen mostly in our playtesting. It gives junglers some really interesting ways to min-max their clear. If you can pull camps really effectively and clear them all together, it gives supports some new roles, and then they can go pull buffs and deliver them to lanes.
That's crazy.
And the jungler can also kind of do that as well.
Also, very curious to see how the start of the game is going to start fleshing out because there's so many different ways you can do this
Possibilities.
now.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the initial spawn order of operations is going to be listed in the patch notes, and the order of things is going to change, right? We've got different things in different places. We've got speed buff. We get to all these, I guess, over time, but the start of the map is definitely going to change, and one of the ways that's going to change the most is now we can have different players have collaborative elements of pulling their camps together, clearing together, and then going to their lane or whatever order they find to be most efficient. So
Yeah.
really excited to see people get into PTS and start trying to figure that puzzle out.
I think one of my favorite. I mean, there's so much too. There's so much nuance in the roaming jungle.
Of
camps
course,
and the
yeah.
unleashed ones. But one of my favorite parts is like as a mid laner, I no longer have to like run to my to the jungle trying to clear my red buff. They can't be like, hey, I cleared it. I'm sorry you didn't get here in time. They can now bring it towards me.
Yeah, or they can at least meet you halfway. You know.
I'll make some effort. You got to make some effort.
Which
like
some
don't
junglers
tell
still
me.
won't. You know they won't.
Oh no.
100%.
But you know the good ones will be like, hey, it's by your tower. You can just go back and get it when you want. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So.
And there's a couple other specific rules to make sure that things stay balanced. So lane minions and jungle camps, unleashed jungle camps will ignore each other. You can't pull those into lanes to kind of deny lanes or slow down lanes or help you clear towers or anything like that. Towers will attack them though, so you could use that if your jungle clear is especially not so good. But you will get a gold penalty for doing that, just like if you had a last hit that you missed.
I was seeing something.
Say, what's going on here? Are you being
I got ahead of
pursued?
myself a little bit when I said roaming because this is the other feature that's there. From the dead back harpy camp spawns, you can actually get roaming harpies that actually going to be moving around that camp to kind of give you a kind of a dynamic experience inside the jungle while those back harpies are down.
Oh, that's incredible. So you can literally just be roaming through on your clear and be like, oh, there's a harpy. I guess I'll just grab that while I'm here.
And there's another one.
Right, so experimenting with roaming camps is something we're really excited about. This is kind of the initial attempt at it, right? And we're something we can definitely play with as we go through the seasons in the future. Always something we've discussed. So these roaming harpies will spawn from the back harpy camp, and they will path around that camp in a scripted path. So you can predict where they're going to be. You can pay attention to the mini map. There as indicators on up to 3 of them can spawn, and the back harpy. So all of them can be spawned at once. You can actually sweep through and scoop up 6 harpies all at once if you plan it perfectly.
If you, there's, like you said, so much nuance to this. And one thing I want to double back to a little bit is, aren't the buff timers for those the like unleashed jungle camps? Isn't there some new rules about what those buff timers look like?
Yeah, good point. Since you can move them into other locations now, we wanted to add some more forgiving elements there. So
super helpful.
yeah, now buff camp. I mean, the TLDR is that buff camps will stay on the ground longer than they did before.
Ooh.
Which everyone I know watching this show, everyone has been 1 foot away from a jungle buff before it goes away, right?
Like once a day.
So now it's going to be longer. That's going to happen less. But the important thing to note is that they will eventually relocate back to their spawn point if left there for too long.
Right. So this is an unleashed red buff camp that's been killed far away from the camp, and it's going to stay there for a small period of time, and then afterwards it'll actually relocate back to the normal red camp spawn. So there it is.
And still stay there for an even longer period of time. So it's a very long time to pick that buff up. You're generally not gonna miss it entirely ever. You might have to go back to the location or something like that, but you're not gonna miss it.
Yeah, I mean that's super handy because, like you said, you know, your jungler's like, hey, couldn't drag it out to you, dropped it in the area. You're like, cool, I'll go get it. You start an engage, you don't get back there right away. This really gives you that leniency to be like, all right, cool, engage is over. I'm gonna go step back and get my buff. So super cool to hear.
Right.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, we got to keep going. We've talked about roaming camps. We've talked about stacking buffs. How about Cyclops and anything? Cool? I hear we got some Cyclops.
Another throwback.
Another throwback.
One of my favorites. I'm sure our jungler here has passed one or two of them. And
around.
Someone probably saw them. People watching the
There we
show.
go.
So there are these treasure chests hidden in the jungle. Notice they don't have mini-map icons.
True.
But they do have a few set spawn locations, and they can spawn throughout the jungle. When you destroy one, you'll get a buffing area that gives you movement speed.
Huh.
So, and some gold.
Yeah.
Now, as you kill more of those, there might be a little surprise waiting for you.
Nice. What good timing.
I know, right?
Perfect.
So on the third one that you destroy, a Cyclops rogue will ambush you, who's also going for the gold. Will ambush you and attack you out of the chest. And these are Cyclops characters that were, old characters that used to be on the map a long time ago. We wanted to, like I said, we tried to find some ways to hide some old Easter eggs and some fun stuff from the early days of Smite. So the Cyclops character will pop out of the chest and will chase you and fight you, and then therefore he'll be worth a little bit more than the normal one, and you can reposition that buffing area to be in a more convenient location.
Yeah.
So we're treasure hunting.
I was about to say, yeah, it's literally a treasure hunt because they're hidden around the map. So that's cool, though. You got a little somebody else is treasure hunting alongside you and isn't happy that you're doing better than them.
I was gonna say the one last spin on this as well is that this is not just a conquest mode feature. The rogues are going to be appearing on multiple of the different game maps.
Now the other maps are smaller, so they're going to be easier to find, which is okay. We actually placed them in what we thought were pretty obvious locations, locations you're really likely to path by during a normal jungle rotation.
Yeah.
And in the other maps that are smaller, more open, they'll be very obvious, right? So they're essentially just a new contestable mechanic for those other maps. And in those other maps, it's also pretty interesting because that speed buff could be really valuable in those other maps because you have a lot more players in a lot closer area that can use it, right? So you can run into it more frequently. If you manage to, get it in arena, your whole team pretty much has that effect very often.
Yeah.
Whereas in Conquest, it's going to be used more by your support, your jungler who's rotating, maybe someone's trying to get back to base.
A roving gank, just
right.
all kinds of,
Exactly. So it's a little bit more specific in its application in Conquest, but in the other game modes, it can be a very big team-wide effect.
That's super cool. Well, as the treasure hunt continues, we've talked about mid harpies and back harpies, but what about some of the buffs? Just in general, what changes have come to the buffs across the map beyond just their timers and being able to drag them around?
Let's see. So we do have a couple changes to buffs. The purple buff is no longer going to be have the effect that makes you immune or hit into minions and stuff like that.
Minion aggro components.
Yeah, so it's no longer going to have that. It is still going to have a dot damage that it applies to you as its special ability effect. It is now going to be more focused on being a hunter buff as well. So we've changed it back to the purple buff from the void buff. The mini-map icon is now a sword instead of a shield. And the buff now is going to have 10% attack speed and increased magical basic attack damage and physical basic attack damage. So it is really more of a specific hunter buff.
Yeah.
So similar visuals because it's still the purple buff, purple monster, and love, but it is a very different design, more designed for hunters.
Got it.
Especially, with the green buff's existence nowadays.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Oh, we've got a treasure chest.
Oh, let's see.
Will the Cyclops Rogue be in this one?
This was the second one.
Was it? No, you have to take 3 on the same side.
Where are we right now? There. Okay, right.
We've been invading a lot of them.
Oh, okay.
So
there we go. So that's the second one on
this side.
So it's based on the side. That's good to know, though.
And if you notice as well, which we saw at the beginning, they're actually symmetrically opposite on each team. So that way, there's not one, you can actually kind of tell where the enemy's one is if you found yours, but also 2, it doesn't feel like a kind of a disadvantage that one is like in a more favorable location versus the other.
Got it.
Right, Order and Chaos always will have the same number of them in the same spots.
Cool. Well, let's continue down the buff path. So what about red buff? Is that any changes to red buff?
Red buff is gonna be decreased health. That's an important one. So there's a lot of balance changes as people will read in the patch notes. We're not gonna go over every single one line by line. There's a lot of small changes. The short explanation is that new map, different number of camps and spaced out in different places. So in general, we wanted to keep kind of the total golden experience pacing on this map feeling pretty similar to the way it was last year, but it's very different in its allocation across the map. So in order to balance that, there's small changes to the golden XP rewards of a lot of different jungle camps, as well as the lane minions, things like that. Because in general, things are a little bit more spread out, a little bit harder to get, actually. So things are generally worth a little bit more. And we've also done some very key buffs and nerfs to specific, damage outputs and health. So like one of the ones that is important here is the buff holder of the red buff getting decreased health. Help make sure mages can clear it without taking too much damage from that a special ability, which also wait, did we already nerf that? We already nerfed that once, right? I don't think that's getting nerfed again. The berserk ability when that red buff is at low health.
Yeah, that did hurt.
That's already been nerfed, but we're nerfing the total health of it a little bit more.
Got it. So with a lot of these buffs, like you said, if you want all of the information, check the update notes. That'll have, because things have changed. Health, experience, gold, the number of monsters in a camp. A lot of that's cool, but you can read that on the notes. I think another big notable change with the buff camps is actually the speed buff, right? That definitely had a change as to where it was split into 2 camps. There's 2 speed buffs now, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so why 2 speed buffs instead of just the 1?
Well, more speed.
More speed. Hadn't thought about that. I'm sorry I asked.
I think one of the that's definitely going to be important is more speed.
Yeah,
but also
more speed.
just putting on both sides of the map kind of now changes the onus for the assassin, the jungler to, well, not always assassin, right? The jungler to kind of choose which route they want to take, right? They can prioritize the left one or the right one first, and then kind of stack up and go for their other speed buff, or kind of change the buff time that you're going to get it. And that way, it's not always going to be deterministic that the jungler is going to be focusing one side of the map always, because that happens to be where their speed buff is.
Got it.
Now it's going to be a little bit more of a difference. It's going to be harder to read the enemy jungler, and you can now change your own play patterns to fit your own desires.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or even to match the
skill
role of the
expression.
character you're playing. That makes sense. Because, you know,
Right.
it could be like, well, I'm playing somebody who's a little more, I'm playing an assassin, so I'd prefer to start on this side for an early gank and for easier clear of these camps. As to where if you're playing somebody a little tankier, more of a warrior, you'd start on the other side because that gives you the chance to interfere with the... It's just, I like that. A different ebb and flow, and kind of makes you unreadable, especially as we kick off through PTS in the beginning of the season as people are learning the routes.
So this buff is no longer going to have a crowd control function on it, but it is going to be. We have another chest. Let's see.
There
There
we
he
go. So that's the
is.
third one on your side, and we spawn the Cyclops thief. That
This
you
is
can
definitely the
bring wherever you
coolest
want.
looking Cyclops, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the only reason why we designed the mechanic in this way, but yeah,
Once
that
it
one's really cool.
builds,
So now you've got
drops
the
his buff.
speed buff location right by your lane there.
Oh, okay.
And
so
that'll
you can
persist for
kinda-
a while, and you can go back and use it anytime.
That's really cool. You can drag them to the location. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, man, we have talked about so much with this map. Obviously, there's a lot of numbers. There are a lot of things that have changed. And
There is a lot of
scaling.
numbers on those
So many
notes.
numbers.
We wanted
Yeah.
to make sure we provided everything for documentation reasons and for people to analyze fully. But yeah, we're not going to talk about all that right
Yeah,
now.
it would take us. This would be a 7-hour event. We'd have to have a break and popcorn and just a whole thing. So if you want to see all of that, make sure to check out those update notes
No
because
popcorn?
painstaking.
Could go
not
for some
here, it's in the back.
popcorn.
But painstaking detail, you will see everything. You can see how the lane minions are scaling now every 3 minutes or whatever. Like, all the information is there. But before we leave this map, is there anything else that y'all would like to highlight or anything else that you'd want to say?
Let's see, a couple more small changes. Green buff has been changed in its location. It's very close to mid lane now.
Yep, it's also no longer going to be freezing your ally buffs that they have on them. So you can see that's kind of a theme for a lot of these different jungle camps. We've lost the AI aggro component. We've lost the freezing component. We've lost the cooldown on blue, but that was shifted between the silver, and we've got the green buffs.
A lot of give and take
A lot of give and take.
for
Yeah.
various specific reasons. Also, we have the Tree Folk character holding the green buff now too, which is very appropriate and a very cool character.
Very cool character. I was
We
about to say.
also have the blue buff, as we called out a little bit earlier when we were talking about the solo lane. Blue buff is no longer going to give cooldown reduction, just mana.
Yeah.
So that's going to make that contestable buff especially valuable. It's going to make warrior builds have to consider their changes, and when we get to later in the patch, we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, it also has an aggro component so that when you do hit an enemy god, you also regen some of your mana. So it's kind of like a little spiced up a little bit.
Now, as y'all continue talking, one more thing I want to see as y'all put in the final notes is, can we see the fountains? I'm sure the fountains changed in this. I want to see the 2 fountains.
Oh, the
Have we not
bases.
been to the bases?
I don't think we have.
The bases are a huge environmental change. I'm glad you called them out. They're
at that.
interior
Yeah,
spaces
it's
now.
You're in a building.
And they're high enough up that any flying god is not going to get in the way, which that's one of the reasons why we picked Ratatoskr as our guide to the map, because it's also very lore fitting and because he has some of the
like
best
that,
air
yeah.
control, and we can really take our time and appreciate up there. But both bases have interior structures now. It feels so cool to
Oh,
enter into the
man.
enemy's base.
Oh.
Some
It's
of these details I haven't even
so
noted. That's
much
beautiful.
intricate
crazy.
artistic detail. Yeah, the statues of Argus called out.
I actually didn't notice that until now. That's awesome.
Statues of our new
What is-
frog friend.
What?
That
You
is
go away
so
for holiday
cool.
and suddenly everything just like, wow.
Yeah,
Yes,
I know, right?
shout out to the DKO crew. They have a frog friend. We have
Oh.
really cool windows into the
Yeah,
floor,
like
glass
see-through
floors
floors.
that you can see through.
Environment team absolutely killing it.
Always
Yeah.
knocking it out of the park. I mean, again, this is an entirely new map. Yeah, let's rush over and see if we can sneak into the other side, the enemy base, real quick. But this
Ratatoskr,
it's
he
just.
can do it.
Oh, I know
Still got
Ratatoskr can.
We
Sneaky
still have
little
the base
squirrel.
gates. Yeah, that's good to note. Glad we
But
can
yeah, and I like how the base gates. I saw this earlier, but the base gates obviously reflect the side of the map they're on. On that side, they're more built. They're established. They're regal. And on this side, they're a little more like big stone slabs
Oh,
that are
man.
just sliding
So
out
the
of the way.
interior of the chaos base is the mythical beast cave. As you can see that giant skull on the top, and then
More
more
ominous.
Yeah, like
skulls and bones in here, and an amber fossilized floor,
Oh,
and
yeah.
some updates to the Chaos Titan here. He was very regal and proper in his Tiamat base, and he's gone a little bit more feral and
Oh, love
dark
it.
Oh yeah.
to match his new base.
And then yeah, the amber skull below the floor. That's incredible. Oh man.
Yeah, the bases, I'm glad we saved those for last because they're really like there's so much cool stuff on this map. The solo lane exterior space and dual lane exterior space, the lava fields and the beach are beautiful. the Order and Chaos base, though, probably my favorite part of the whole map. Like, gives you such a unique feel when you spawn into your base, when you leave it out into the jungle and out into your lane to fight, and when you're sieging. And it's just gorgeous.
And like you said at the very beginning, kind of harkens back to like what season 0, like the oldest
Closed
of the
beta
map.
was the
Closed
only
beta,
ones you could go
exactly. It was
inside. Yeah, it
interior.
was back in closed beta,
I
which
definitely got some of the nostalgia vibes when we first loaded.
a lot of people might have forgotten about too. But we had the classic conquest
Yeah,
event this year,
exactly.
so
Brought that
little
back.
reminder. But yeah, overall, just feels and looks really cool. We have new tower art, which you might have noticed. These are completely new models.
Man, just again, the amount of changes, it's a book. It's a phone book. You're really going to have to sit there and read through it. So obviously, though, make sure to queue in, especially in PTS. Queue in and just walk around the map. Take it all in. Soak in the sights. You know, play Apollo and fly around the map as much as you can. Just super exciting stuff. Well, yeah, is there anything else before we exit the new conquest
One
map?
really important balance change. There's a couple other small things about respawn timers and base doors. We can you can read about those in the patch notes. And
Got it.
the initial timer, we lengthened a little bit of the time at the beginning of the match so people have time to prepare on the new map.
Cool.
But an really important thing to note is that Hand of the Gods
Oh, yeah, that's a
consumable
big one.
is going to be removed.
Whoa.
This was causing some contention at the pro level about being mandatory and forcing very linear strategies that required you to go certain places, certain times. It just really conflicted with a lot of our goals with unleashed camps and opening up the starts and creating a lot more flexibility and more skill expression. So that item's gone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
And with Invader's Curse as well, we have like more mechanisms to make sure that you feel safer on your side of the map.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, cool.
We could talk about
Yeah,
this
we could
map
talk
all
about
day
it
and
all
find
day.
more
Yeah.
We have so
interesting
many
details.
things.
There was some callbacks to old assets hidden across the map. There's a lot of mythological details and callbacks to our community and to the game throughout the map. So really, going to be excited to see people explore that on their own. But
Yeah, for those of you who have been here for the long ride, tweet at us, take screenshots and compare and show us all these secrets that you find, because it really is, this map is a testament to 10 years of an incredible game with an incredible community, and it's just the beginning of what we have to talk about today. So super excited for it, but unfortunately, we got to keep moving. There's so many things
and we
to
have
talk
way more.
about.
We have way more stuff to talk about,
Way
right? And a
more
lot of
stuff.
stuff that's really exciting. So I'm excited to get into this next section.
All right, cool. Well, how about we move on to the next section then? We got some ranked stuff coming up. So what do we got in the world of ranked stuff we got to talk about?
Well, we have one really big rank change.
One really big rank change. All right,
We
what
have
is
more rank changes, but one that's really big, and that is that all ranked modes are going to be full crossplay
it?
in
Okay,
year
whoa.
10.
Whoa.
They're also going to be hard reset, which is very important. I think a lot of the friction in crossplay came from merging people of different skills, different play styles.
Yeah.
But with a hard reset, everyone starts at the
that
same
spot,
starting point,
yeah.
right? So from day one of 10-1 ranked, you can have console players and PC players playing together, playing against each other on every team.
That's crazy.
And we'll see who can rise to the top.
All the way, yeah.
Maybe some players who are used to being masters might have a harder time getting there in the new season. Maybe they will prove us wrong and the console players shall reign supreme.
Yeah.
Really, anything is
Yeah.
possible.
That's just huge. So
Yeah.
super excited to see that.
So some important additional notes about that. I don't want to undermine how big of a change this is, right?
Yeah,
We know it's
no,
very
please,
important.
continue.
So we've got a lot of advocates on the Olympians squad, as well as from influencers and other pro players who are interested in this. It really expands the overall matchmaking pool of ranked by a huge amount.
Yeah.
That's so
The
important.
console ranked scene is large. So that gives more players the opportunity to play with the best of the best if they can get their MMR up high enough to play with them.
Yeah.
It also gives a larger casual pool of players to make sure those matches are as close as possible.
Yeah.
And as they play, the MMR system will shake things out and move people to their appropriate places. So a lot of big effects that can have. And this is just, I think, something we've been wanting for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been wanting it internally, but we wanted to make sure we did it the right way at the right time, and this seemed to be the way that it all lined up.
Year 10 is the big kickoff. It's so many things. We're just going for it. We want to show more than anything that we're appreciative of the 10 years that we've had so far, and that it's only the beginning. It only gets bigger and bigger from here, really.
So then the other change is the God leaderboards.
Yeah.
People have had a hard time acquiring those top-level borders. And we've done some tinkering with the formula and the system and the numbers and things like that, and it was difficult to get that to balance out for all the different gods, that some that get tons of play, some that get much less play,
Yeah.
different modes. There was a lot of variability there. So we've kind of adjusted this system to be a lot more consistent, and that is just that based on your leaderboard position, that's what border you're going to get. So if you're
Okay.
the top 10 Thor player in the game, you're going to have a Master's Border.
Got it.
No matter where your rank is at, no matter what your individual Thor MMR is, you're going to get that Master's Border. And this is going to update dynamically. So if you're not playing that god for a while and people
Start
pass
playing
you,
fast,
you're
yeah.
going to get bumped down.
Got
right?
it.
So you have to be at the top for
Gotta
the
fight for
Masters,
it.
in that middle for the Diamond, the bottom of the leaderboard for Platinum, and every player who just meets the requirement gets that gold border. So even if you can't make it on the leaderboard, you can still earn that gold border, which you could show off in other, you could show off your console or your conquest ranked border in normal conquest.
Got it.
So you can say, I'm a ranked player.
Yeah,
big
I
deal,
flex.
it's like
I'm just here to practice and warm up.
Clumsy's genuine laugh at that, like little
Yeah,
cheeky
that was
impression
pure
I did,
joy.
whatever. Yeah, so that's just something for everyone to go out and achieve.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to have a skill expression part of it, but we also wanted something that just everyone could go out and achieve.
Awesome. Good to hear it. Well, the only other thing in the ranked area is that there are obviously ranked quest rewards, and you can read all about those on the patch notes. But, if you're playing and winning games, and they're there on the bottom of the screen, you'll be winning rewards. So, play to win, earn some cool rewards along the way, have a good time with it.
Also, as we have been doing now, the ranked skin will be available immediately.
Yeah, right away. So
Nice.
if you hit the requirement to earn the ranked skin, which is the Berserker Rama skin, then you got it right away.
A little shout out to the season 2 ranked was Berserker Uller.
Right, yeah.
So another little nostalgia, Berserker
little
Rama
throwback.
for year 10.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on into some normal game mode changes. How about it? So it looks like there's a lot of stuff, starting with the way the queue systems are working, it looks like.
Yeah, this is another big one.
Another big one.
We are changing normal queues back to be non-timed queues. Ranked
Okay.
queues will remain timed queues. So what that means is that these queues will no longer have a specific time for how long they're going to be.
The countdown
You're just
clock,
going to
got
queue
it.
them, and they're going to count up.
Got
And
it.
they'll pop whenever they're ready, and you will need to accept that queue pop. You won't be able to just decline for free,
Yeah.
like you used to be in the current mode. A lot of people will be familiar with the system from some
the past,
earlier years
yeah.
of Smite. The main advantages of this system, there's two. One is that multi-queue will get to return, which I know
Which
a
is
lot of
really
people are
nice.
excited about. So you
Yeah.
can queue for many modes at once and let the matchmaker sort it out where you want to go.
That's cool.
The other change that's really important about this is it gives us a lot more flexibility in what we can do with our matchmaking.
Yeah.
Time queues had a lot of advantages. I mean, they were nice because they're very consistent, but that also makes them very rigid. Time queues did not have a lot of flexibility for how we can match players together, how we want to do things. Time queues were when the queue pops, we make the best match we can.
Yep.
And if we make a bad match, we could say, well, we did our best. The time was up, and that's all we got. But with this type of matchmaking, we can really spend a lot more time, and we are going to spend a good bit of time this year making engineering level changes to that matchmaking system to continually update and experiment on this. So the important thing to note is that this is going to be ongoing. This is something we're going to be adjusting throughout the year. This is something that for the first week of 10.1 might be even different from week 2 or
Yeah.
10.2, etc. We want to test this, see how things go, and we're going to be very open with community, with their feedback. Maybe timed queues come back at some point, or in some
Sure.
maybe there's a better combination of way things to do that. But we really wanted in year 10 to actually be able to make more changes to how the matchmaking system works.
Yeah.
And in the very rigid timed queue system, we really can't do that. It's just a linear list of top to bottom at the time. No way to extend a little bit of time. Oh, we have 9 of 10 masters. Maybe we wait a little longer. Nope, time queues can't do that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You
it's
either
done.
wait the whole thing or you go.
Yeah.
So we have a lot more flexibility with the system. I'm really excited to see what we can do.
Awesome. Just an incredible amount of changes, honestly. I mean, the map is huge, the ranked mode, the queues, so many things, and we're just at the beginning of the show. We still have so much to talk about. And I'm actually joined here now by a familiar face, Titan Clumsy, and another familiar face who just wasn't here a second ago, Titan Lermy. So welcome aboard. So,
Hey.
I mean, we have more stuff to talk about. Balance is not over yet, and we're going to dive right into it, starting with some brand new additions to the item world, shard relics. So, take it away.
Yeah, so this we keep saying there's so much going into this year.
There is.
I'm not gonna keep going the preamble of what we just went through, but items. There's so much going on in the world of the gameplay.
Yeah.
What's gonna be happening in Smite? One of the biggest new things coming up are, like you said, shard relics. So what
Yeah.
are shard relics? You may have heard a similar term before, the vision shard, right? That's
Yeah.
the kind of free relic
Start
shard that
with
you
it,
got at the beginning.
Forget to throw a ward.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
You kind of got that for safety. But now we're kind of expanding on that system. So we
Got
have
it.
what are called shard relics. And these are basically different alternatives to the vision shard. So there's going to be 4 new shard relics that you can now choose from at the start of the game. So 4 new ones, still have vision shard. That's still going to be one of the 5th option.
Got it.
And
five
just like Vision Shard, you will now be able to have these from the beginning of the game and then upgrade them again at level 12.
Okay, that's cool.
And all of these shards are based off of the Season of Monsters, of course, which is what we're starting with.
Yeah.
So you'll notice a little bit of a theming here that we've got some monster parts, things that you might go and collect if you've slain a giant beast or something of that like. So they're really fun. I love using them a lot.
All of these shard relics, kind of almost other than Vision Shard, like we said, the monster theme, they're also designed to have kind of mini relic power plays, right? They have very similar goal in the sense that they're kind of 3-second buff debuff duration. And they have the same 120-second cooldowns. So we wanted to see what players can kind of do with one main relic that they can choose out, still just like normal. And then these little mini skill expression plays that you can do up to level 12. And then we're obviously definitely intentionally designed them to be replaceable later on. In fact, you'll see that there's a lot of similarities between these shard relics and maybe some of the stronger shards relics later on.
Okay, cool. I mean, do you want to go through
Yeah,
them?
Let's get started.
Let's start off. Obviously, we know about Vision, so it's the same thing. But how about a Horn Shard? There's a new one.
Yep, so Horn Shard, this is going to be your non-ultimate ability cooldowns are going to be reduced every few ticks up to 3 seconds. So kind of like that meditation idea that you had on one of the upgrades from the relic play. Now you're kind of getting those mini power plays for your cooldowns being reduced with the shard relic.
Yeah, right off the bat. Super cool. All right, so next up, let's try Claw Shard. How about that?
Ooh, Claw's a really fun one. Claw is bonus power, depending on whether you're magical or physical. So this also has a very, very small scaling component, mostly to kind of differentiate this one from a later shard that we're going to be talking about. But this one is really, really fun for if you have those big burst moments and you want to make them even burstier. This is the shard to get.
Yep. Another component with it as well, because you've also got a little bit of lifesteal and ability lifesteal.
Yeah.
You could also just use it to kind of sustain yourself back a little bit. If you just want to stay in lane for one more greedy play, right? You can go and use that. Also, just as a caveat, because we kind of didn't mention it, them being relics and items, they're going to be in all game modes. This is not just a conquest thing.
Exactly.
All game
New
modes.
gameplay for all of the different game modes.
Nice. All right, well, let's keep going down. It looks like we have a Wing Shard in here.
Yeah, so Wing Shard, quite simple. Movement speed, attack speed.
Makes sense.
Kind of like the mini Heavenly in a way. So you're probably going to be changing it later on. But yeah, it's just the movement speed, attack speed. A lot more attack speed than movement speed because we know how valuable that can be.
Yeah.
Cool, and it's looking like the last of the new ones is a Carapace Shard.
Yes,
Shell.
now this one is really, really fun to get on support specifically because this is, you activate it, and then you have the next 3 seconds to attack an enemy with a basic attack. And whoever you hit, their protections get stolen away and given to you. So not only are you making someone weaker, but you're also getting stronger.
The Dive Shard, all right.
Yeah.
So it's the most unique one kind of out of the other ones, other than Vision Shard, but it's also kind of got that Sunder gameplay a little bit, right? So you're doing a little bit of an active component to get a buff for yourself.
Cool. Well, those are the brand new shards, which I'm really excited. Again, just another way for... We're seeing it so many times. I'm getting overloaded with information, right? Because we're seeing so many ways for players to get in and express themselves.
That's what it's about.
Their play style. So I think that's really cool because, yeah, as somebody who plays a lot of Guardians, I'm going to be hopping in there like, all right, 120 seconds has passed or whatever. I can dive now.
Absolutely. And talking about the game modes thing, I think what's important there is that you can still get Vision Shard if you want to just be careful, ward your lane and stuff like that. But Vision Shard's also not that useful in the other game modes. Right, if you're in Arena and you have Vision Shard, sure, you can go ahead and use it. You can finally get that one warded stat at the end of the game, right? But now with these other Shard relics, you can make a little bit more interesting power plays.
Exactly. And like you said, Vision Shard is still useful. If I know I'm playing against aggro in the jungle, well, I may still get Vision Shard.
The important thing is if you don't get Vision Shards in Conquest, buy wards. Just buy wards.
Yeah, just buy wards.
Just buy wards. So, all right. Next up, it looks like there are some items that are going away in this season.
Yeah, it's like, let me get my water out because there's a whole bunch of
There's a whole bunch of them.
Get your S ready in chat.
Yeah, because it's been a long run. We've had a lot of new items and a lot of items, and with the beginning of the season, some items are seeing the curbs. So,
So
let's get into
a little
it.
bit of a preamble for this one.
All right.
Is the item store is changing quite heavily.
Oh yeah.
Quite heavily.
We've seen a lot of feedback. We're 10 years in. We've done a lot of things to the item store. This is going to be a pretty heavy shakeup. When we were evaluating how we wanted to do that shakeup, one of the important things is we didn't want to just constantly add new items. So sure, we've done some reworks and stuff in the past. Maybe we've even deleted a few items. But if we're going to just keep adding, if we want to keep going with Smite, these years keep going on, we're not going to just triple the item store. We understand how tough that can be for casual players as well, or even for invested players as we keep growing the passive text as we tend to do. But we'll get to that in a little bit as well. So one important thing is we wanted to reduce the kind of the item store bloat. What we kind of can call, and we're going to choose opportune places with for many different reasons that we chose these items, but if you like some of the effects that are being removed, you might see them on other items. You might see them come back again.
Yeah.
That's not to say they're going to be permanently removed forever, but we wanted to start with a new baseline, just like we talked about for the Conquest map.
Yeah.
We're starting with a new foundation. We're doing that here.
Gotta refresh. Call it spring cleaning if you have to. But we just with so many new things, we figured we'll pull some stuff out. But I know we say it like every single show, and we mean it every single show. We're listening to y'all, so we're gonna make these changes. We're proud of them. We think they're gonna be awesome. You might not agree with all of them. Tell us the ones you love, because we love hearing it. Tell us the ones you don't love or that you miss, because y'all's feedback is what drives us towards making these game-changing, great changes. So. The word change is getting garbled. So let's get into the items being removed. Let's start it off. What are we losing?
So there are 2 entire item trees that are being removed: the Imperial Helmet tree and the Enchanted Buckler tree.
Got it.
We can get into that a little bit as well on the patch notes as well. If you read alongside, we wanted to really reinforce tree identity, so we've relisted kind of the goals for each of the trees. But specifically talking about the removed items, I mean, we can go through each of these. We're talking about the Imperial Helmet tree, so Celestial Legion helm. Unfortunately, that's going to be removed.
Bye-bye.
Jade Emperor's crown, again, going along the entire tree, and Tyrannical Plate helm, although you're going to see a little bit of a callback to that one again. I'm not sure Celestial Legion helm or Jade Emperor's crown if we have any favorites here, but some people
I
really
have to
like.
be a little bit biased, you know. The Jade Emperor can't build his crown anymore.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
true,
you're wrong.
that's true.
We might need to address that. Yeah.
Man, we're just missing hats now. All right.
Shifter shields. That's one that we always kind of toe the line on. What's strong and what's not. That one's going to be removed.
Yeah.
Void shield, runic shield also. That's going to be gone. We're going to see different ways of kind of enhancing on magical protections and kind of combating those characters. So some of these themes again you might see come back. Oh no, Anchile, Ansile,
One of those.
Anchile. I'm
Ansile,
gonna
that's fine.
get annihilated, but it's one of those 3 or 4 or 5. That one's going to be removed. Void Stone, similar kind of vein as Void Shield.
Got
Some
it.
of these, we chose some of these items that'll have a little bit passive effects that have kind of not really worked out for us. Some hybrid items, and we're going to get to that in a second, so don't want to jump the gun too much.
Keep working on it, yeah.
Stone of Fall, again, in kind of that same tree with the Void Stone. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit. Ring of Hecate. That's going to be, I know it's kind of one of the more newer ones you could say, but with whether it's Bancroft or the Glyph, we've kind of seen that one not as valued as it used to be, and we're going to see some new options maybe coming in.
Yeah.
Got it.
Book of the Dead. That one's actually going to be removed. Stone Cutting Sword. I think this was one that was a little bit, I know some people really liked it. Its effects was honestly either going to be kind of penetration based, so you can get that kind of option elsewhere.
Yeah.
And again, allows us to reintroduce or add new items to flesh out the stores in more interesting ways. So I want to readdress that point again.
Yeah.
Blackthorn Hammer, so we're talking about the hybrid items again.
Yeah.
The Sledge, now that one was a tough one because we
That's a
still
shame.
love the idea of the Sledge. Right?
By the Sledge.
I know we're gonna, F's in chat for the Sledge, but
True.
Bulwark of Hope is gonna be removed. Hide of the Urchin. This one's interesting as well because Hide of the Urchin was one of the best items in the game, but it's also one that people just didn't want to buy, and it was extremely variant based on obviously kills and assists.
Very difficult to
So-
get that item fully stacked in
Yeah.
your normal Conquest game.
And if you're playing any arena and you're some sort of tank your character and you didn't grow this, you're objectively making the wrong decision, but it's not really the most fun one to do.
Yeah.
So again, making sure we incentivize fun gameplay. Witchblade, that one's going to be removed. Hide of the Nemean Lion in the 10th iteration of it, also being removed. Ichable, another fun item, but you're going to see some nod to this coming later on, so don't be too sad about that. Shadow Steel Shuriken is also going to be removed, and we're going to see some notions to that tree. And also alongside of these, so that's the last of the tier 3 items.
Yeah.
Alongside those, there's going to be many tier 2 items that have been removed that are, kind of connected to these tier 3 that weren't relevant anymore.
And
Yeah.
that may all sound very scary. Like, that's like half the item.
That's a lot of
store,
items.
right?
That's a lot of
We were
items.
joking about it. That's a lot.
like 20 plus tier 2s and 1s.
But again, remember, we've got some more stuff to talk about here in that new items are coming, changes to old
Reworked
items are
items,
coming
yeah.
as well. So, it's not going to feel so empty. Don't worry. We got you.
Yeah, I think we're kind of getting right into it.
Oh,
So
man.
it's gonna be the first category because we kind of broke this down into categories.
Yeah.
Hybrid items. We talked
Hybrid
about that a
items.
little bit. We talked about the shields. We talked about the hammers. We talked about the stones and the crowns a little bit. One big goal that's going to be going into this, year 10 season.
Yeah, the
season
big
1
1-0.
is the idea of these hybrid items. Hybrid items have historically always kind of been problem points.
Yeah.
Whether they're the tier 2 versions from before or the current tier 3s, where they have a mix between power, offensive stats, and defensive stats. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what makes them hybrid items. And they were either priced or statted accordingly to really purchase them kind of early on into the games. But that also made them really, really tough to balance, honestly, because that's
Of course.
what this is all about. You tend to see this in the solo lane if you're going to be talking about Conquest or for Warriors and Guardians. But with that design space, we found it to be very difficult to find when they're going to be healthy, when they're not going to be healthy. And I think a lot of you guys in chat and home playing Smite, you know which kinds of items we're talking about. They were always really tough, whether it's the Glad Shields, whether it's the stones against the crowns. So now we're going to be having to choose. Now you're going to have to be choosing between power on these hybrid items because they're no longer any hybrid items. You could just say they're basically removed. It's going to be defensive or offensive options. You're no longer going to have power and protections on the same item anymore. That's just not happening.
That's huge.
So with that in mind,
we have so many changes. Yeah, let's start talking about individual cases.
So you want to go into this one, Larry? We'll talk about the stones.
Yeah, let's start this. Actually, let's go a little bit more overarching here for a second. So because power is not sharing protections anymore.
Oh yeah, there's an interesting note here too.
A lot of switch ups that can happen. So if you're thinking the shields, the stones, they can be bought by any class.
Right.
Any class, physical or magical. So you could have Glad Shield Guardians. You could have
That's a really good
stone
point.
items on your warriors. It could be any of them. So that's the first very important thing that we should talk about here is that your build potential is opened much wider.
Yeah, a lot of diversity.
For those of you in the solo lane and the support role.
Yep, absolutely. So the first one of these being a Stone of Binding. We talked about the different hybrid items. We talked about, this one specifically was the last tier 2. Again, another design space that is a little bit, I know people almost ask for tier 2s to come back. It's not an easy place to go, especially like we talked about for hybrid items. You have to price them accordingly if they're either hyper efficient or just not bought at all. So Stone of Binding is going to be brought into a tier 3. It's going to be building off of Sage's Stone. And Druid Stone and Sage's Stone are going to be getting a little bit of a rework to their stats. So for Stone of Binding, it's not going to be getting a massively different passive. It's effectively still the same thing. It's just going to be scaling with your per level.
Got it. And
just a little bump.
Yeah, as we continue, I'm going to be the broken record here and say there are a lot of numbers with this new season.
Yeah.
I know that the update notes are terrifying because you could like unlock your mouse's scroll wheel, flick it down, and then go make a pizza before it would finish getting to the bottom. But like, if you want the numbers, they are all there. You can follow along with us and get the numbers because they'll be on the bottom of the screen as best they can. But we're not going to talk about every single number because we don't want. We wouldn't want to be here till we're 50, so just going to be the broken record there for a second. But yeah, let's keep moving on. We got some shields to talk about next in the hybrid or non-hybrid realm. So what about the shields?
Yeah, let's start talking about them. I guess best place to start would be which one do you want to start with?
So Gladiator Shield. I think we're going we're skipping a little bit, but Gladiator Shield is the one that's really
Okay.
Been a problem point again.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Because
So
there's tier 1s and 2s as well, but we're gonna get the T3s.
yeah, the important thing to talk about here is Gladiator Shield. So this is basically the same. It's getting a little bit of a caveat here because again, we're opening this up to a whole new realm of Smite characters being able to purchase Glad Shield.
Yeah.
So one thing that we have added to this is the ability to any consecutive hits that you do with this are going to have decreased damage. So your characters like your King Arthurs, your spammy characters, like the first thing that pops into my mind when I think about Glad Shield and a Guardian is Artio.
True.
You will be able to do a lot of spamming here, but again, remember, every consecutive hit that you're doing with this is going down quite a bit.
Yeah, all right.
Yep. And so that clause there, the subsequent damage reduction, you may have seen that before with Soul Reaver. You also will be seeing this added to several other items as well, like the Crusher and the Bluestone Tree. It's the same kind of idea while we're doing with Glad Shield. It's just been hyper efficient for some of the characters with multiple abilities, and it was kind of leading to be a little bit unfair. But going back a step now, I kind of threw you guys for a loop. We did that one first. I apologize, that's on me. But we have obviously the round shield and tower shield are going to be reworked their stats.
Yeah.
Berserker shield being the other shield here.
Yeah.
That's going to be getting a small shift as well. But the important thing here is it's no longer going to be class restricted.
Yeah.
Because I think hunters as well were restricted away from that one.
Yeah.
And now, with the big thing here is less about the passes. We did get a little bit of a change. Glad Shield, that one's probably more important than the Berserker Shield. But the fact that they no longer have power, that's what's really going to be important here. Because if you're buying Glad Shield or Berserker Shield for its power and hybrid stats in current Season 9, now you have to make a really big choice. You have to choose between the passive and the protections and the utility stats it can give you, or an actual power item.
Yeah.
So I feel like we revisit this 3 times. But the most important part is if you want to build hybrid, if you want to be both damaging offensive and defensive in your stats.
Yeah.
You now need to get a defensive item, which this is classified as now,
Yeah,
and
and an
an
offensive.
offensive item.
Exactly.
Which, you know, I like seeing before in some of the games where there's in the SPL, we started seeing some chalks with Transcendence, right? That's
Yeah.
the kind of gameplay that we're talking about.
Okay.
Is you get an offensive item, and it doesn't have to be Transcendence, but it could be whatever you may
Yeah,
want,
whatever
and
you
you
feels
get the
best.
defensive items to kind of round out
Exactly.
your stats.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that's the important stuff there with the shields. Going into the next category of items, same category, another tree,
Yeah, another tree.
which is the hammers.
Ooh, boy. I love the hammers so
yeah,
much.
you do, specifically this one.
Yeah, so Frostbound Hammer is getting a little bit of a change because again, it does have to do with that hybrid playstyle. So this one will actually have power, but again, to kind of go back to our point, items can have power and health, just not power and prots. Those two things
Got it.
gotta be staying separate here.
Exactly.
So this has power and health, and then MP5 and HP5, of course, and you'll see that kind of theme throughout the hammer tree. But we've also made a nice change to the passive
This
here.
one's passive. It's a little bit
Yes,
different than the
a
other
little
ones.
bit different.
Just a smidge.
So how this works now is instead of getting that slow effect on every single auto that you're doing, you're going to get a bigger slow effect. And it also will happen in an AoE.
Yeah.
But it's got an internal cooldown, so it can't happen too often, but when it does happen, then you've got the opportunity to go crazy with it.
Yep, so we're looking at the hybrid items. We wanted to make those stat shifts, and we said, you know, Frostbound's kind of one that's not been as fun. You might see another
Yeah.
item come in a little later on. Took this opportunity, and similar, we're here with Runeforge, the other hammer. Again, it's got the power, no protection like that, has a little bit of health, the HP5 and MP5. But its passive effect is going to be different. So it's still playing with the hard CC effects that it kind of was before, but now it's actually going to be creating a field on hard CC that
Yeah.
increases the damage enemies inside that field take
Yes.
from anyone on your team.
This effect is so much
That's
fun
crazy.
too on characters like Tyr, on people that can really hold you still in this Runeforge proc. You're gonna be having a lot of fun because that's really the whole goal with this item. Is you want to pick a character or a team comp that can really keep those people in the area, so you can do that extra damage to them. Because if
Yeah.
they're stuck in there, they're not having a fun
Yeah,
time.
they're hurt.
They're gonna be in pain.
And to revisit the goals again from the beginning, we wanted to remove and replace a lot and rework a lot of the items that were a
Yeah.
little bit more passive, a little bit more boring, you could say, and to create these new, more active gameplay moments. That's the
Yep.
goal for a lot of these reworked items and for new passives coming in.
Yeah, especially when you see the effects on the ground and things like that. You'll have that clear go button of, okay, I see the actual visual that this has happened. Now I know that we should fight right now.
Yeah, there's a circle. I want to fight in that circle.
Fight in the
So,
circle.
You'll notice we winced when the word boring came out. It's because as game designers, that word scares us because you just don't want your stuff to be boring. So if
well,
you say
it's
that word
either boring or too complicated, right? So
yeah, right. So like we want everything to be fun, but it's just funny, you know. It's like a thing you don't even think about. You're like, if it's boring. So anyway, all right. So there's one
Right,
more
the-
item
the
here for
final
the
one,
hybrid.
This is more of a shift. So
Yeah.
with the tree changes from before, Katakea's shield didn't have a home. It's
Yeah,
now going to be
bye-bye.
brought into the hammer tree. So it is now going to be Katakea's club.
It's a club.
You
Look
use
at
it to
it.
bonk. Yeah.
The stats are going to be shifted, but the passive is unchanged.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, it's just a new tree, a new little home. So that does it for hybrid. But now we're into a kind of a hot ticket area. How about some anti-heal?
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Some
Ooh.
anti-heal, some no healthy stuff.
This is a lot.
Second
of fun.
category of items, the anti-heal items.
Yeah.
You know, there's been multiple ways of addressing these, and I'm not going to have a massive preamble on every single one of them. Basically, we
Yeah.
want them to be more fun. How about that?
How about
We
that?
want them to be
More
more
fun.
fun. Anti-heal, it feels more like a stat. And now each one of these anti-heal items is going to be getting an actual passive. With that in mind, because you were just basically adding power and we're not doing like massive rework shifts like we were for the other items,
Yeah.
they're likely going to be either getting stat shifts or nerfs in other ways to make up for the fact that they're going to just be getting a new gameplay effect.
Exactly.
So mostly
Got
it's
it.
increased costs to make them more in line. So the first one, Divine Ruin. So again, a little bit of a cost increase and a whole new passive. The passive is your next successful damage ability actually triggers a chain lightning effect with an internal cooldown. So kind of like a magical Odysseus bow effect.
Yeah, a
with an
little bit.
internal cooldown,
Yeah.
so you've got to have to play around
You
that.
gotta wait
And
for
the
it.
best part about this is that lightning applies Divine Ruin.
Yeah.
So for those
Hey.
characters who had a bit of a tougher time applying it, thinking like your Noxes or your Scyllas, if you hit one person and they're close to other people, they are also getting Divine Ruined.
Yep. So
Nice.
it's pretty interesting passive because it helps the AoE mages who are already doing well with the AoE kind of spread that around, or it helps the mages that don't have good AoE kind of
AoE,
actually
yeah.
splash into that cleave damage a little
Yeah.
bit.
Nice, awesome. So it looks like next up we have Brawler's Beatstick as well.
Yeah.
Oh, this one's fun too.
Ooh.
So Brawler Speedstick is now getting an additional passive, like we said. And so how this works is if you are near an enemy, so you participate in the killer assist when
Yeah.
when they die, they leave behind this glowing red field where if you're inside it, you get increased power.
Huh. That's just cool.
Yeah. So again, stand in the circle. Stay in the
circles.
Yeah.
The circles are good in this case,
Yeah,
except if it's the enemy ones.
Yeah,
then
yeah.
they're
If
bad.
it's not your red circle, then maybe not so much. But a lot of fighting in circles is gonna happen. So it's kind of like a draw circle around the important fight area. So cool. So we keep going. Toxic Blade getting some changes as well.
Toxic Blade, historically an item that's honestly pretty decent, just
Yeah.
with an effect that was kind of hit or miss. Anti-heal is good, but you can get anti-heal in other ways. But now it's getting something else with it too, right? So its costs are going to be increased, its stats are going to be decreased quite a bit, especially with the attack speed. But that's because we were talking about items that were removed. This one's kind of getting that Igval passive back a little bit.
Got it.
It's not quite the same, but your enemy's hit will still have the basic attack healing reduction. Or sorry, the basic attacks will still provide the healing reduction as normal,
Yeah.
but you'll also going to be kind of reducing their attack speed and gaining it for yourself. Again,
Exactly.
a little bit of that homage.
Yeah,
to
a
it.
little stealage. So
Yeah.
cool. Pestilence next on the docket.
Now this one is going to be a little bit different from the others in that it doesn't have really that much of a flashy effect, right? This is
Okay.
more so
little
your
quieter.
one-stop shop for all anti-heal. And one really important thing to talk about is that Pestilence and Contagion have kind of been interchangeable for a long time, right?
Yep.
Got it.
So we're trying to give these two items a bit of unique identity for themselves, and that's particularly what Pestilence is going to be good at, is if you need a lot of anti-heal, you're playing as 2, 3, 4, their whole team has healers and meds, this is the item that you want to go for,
Yeah.
because it now applies even more anti-heal. When you get hit, you are applying additional anti-heal to the people that hit you.
Yep, and while it's not the most flashy gameplay gimmick, it also kind of requires you to do something a little bit more active. Or, it's got a gameplay purpose of, it's when you get hit, they're getting more anti-soul. You want to kind
Yeah.
of position yourself in ways where you're actually causing them to hit you more. Or
Exactly.
if they're choosing to hit you, they're getting a bigger penalty for it.
Yeah, if you're right up in their face and they're hitting you just because you're the first thing in front of them, then they're suffering for it. It's a
Exactly.
positioning game.
Yep.
So cool. Well, I think that's the last one on the anti-heal docket.
Yeah,
we
we-
got some Contagion,
We
too.
talked about Contagion, but
A
we
little
also have
Oh,
it
that's
has a new
true.
passive as well.
That's true. It does.
Like
I'm
when we
sorry, I
mentioned,
jumped the
though,
gun.
they are still going to have that shared aura effect. So if you do buy
Okay,
both,
aura
the
effect.
auras are not going to be stacking.
Exactly.
That's
Yep.
staying the same.
It's been there.
But the new passive for Contagion is going to be when you're hit by hard crowd control. So now you're on the receiving end, unlike
Yeah.
Runeforge where you're dealing hard crowd control. The enemy will actually receive like a ticking aura that's going to be hitting their allies. So you get hit by hard crowd control, they receive a debuff that's going to be hurting their own allies. Kind of like they're the source of your mystical mail almost.
Yeah. Okay.
They've got the Contagion, you might say.
They've got
They
the
have
Contagion.
the contagion. Okay. I'm glad I didn't jump over that then. That's cool. That's kind of cool, actually. Yeah. They start to poke you, and you're like, but are you really? You're poking yourself. So, all right. So remember what I said a second ago? Yeah, now we're there. So we still have more reworked items, though, more things that are changing.
Yep.
So moving into some of those, what's happening with Winged Blade? It's getting some changes.
Ooh, this one is really, really fun. So as you'll see, we have a lot of new
I like
effects
fun.
coming to the various reworked items.
Yeah.
But Winged Blade is one of those that in this particular tree, anti-slow is still very strong.
True.
However, with a lot of these items getting stronger slows, we wanted to be sure that the counter option was really good as well. So Winged Blade now is going to pulse out in an AoE when you get hit by a
Okay,
slow.
cool.
So you and anyone in that AoE are then immune to slows and get sped up.
Easy
Same effect,
peasy.
just
a little
in
bit more of a
bigger area.
team use case there.
Yeah,
So
nice.
yeah, this is a new category of like, it's not the anti-heal.
Yeah,
it's,
we're out of
it's not the
anti-heal
hybrid
now.
items.
No
it's just
anti-heal.
fun new reworks for effects that might have been a little bit too linear before.
Yeah, things that we're trying to bring some life into. Moving next on to Gem of Isolation.
Another one of your favorite items.
Oh,
Bob.
yes.
Go
I
ahead.
love
What's
this
this one
one.
doing?
So this is very similar to Frostbound Hammer in that this is no longer the constant apply,
Mm-hmm.
but it is the stronger application, but with an internal cooldown of it doesn't
Got
happen
it.
all the time, but when it does, it's pretty good.
Yeah, when you're getting it off, you're really going for it. So, cool. So how about Spectral Armor? What's going on there?
Yeah, so spectral armor, it's kind of like the anti-heal items, but it's got a it's a counteracting effect for something that they're doing, right? So instead, you're still going to be getting the reduced bonus damage from physical crits, but
Yeah.
now when you're hit by a critical strike, you and your allies will actually take even less bonus damage from
Yep.
further critical strikes, and that effect
Okay.
will stack. So-
Another cool fun change.
It also like helps mitigate having to purchase multiple spectral armors for one team.
Yeah.
You gotta
Yeah.
provide at least a mini version of that effect for allies that are nearby.
Yeah.
So if you're positioning right in the team fight with this spectral armor, everybody's getting that anti-crit effect. So you really got to watch where you're standing, but it's a really fun balance to play as a tank character where you want to stay near your allies, but you don't want to stand too near that they're getting hit, but you also have to stand close enough to the enemies where they're hitting
Yeah.
you and they're critting you. It's really fun to
It-
be positioning as a tank.
and
in
don't forget the
Season 10.
circles. Yeah. So there's the
So we got
circles, there's
circles.
the allies. So
Lots of stuff.
so far the year of watch where you're standing. So next up we have looks like some stat changes. These are going to be primarily stat based, starting with Demon Blade.
Yeah,
having
so
some
this is a
things.
little bit more similar to the Cadeas Club change, where it's
Okay.
kind of like based on the items the trees that have been removed. These
Yeah.
items needed to find new homes in
Yeah,
a way, or
filling-
they've been
filling a gap.
restatted.
Got it.
So Shadow Steel Shuriken was removed. We didn't want to just we found a new design space for Wind Demon. It is now going to be called Demon Blade, and it's going to be on the short sword tree.
Yep. I mean, you can't really build a shuriken out of a sword.
Right,
so-
exactly. It didn't
I
make
mean-
sense for it to be the previous name in art.
Listen, if
But,
one of the
uh,
points is
yeah.
just a lot longer than the others, it's kind of a sword. It just has a really bad handle.
I mean, it's got
so-
really sick new art too.
It
so
does, it does.
I'm excited to be using that. It's got an edgy
But
name too. So
Some of these,
that's
the
really
stats
neat.
might change, but the passives for all of these should be unchanged. So
Got
it's
it.
mostly kind of just reorganization of these items.
Yeah,
Got it.
specifically for Demon Blade, though, it did receive a bit of a nerf in that
It
it,
did,
no
that's
longer
true.
provides movement speed on the passive, but everything else is exactly the same.
Got it. And worth noting, we do have cool new art. If some of it happens to be a little different in PTS or in game, that's because some of it's still getting a brush up here and there because we have really talented artists that like their stuff to look as amazing as possible. So
And it
if-
does look good.
Yeah, a lot of these are finished, but if you happen to be like, that looks a little different than I remember, then good on you for remembering. And yeah, it's because our artists are just really cool and always working. They're absolute artists.
Our goats.
So, truly goat. So next up, Breastplate of Regrowth, which was formerly a shield, wasn't it?
Yeah, throwback to that. This is now over in the breastplate tree, so you're
Okay.
building it from silver breastplate. Does the exact same thing. It's just in the breastplate tree now, and it's got new art. Look
Cool.
at that.
It's shiny.
I love it.
I love it. I agree. So, continuing down the same tree, we have Lotus Sickle.
Yeah, this is a cool one.
That's cool. Yeah.
We were like debating which way to go. Then we heard this like terminology, and we're like, yeah, let's just roll with it.
Let's just
So
roll.
Lotus
The
Crown,
name is good enough.
Helmetry, all that business. That's all gone. It's
more
now going to
hats.
be moved to the Ancient Blade Tree, building off of Adventurer's Blade, and it is now a sick sickle.
It's
Sick
so
sickle.
cool looking. I mean, crown's nice.
But you
But-
could have a sickle.
But yeah,
Yeah,
you can
but
have a
with a
sickle. I mean, why wouldn't
sickle.
you?
Super cool. And yeah, again, the art is just, I love seeing all this new art. It brings life into some of these. I mean, these are new items. Some of them are very similar to old items, but it makes it really feel new when you get that new art
Right.
for it. So
And you see it in the tree. It's like I haven't seen that before.
yeah, you're like,
Oh, wait, I know
"Ooh,
that."
Need me some of them stats. All right, so next up, Cleric's Cloak coming in. This looks like a tier 2, I believe.
Yeah, so this one's going to be really interesting. So Cleric's Cloak, that entire kind of tier 2 path,
Yeah.
that's going to be changing because we're going to actually be removing the health and adding cooldown reduction as a primary stat for that
Ooh,
tree.
cooldown,
So in
alright,
order to do that,
CPR.
Cleric's Cloak needed stat rework. It's getting a little bit more protections, but the health is removed for that cooldown reduction, and that's also going to be leading to the tier 3 item of Magi's Cloak.
Magi's
so
Cloak.
Magi's Cloak is going to be getting the increased protections as well, but removing the whole bunch of that health and adding cooldown reduction instead. And of course,
Yeah.
the glyphs are also going to be equally effective.
Yeah, it'll grow up into those tier 4, I guess you'd call it,
Yeah.
the glyphs.
So again, kind of reinforcing our tree identities and spicing
Yeah.
things up, making sure that if you want stats in mind that you kind of want to go for, here are the places to go for.
Yep.
Got it. And it looks like we have one last little, kind of a whole tree of stat changes here, moving from the Morning Star, which is a tier 1, up to the Hydra's Star, and then all the way to Hydra's Lament.
Yep.
So,
Similar as before, that tree was kind of an identity was mana base, and while MP5 is kind of there, the Hydra's start like that. There's already MP5 kind of with the Hydra's Lament tree
Yeah.
a little bit. So we're just actually changing that stat from MP5 to mana.
Yep, it
Okay.
has a lot more synergy now with the Transcendence tree, just in general. So, if you do want to buy Hydrus and Transcendence, it's a little bit better together now.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
a
got
little
a
more
pairing. All right, so
Oh.
we've talked a lot of rework. We've talked a
Ooh,
lot
look
of
at time.
deleting. This part, you can see how excited they got. This
Water's
part
back out.
is really exciting. We got new items, not
Brand new
reworked
ones.
with pretty new art, not like brand
Still new. We're still pretty new art though.
items. I mean, no, it is still pretty new art, but like brand new everything. So we're gonna dive right in with the very first new item, the Cyclopean Ring.
Yeah.
so-
So
exactly the same.
all right, I'll take this
Go,
one.
yeah, you
On
go
it,
ahead.
go
Because
for it.
it gives me a little bit of time for that tiny clumsy preamble, which is again, some of these there were items that were removed.
Yeah.
Some of these some of those were removed for specific reasons and allowed us to bring new design spaces into them. So Hakate was removed. Cyclopean Ring enters the field. And this is a new ADC ring, obviously being building off of the Emerald Ring
Yeah.
and Enchanted Ring tree. It's actually going to have a new stat of cooldown reduction. Again, we wanted to find new ways of. Okay, stat itself isn't new, but the stat for that tree
Yeah.
is new, right? It's like they didn't have ADC mages didn't really have the option for cooldown reduction before. Now they have a little splash of that with Cyclopean Ring.
Got it.
And again, new item. unique passive. The passive will be your basic attacks against an enemy god deal extra bonus magical damage based on the enemy's maximum health. So that means if you're going to be hitting tankier characters, you're going to be dealing actual more bonus damage towards them.
Yeah.
Now, the other interesting thing here is that it does have an ICD, but the ICD is further reduced the more successful basic attacks you deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you
so
can
if you're really
actually-
laying it out, you're gonna take that cooldown and continue
deal
to be
more damage
successful.
to,
Oh, yeah.
to maximum health. Exactly.
So land the auto attacks. Got it. Sure, I'll do that.
That can't be that hard.
Yeah, I'm sure it can't be. So next up, the Tablet of Destinies.
Oh, I
That's
am so excited for this one.
Learn me, please.
Well, this is going to be in the book tree, so with
Yep.
your Book of Thoughts, your Polynomicons, and this is a brand new way to stack items. We have never seen a stacking item like this before.
Stacks.
So, how this works is that to get stacks on Tablet of Destinies, you need to hit enemies with abilities. And so you can only ever gain one stack every 2 seconds, but this also has a separate trigger where you can only get them once per god per ability as well. So, keeping that in mind, this item goes up to 50 stacks, and for each stack that you get, you deal true damage to enemy gods based
Yeah.
on a percentage of your max mana. So,
Cool.
more stacks, more damage. More mana, even more damage.
Yeah, so while there used to be a Book of the Dead in this kind of spot that was kind of playing on that max mana synergy for defensive stats, which we found, again, pretty hard to balance because,
Yeah.
you know, it was either too strong or too weak. Now you've got an offensive option instead, again, playing off of that mana stat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
See, where I'm from, that kind of stacking, we call that playing the mini game, and that's like the greatest thing ever. Because you're like, all right,
Minigames are so fun.
yeah, you're like, I'm already in here, I'm already doing it, but like, I gotta land all these abilities because that's how I'm gonna get my stacks. So,
Yeah.
absolutely love that. Look forward to that. So next up, we have the bladed boomerang. Now, I'm a
Oh, this
boomerang
one's fun
fan.
too.
So,
Yeah.
how about the bladed boomerang?
So this is going to be a new crit item, and you can kind of, maybe you can't tell, but with the idea of this boomerang going on, the most important thing here, of course, is the passive. And the passive
Yeah.
is when you next base attack an enemy, you'll actually spawn a deployable, kind of taking the idea from like the earrings that were, utilized, like manticores and stuff.
Yeah.
And if you pick up that deployable, you'll actually gain movement speed and more crit chance. So, and this also, the duration lasts long enough so that you can actually get more of these effects the more you're kind of picking up. So you can stack this effect up with the more boomerang pickups you gain.
Got it.
The,
So if
the
you're really-
loop of it is just so much fun too, because you'll hit someone with your boomerang, and then it comes on back to you and lands on the ground, and then you go pick it up. But like Clumsy said, the whole idea is for you to keep these stacked up,
Yeah.
and that movement speed and all of that other extra stuff is going to be helping you to get to wherever they land, depending on how the randomness ends up on the ground. But
It is
Yeah.
a short-term loop though, so you're not getting this buff
Yeah.
for like 30 seconds or like that. The ICD is also pretty short
It's very
to keep
short.
that gameplay
Yeah.
mechanic kind of sustained. Also, the fun thing here is that it's pretty, while it is going to be coming back to you, the boomerang deployable, it's not like going to be perfectly at your feet. It's going to have a little bit of a variance kind of in between you and the enemy that you hit. But if you're a melee character, you're going to be collecting that boomerang right to your face. So you
Right.
get like a little bit of an added bonus for that.
Boomerang to the faces, you might say.
Awesome.
I just love the mental games that come with this too, especially
Yeah.
as a hunter in lane of, am I gonna go for my boomerang? Am I not? Which way am I gonna go? You never know.
Yeah, you
so
bait out
playing,
the ability
playing the
because they're
mental
like,
game.
I see a circle they're gonna go for, and then they use an ability, and you're over here, and you're like, haha.
Yeah, you
So,
thought.
I'm just imagining like I hadn't even thought about that on a melee character. Like with a hunter it's like boomerang, and then with the hunter it's like
Yeah, exactly. You're just holding on to that boomerang. You're not
Yeah,
throwing
you
it,
gotta
right? You're
let
just
it go.
smacking them with it.
It
Yeah,
has a blade
it's yours,
for
it's
a
perfect.
reason. I
yeah.
mean.
So that's a great mental image I'm gonna carry with me into year 10. So next up, Shadow Drinker. That's a nice edgy name.
Oh yeah. And the art on this one is so sick
is
too.
cool.
Oh
It
my
is.
gosh.
It is super cool.
So this is going into the katana tree with your other katana items, like
Kind of
your
replacing that
hasten.
stone cutting sword slot a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah. all
And the fun
recipes.
part about this one is, again, towards that passive, is if you get a kill on an enemy, you will be going invisible for the next few seconds. And so this invisibility is kind of treated like your Morrigan stealth, where if you do anything, if you take a basic attack, if you ability, you get hit by anything, you are instantly broken out of the
Got
stealth.
it.
But you also, in addition to this, get a movement speed buff. So think of it that you're getting the stealth and the movement speed. You can be broken out of the stealth. The movement speed will stay on you the whole time.
Okay, so it's a good get in, secure the objective,
And sneak
hopefully
out.
get out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sneak your way out. Yep.
yeah, cool. So we drank the shadows. Now we got the Dawnbreaker.
Hey, yeah, these are great to
Oh,
put
yeah.
back
Yeah.
together. All right, so with the next two items, so a little bit of a spoiler there too. We wanted to play around with a little bit more utility effects based on the trigger, kind of like the Arthurian trigger of using
Yeah.
your ultimate. So Dawnbringer, Yeah, when your ultimate ability is finished casting, you actually gain protections and movement speed based on
Nice.
how many enemy gods are nearby you when
Okay.
you've done that. So kind of, again, playing with the active component of gaining a utility effect, but you want to specifically position yourself inside the enemy team or as close to as many enemies as you can.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So it's a good. This is a great item for if you're diving into an engagement. All the enemies are there. You get that off, and then all of a sudden, max benefits, max battling. I
Yeah,
guess.
you're feeling tanky. You're feeling fast. You are about to go crazy with
You
them.
are in there. All right. Cool. So that is Dawnbringer. Next up, still going, still more new items. Absolution.
This one has been so fun to play test. I
Fun.
can't even tell you the amount of times where I have been playing support, and I wanted to pick this one up as soon as I can. Well, obviously,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of more fun items coming up for the early game. This one's a great one towards the team fight stage.
okay.
So what this item does is, like you said earlier with your Arthurian trigger, after you finish your ultimate, you pulse out a CC cleanse aura that cleanses people for a very short duration.
Yeah.
So it's basically shorter beads for everybody around you. So,
Got
for
it.
instance, I've been playing Atlas, and I throw my Atlas ult out to get people going, and then cleanse everybody of Ares ult or something.
Yeah.
It's just so fun to
Wow.
have that level of control as a support to do these very fun supporty things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't wait to see people go crazy with this one, to be honest. This has such a fun, like, skill cap level, and especially that team play that comes alongside it. Supports are gonna go even crazier than they already have been.
I was about to say, I can already see it, you know, especially in like professional play and like the high level play where it's like, oh, what an incredible ult, CC the whole team. Then the support comes in, whoa, what an incredible ult, no CC, fight is turned. So it's gonna provide for a lot of sway, and I think that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I can't wait to see clips of that on the pro.
Oh
League,
yeah,
honestly.
that's gonna be, y'all are gonna take that and run with it. So after the Absolution, we're moving on to an Abyssal Stone, not a Void Stone.
Yeah,
Abyssal Stone.
And you hit the nail on the head. We're playing around with that stone tree again.
Yeah.
Again, no power, right? These are just going to be the defensive stats. So I want to readdress that for the hammers and the other things that we're talking about. We're looking at the stats as well.
Got
It's
it.
pretty important. But Abyssal Stone, passive here, successful ability damage to an enemy god, actually will debuff them with
Okay.
negative cooldown reduction.
Never been seen before.
Yeah.
Crazy,
Here's
right,
some
guys?
time.
So yeah, so this is something that we've kind of played around with the idea of, and we found this to be an opportune time to try and kind of test the waters with this. So it's the way this works is that when you hit the enemy and you apply this debuff to them, it's not going to be doing anything to any abilities that's currently on cooldown for them. It's going to be any new abilities that do while that debuff is there. So for
Got
example,
it.
I hit you. You then use your ultimate. Your ultimate now has a 20% longer cooldown than it would have had normal,
That's crazy.
or any of your other abilities.
yeah,
as
any
well.
of your
Really
other abilities.
But that's like the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Now again, similar to Blade of Boomerang in a way, this is a shorter loop where the debuff duration and the ICDs are kind of shorter to make you like able to kind of play around with the spectrum of multiple people in a team fight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. That's crazy. I can only imagine you hit me with it. I'm like, haha, you barely hurt me. I throw my ult out, especially as a guardian, one of those really long cooldowns, and then I'm like, why? That's 10 seconds longer than it should be. So that's really cool. So next up we have, oh man, I just lost all my words. We have
Archdruid's Fury.
yeah, Archdruid Spirit. I touched the button and I
Ooh.
messed everything up.
This one's so much
I've done
fun.
that so many times. Don't worry.
Right.
So this is an aggressive item for your supports or your solo laners that
Okay.
are planning to take a lot of damage, but they also want to deal some back in return.
Take it
So
back a little bit. All right.
how the passive on this one works is for every 5% of damage that you take, you'll gain a stack. And then when
Okay.
you're ready to be rid of your stacks, which you can have a max of 6, you just gotta walk up to someone, drop a basic attack, and they'll be taking
Kinda
a
smack 'em in
lot
the
of
face.
damage back.
Yeah, just give him a bonk.
Just a little.
Then you hit him with a Carapace shard as well,
Yeah,
and they're really feeling
wow,
the pain.
yeah, they're gonna be losing quite a lot of health from that.
True that. All right, so the next item, just got one name item here. We have Phalanx.
Ooh.
Yeah, so Phalanx, again, similar to how Toxic Blade kind of absorbed a passive from another.
Yeah.
We've always found the design space and the kind of niche opportunity that Tyrannical Plate Helm to be really interesting and something that we can kind
Yeah.
of play around with a little bit more. So we're bringing that in here a little bit with Phalanx. So passive, yeah, now when you're basic attacked by an enemy god, your friendly minions will be gaining a similar buff as before of attack speed and some protection. So now the more you're basic attack, the more you're positioning yourself well, the more your minions are going to be like gunning at that guy
Yeah.
with increased vigor.
Your homie's
Yeah.
got you back in the lane.
Exactly.
This
Yeah.
is especially fun in solo lane as like kind of a basic attack warrior counter. Like if your Bellona's trying to swing through the whole lane, King Arthur is trying to use his cleave autos. Well, you stand in one. Not only are you making your minions stronger, but you can do the classic, I'm gonna get the aggro for all your minions, group them all up, smack them together, and my minions are taking even less damage because you've hit me.
Yeah.
What the heck? That's
So
crazy.
yeah, a lot of good trade potential. All right. And I love the name. Phalanx is just such a cool name. I don't know how else to say
And
that.
it's in the shield tree.
And it's in the shield tree. So next up, the prophetic cloak, which this one I think evolves too. So yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah, so prophetic cloak. This one's really interesting. Obviously, it's going to be in the cloak tree.
Yeah.
This was kind of designed because while we understand as that Gauntlet of Thieves is kind of a strong design space, it's kind of hard to dethrone the king in a way. We've seen that a little bit with Mail of Renewal in the past, and it's not necessarily that we want to remove it as an option. We kind of just wanted to give it an actual competitor. So prophetic cloak, it's actually going to be very interesting where you can damage different types of classes of gods, and based on the one that you damage, you're going to be gaining protections as an aura for that class. So if I hit you and you were playing a hunter, I'm going to be gaining an aura of physical protections for myself and my team.
Yeah.
Now, if I then go over to the mid lane, or if you're playing arena and you're hitting multiple
hit the
people,
mid lane,
and
yeah.
you go and hit a mage, you're going to be gaining a stacking magical aura.
Oh, that's crazy.
So it's a stacking aura based on the class of enemy that you've been hit for protections. And when you get to full max stacks, I think it's what, 15 each. You actually then get evolved prophetic cloak, which is going to be having those physical protections as a stat and as an aura, and it'll be gaining a completely different effect. Where if you have over a certain amount of protections as a whole, you actually gain bonus damage mitigation.
Dang.
So the more protections you have, the more mitigation you gain.
That's cool. Yeah,
Like two different tiers.
That's a lot of stats, and I like the way that works too because it's situational. You know, if you're in that solo lane, you're like, all right, damage is coming from a physical attacker. I'm gonna hit that person, get this aura, and then we have a better chance of winning this trade, winning this fight. So again, a lot of what I'm seeing and what I'm loving is skill expression and how you get to pick and choose when you're fighting and what stats you have for these environments, and showing off what you're best at. You know.
This one's also really interesting because there's also designed downsides as well. Where if you're versing like a very heavy magical based team, or 4 or 5 or 4 or 5 physical based team, this may not be the best option because then you're stacking up on like a dual stat, or if they have 5 of one stat completely, then you literally can't evolve this item because you will not be able to gain stacks of both.
I'm just imagining like a hyper physical damage team, and the tank gets in front. That's magical damage. You hit them, you get reduced magic damage, and the rest of their team is physical, and you're like, good for the stacks. The buff means nothing.
Exactly.
So
Gotta be
cool.
planning when you get this one, and planning who you're attacking too. This is great at really dictating, your rotations as well. Because like Clumsy was saying, if you need to go and get some magical stacks, time to go to mid.
Time to wander. Yeah.
Yeah, it's time to start roaming the map.
All right. Looks like we have one new item. There's a lot of items,
There's
right?
a lot.
So the Cannoneers, Curious? Yeah. That's a word I don't use very often in my day-to-day life. So
I don't
pronounce
have one
it
of
right
these
for
at
me.
home.
Yeah, no, not often.
So this item is kind of another alternative to Thieves, but this is more along the lines of
Very early game focus for sure.
Got
very,
it.
very early game focus, but it's really great at funneling your carry. So this is basically designed for supports. It's very hard to use this in the solo because of its passive, and let's get into that.
Talk about it.
Every few seconds, you're able to instantly kill a lane minion. Not jungle minions, not jungle bosses, lane
Just the
minions.
lane minions. Got it.
Very, very clear about that. This is for the lane only. So you do kill this, and then if there is an ally within your range, they're going to get bonus gold. So you might be thinking, well, I don't want the last hits. This case, you do, because you're giving them a ton of gold.
Got it.
And in addition to that, when you blow up that minion, well, like I said, it blows up. It deals damage to enemy minions in a small aura. So it's
Literally
setting up
blows up.
for last hits too. So not only are you funneling gold, but you're getting your carry extra last hits too if they're able to get those extra hits on those minions that have been brought lower.
Wow, yeah, that's just a lot of benefits. That's a lot of good support benefits too, because like you said, the explosion, the extra gold, I just love that. That's another way to
Exactly.
contribute to your laner while you're still hanging out in lane.
Yeah, and the explosion is not intended to kill those minions because again, it's a little bit counterintuitive. Don't get me wrong, because generally you want the sustain from not getting the last hits.
Yeah.
But setting up the last hits for your ally and granting them extra gold, being able to do that and min-max this kind of passive and how often it's up is going to be really, really crucial to getting your hyper carry ADC, whether that's your Artemis, your Freya, whoever it might be. That's a really, really keen strategy for those characters that need gold to get going.
Yeah, and I mean, I can already see the use cases of this because like you've won a good trade, you got to get back, you want to crash the wave. This will help you get them ready for last hits. Your person last hits, the wave is cleared
Yep.
faster. You're going back quicker. You're able to. It's just it lets you have your foot on that lead, and it lets you take another step up. So.
And
Exactly.
if you don't want to think about the min max too much, you just pick this up and you're clearing the wave a little bit faster. So
Yep.
so that way, if you have like
There
a
you go.
hunter with low clear, or whatever it may be, or your guardian with low clear, you're now just being a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gebs of the world rejoice.
Hooray! So cool, and that is gonna do it for the new items. We
Oh,
still got
geez, yeah.
we still got some items, a little bit of general
Okay,
balance left
so-
because
Yeah, the previous categories we've gone through the hybrid items, we've gone through all the like the reworked items, the stat shifts, we've gone through
Whew.
the new items. That's
Yeah.
like the whole bunch of like one big pass. Now it's kind of just like general balance.
Yeah,
right?
the
It's
stuff
not-
you'd see-
Now we're just talking about normal patch stuff, but
Yeah.
in regards to year 10.
yeah. So and we're gonna kick that off with some starter items. So it looks like the first of them is the Archmage gem.
Yeah, so I think we can breeze through these a little bit faster,
Go
not just the
for it.
starter items, just in general, because these are just general buffs and nerfs. That,
Yeah,
you know,
dive
they're
into
not
it
gonna
then,
be too
Clumsy.
crazy. So starter items, we saw a lot of mage changes before, or whether it's the hunters that are a little bit more prevalent in the mages, Sands of
Yeah.
Time getting buffed, Archmage's gem, and as a whole just wasn't really as strong. So small buffs there, it's going to be gaining some more damage.
Yep.
Easy peasy.
Cool. And then yeah. So a lot of the starter item changes, like you said. I mean, a lot of starter item changes. So let's just keep going down the list.
Yeah,
Sure.
so I guess on top of that one, Gem of Focus.
Yeah.
As an upgrade, it'll be gaining a little bit more increased movement speed and a little bit more damage, but we're going to be losing on that mitigation.
Yep. So
Yeah.
not super great for your tanky characters, your spammy characters anymore. It's still really good to keep that extra damage going,
Yeah.
but you're just not going to be as survivable anymore.
Yeah, not
That helps
quite as
push it
alive.
away from like the Bruiser lineup as
Yeah,
well that we saw.
exactly.
But I mean,
Got
there's a
it.
whole bunch of changes coming into year 10.
Yeah.
True that.
That's
a lot
not
of
the
them.
only starter item change we got coming.
Yeah. So after Gem of Focus, we have Bluestone Pendant.
Yes. So the biggest change here is one that we referenced a little bit earlier with Glad Shield, where this will be getting that damage after.
The subsequent
damage,
Subsequent damage. That's the word I was looking for.
Reduction. And the important thing here to note as well, because I did the math on these, is some of these numbers look like they're massive buffs because the damage component themselves needs to be increased at least a little bit if the subsequent damage is going to be reduced by a
Yeah.
lot. Because if you are not someone who has a lot of abilities, you're going to be, if we didn't actually buff the numbers, you're going to be severely hurt by this.
Yes.
And even then, even with that in mind, even with the increased damage numbers, it's still going to be slightly worse than it
Got
was
it.
before.
Yeah, this just levels the playing field for the characters that have a million abilities, like King Arthur,
Yeah,
and those
true.
that have 4, like our boy Sun Wukong.
Got it.
And specifically for Bluestones as well, because they're a little bit more unique than Glad Shields, that they had a dot effect. There's no the actual amount of stacks is going to be reduced to just one. So
Okay.
it's no longer going to be stacking up to twice. It's just the one stack, a little
Just the
bit
one
more
time.
similar to the others.
Yep.
Got it. Because yeah, moving on to that, we have Corrupted Bluestone and Bluestone Brooch, both
Both
in line.
effectively the exact same
Yep.
thing.
Got it.
Subsequent damage reduction. Damage numbers look a lot higher, but it's also no longer stacking.
Easy peasy. All right, so how about the Warding Sigil? What's going on with that one?
Oh, this one is going to be very fun. So Warding Sigil, ever since we introduced starter items, it's been a little bit difficult to see this guy get any play in Conquest, which
Yeah.
is always a little bit sad to see. So this is going to give a little bit of sustain now for each stack of dampening that you get. So you get protections and you get healing for 1% of your max health over those next few seconds.
Nice. And does that carry into Sigil of the Old Guard, or how's that changing?
Yeah, so we are also bringing those up, I do believe.
Yeah, Sigil of the Old Guard as well will be gaining kind of a similar change.
Yeah,
there.
similar level,
Got
but
it.
again, upgraded. So
Yeah,
this is
obviously
the level
upgraded.
20 version of it. So
Of course. All right.
a bit extra there.
So continuing to dive forward, Sundering Axe. What's
Yeah.
happening there?
Just like so many different things going on. Just like make
Oh,
sure I'm
yeah.
on the right page.
I get you.
Sundering Axe, this one's going to just be a small buff to the current health steal.
Okay.
But the interesting one coming up is the Axe of Animosity.
Get into it.
So this used to be
Ooh.
Hero's Axe.
Yeah,
and
it was
Yep.
changed.
if you
okay.
can tell by the name change, it's now going to be the Axe of Animosity because there's going to be kind of like a passive swap coming up.
Got it.
Which we'll get into the next one. So the Animosity effect is now going to live on what used to be Hero's Axe. So now it's going to be in the Warrior's Axe tree. Because of that, there's going to be a little bit of stat reduction with the protections being reduced
Got
for
it.
what is now Axe of Animosity. But it will now be dealing the Animosity effect. So the passive will be your basic attacks deal bonus damage equal to a percentage of your maximum health to enemies and structures. So again, Animosity was a little bit of an odd spot for kind of like this very aggressive effects, but on a support starter item.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
it makes a lot more sense for those to be swapped. So you're going to be gaining, I guess, on the next one, Animosity is now changed to Heroism because
cleaned up
if
attack,
Animosity
yeah.
no longer exists, now we need that new starter item, which was previously the Hero's Axe passive. So
Okay.
those ones are basically just doing a swap-a-rooney.
Got it. So yeah, just with the heroism from animosity and then an axe of animosity. Got it. Read the patch notes. So continuing to move on. What about Warflag? Warflag is getting some love.
Yes,
right.
this is so exciting.
So exciting.
Warflag has had a little bit of trouble in Conquest. It's been insane in modes like Arena and Assault, where everyone's kind of lined up in front of you and ready to get a hit to get those gold triggers. But we're changing the gold trigger to make it a little bit more effective in all of the modes. Equally, you might say. So we're kind of taking a little bit from the other starter items in the support role specifically and making it so that whenever you are getting that killer assist that would normally just give you that attack speed and movement speed, it's also now going to give you that gold trigger. But again, this item is different from Sentinels and different from Benevolence in that the sustain is a lot less because you are getting these extra aggressive stats in the attack speed and movement speed. So it still has that very applicable gold that you do want as a support. But now you're having those extra aggressive stats, and by all means, movement speed, attack speed, really, really helpful, especially in the early game.
And how does that transfer into War Banner? Is that
so it's a very similar kind of transfer where this is getting gold per 5 instead of that extra effect. You're just going to get a very consistent flow of gold in instead of having to, once again, play around that old basic attack trigger.
Mechanic. Got it. All right. Cool. So we're kind of out of the starter realm, it looks like, because we're moving on to Erendite getting a bit of a buff.
Yep, so these are honestly a little bit almost, well, I was going to say it's going to be easier to explain than I just saw what's next. So, maybe not. Erendite needs a buff. It's getting a buff.
Boom. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
Erendite. Next up, little more complicated, Aussie getting a shift a little bit.
Right, so Aussie, so we're shifting this item to be a little bit more of a high power, high lifesteal item, but it's going to be losing the penetration to balance that. And you're going to see a little bit of these pen shifts coming up in several of the items coming in this list. So Aussie, we're going to be decreasing the cost again, a little bit more of an early game option, increasing the power by double, so it's going to go to 25 to 50.
That's a lot of
Increasing the lifesteal a little bit, decreasing the attack speed, so obviously a lot of stat shifts, but you're completely losing that physical penetration. So one of the reasons why that power is doubling.
So this would typically be the second item that you'd see in those kind of Transcendence Power Hunter builds. And so we kind of wanted to give it a little bit more of a lend to that build by giving it some extra power. Now it's a little bit in more of that space where if you want to deal a lot of damage with your abilities, you're having a better time at doing that because you've got that extra power for your scaling.
Makes sense. So the next one on the list, Atalanta's Bow, also kind of a shift.
Oh yeah, this is a lot of changes here for Atalantis. And this item has been a little over the place, you know, in the past couple of years with crit chance, no crit chance, so we've got no more crit chance. And now we are just going to a little bit more power, a little bit more attack speed, and we're decreasing the COD a little bit. It's also cost.
It's also, it's removing lifesteal too.
Yeah.
So 2 whole stats being removed.
But
yeah, it's a lot.
It has 10% physical penetration now.
Exactly.
So
a pen option,
Yep, this is now more focused into that little bit of lifesteal build that you see where it's a little bit easier to get into this percentage pen with the extra bit of attack speed and power that you're getting. Nice little splash there.
Just a little splash.
Little splash.
Speaking of little splashes, Bloodforge also getting just a pretty straightforward buff.
Pretty straightforward. It's going to be getting that cost decrease. It's a little too high cost for what it was providing, but also a little bit of that movement speed increase as well. Just honestly an item that just might be undervalued. It's you want to just like give it a little bit of a flavor, fun buff, so that people pick it up a little bit more often.
Yeah, just a little more love.
Before it was a little bit of a luxury item. Now it's at least a little bit more affordable.
Got it. All right, so the Crusher also having quite the list of changes, more shifting.
Yeah, this one's very, very cool. So previously in the Maestry, there was only 1% pen option.
Yeah.
But we decided that we'd like to open it up to another one for different kinds of characters. Because Titan's Bane's really good on a particular subset of characters that's slamming all their abilities down at once and just being done. Whereas Crusher is a little bit more for those, not necessarily spammy characters, but characters that have a lot of abilities coming out over time. So Crusher is still going to be keeping the general vibe of how it works. It's going to be getting that subsequent hit that we talked about before.
There it is.
But
there
we are changing the penetration to be percentage.
And because of that, like that shift, it's no longer flat. We're also kind of shifting it to be more of like a late game option because it didn't really make sense for it to be percent pen in early game. That those two generally don't go as close to hand in hand. So it's going to be gaining a lot more. So it's like the cost is going to be nerfed, or it's going to be gaining a lot more of a cost price. But it's also going to be gaining a lot more power. It's going to be gaining some more attack speed as well.
40% from the passive, by the way. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And because of the percent pen, we're going to see this kind of a mirror shift. It's going to be off of the Warrior's Bane item instead of where it was previously.
Yep.
Okay. Cool,
Just
cool.
We'll see this mirror
across
as
the
well
tree.
for the mages too.
Yeah, and moving forward again, dominance. Also kind of a shift, a little smaller of a shift it looks like, but still some shifting.
Yeah, so we wanted to give this one a little bit more of an identity, right? Between this
Yeah.
and Silver Branch, it was kind of hard to decide, do I go this one or
This
do I go
one or
that one?
that one.
So this one is getting a little bit of love towards that hunter direction. It's getting attack speed, and it's basically shifting the penetration away from just being in the base, so it's not really as helpful
Yeah.
on those characters that aren't really using their basic attacks. This is now moving it from the just general stat to the passive. So
Gotcha.
your basic attacks doing more penetration, but you're not having it on your regular normal abilities.
And now I'm going to complicate things a lot further. I was like staring at the patch notes for a while, or the show flow for a little while, because I was trying to figure out where it is. Silver Branch Bow, I feel like we'll move that up. I'm going to skip to that because it's somewhere else. Silver Branch Bow exists in the same realm as a lot of these pen options, so I wanted
Yeah.
to make sure we address that. It's going to be actually losing from 20% to 10% of its physical penetration.
Ooh.
And that's also a lot of the reason why we're seeing these shifts, not just on dominance, but also, like we said, on Atalantis as well. We want to
Yeah.
just kind of spread out that percent pen from Silver Branch, which has historically just kind of been a little bit too strong,
Yeah.
and move that along to some of those different items.
Yes.
So I wanted to address that one too.
It's not that kind of catch-all that you just buy in every build, even if you're not making use of the passive. Now you really have to say, okay, am I going to actually use this
Yeah, do I
passive to make
need
it worth it? Do I
Yeah,
need it, or will I just
exactly.
go buy
Yeah.
new dominance
Because
instead?
the passive
Either
as
way.
well is quite strong. Like we
Oh,
want to
yeah.
make sure
It
that that kind of shines for what its purpose is.
Yeah, got it. Instead of just, I need the stats, the passives, whatever. So,
Exactly.
got it. So the next shift, Devourer's Gauntlet, has a ton of changes to it. If you want to get
Ton
into
of
it.
changes.
Ton of
Yeah.
It's
changes.
getting an increased cost. We want to
Nerf.
just kind of make sure that Transcendence and Dev Gloves kind of live in a more competitive design space. Dev Gloves, a little bit too cheap. Gonna go increased.
Yeah,
Gotta go up a
100
little bit.
changes, one for each coin. All right, next up, Emperor's Armor, also getting a shift.
Yeah, so this has been one of the most MVP valuable items across the board for supports, just because it's had a humongous value in the passive
Yeah.
and the stats by itself. So it's going to be going up in cost, but in addition to that, the passive is actually going to be getting a little bit stronger on the offensive end.
Exactly.
Got
So
it.
a little bit easier for you to dive, but you're going to have to pay a little bit more for those stats now because they're pretty good.
They're pretty nice. So you got to pay a premium for the good things.
Oh, yeah.
Mail of Renewal, also getting a
A
shift.
little bit of shift there. We saw, like we talked about with Gauntlet of Thebes, it had a little bit of some time there in the sun where it was kind of living as a competitor there. Now we're going to be decreasing the cost a little bit, increasing the health and the HP 5, but also in turn we're going to be decreasing the protection. So
Yep.
kind of leaning in on the health and the HP 5 as the stats that are kind of premier for that item, and then decreasing the protections to make space for some of the other items. This shift also kind of lives in line with the kind of the tree identity that we were talking about before, just making
Yeah.
sure that this is a little bit more emphasized on the stats that would make sense for it.
Yep.
Yeah, that falls in line with the identity of its tree. Okay,
Exactly.
cool. So then we have Midgardian Mail. Look like it's getting a little bit of change too.
Yeah, so as you'll have noticed previously, Witchblade out the door, Nemean Line
Bye-bye.
out the door. So in turn, we gotta make sure that our hunter counter item is a little bit more applicable here. So
Yeah.
we're just giving it a little bit more prot. So when you do buy it, now you know exactly which one you should be buying at any given point because there's only one option now. So it's really
Yeah.
a lot less complicated, a lot less like min-maxing what the stats are. But in addition to that, Midgard is just a little bit stronger now.
A little stronger. And then Oni Hunter's Garb, also a little bit of a shift.
A little bit of shift there. We're going to be decreasing the health just by 50, but in turn, we're going to be increasing the passive. Again, leaning away from the stats, making sure the passive is a little more
Yep.
in the limelight.
Got it. So Rage, getting a little bit more
Oh,
of a
yeah,
buff.
that sounds
Yeah.
interesting.
Rage time.
This one's super fun because Rage is kind of like an all or nothing item, right? Where
Yeah.
you don't really want this if it's not stacked, but if it is fully stacked, you're having a great time. But to give it a little bit more of a nice smooth curve to where you get to that top point, we're giving it power every time that you stack it.
Yep, so you're going to gain 5 physical power per stack, but we're also going to be
Okay.
decreasing how many stacks it is to the top end, so it doesn't feel as like rough, like the variance between having some stacks and having
Yeah.
all the stacks. So it's just
Yeah.
going to be going from 5 to 4, and then Evolved Rage is also going to be hit with that too. So it's going to be the same exact critical strike chance at the end, but you're
Yep.
going to be increasing in your physical power.
Okay, yeah, a little extra swing in that in the Rage item.
Yep.
So Rod of Tahuti, also a little bit of a buff, also nice and simple.
Yeah, we're just kind of gear shifting here straight away back to mages from,
yeah,
from
another
Rage.
hard
but,
shift, yeah.
Okay, here we are, now in Mage Land. Rod Up Tahuti, just too expensive for what it was offering in our minds. So we're bringing it down a little bit. This also does reflect upon the glyphs as well, so they are additionally that overall price that you would be going to get either the two up there, also going down just a bit.
Awesome, and we talked about this one a little earlier, but Silver Branch Bow having
Yep,
that shift.
that'll
So
Yep.
live in
yeah, we'll
Hunter
move
Land.
forward with that. Spear of the Magus shift back into Mage World.
Yeah,
Oh.
exactly. So this is kind of mirroring the shift we saw on the Hunter side.
Yeah.
So now we have Spear of the Magus, which is going to be building off the spell focus tree because its flat pen is going to be turning into percent pen.
Yep.
Got it. Easy peasy. Oh, all right, and it looks like we have one more, and that's the
This is the
Sphinx's
fun one.
Bauble getting a buff.
Oh yeah, so Sphinx's Bauble has been in and out of the meta. It's very close to being viable right
Yeah.
now, and in some very specific builds. So we just want it to be a little bit more worth its price, make it a little bit easier to get into.
course.
It still is almost 100% a luxury item. Don't go buying this first item because it is going to make it a little bit worse for
Yeah.
you. But we want to still lean into its full power mage potential, start giving it more power, and dropping the price a little bit. So
Awesome.
Try it out. I promise you, it's really not that bad. It's not that far
bad.
off.
Pick it up, throw it for
Give it a
item.
In
shot.
fact, it's pretty good.
Have some
Yeah, I
fun.
would say it's
on
pretty
the
good.
on the right characters. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, don't be buying.
Yeah, I
the
was gonna
other
say
Extras.
like,
characters.
yeah, this is not a unanimous bias in every game.
Yeah. So
On the characters that can really use their cooldowns. Like I'm
Exactly.
thinking like Nuwa. Oh my God, can you imagine the ults going off that fast? Yeah, it's much better now.
all right. So that was items. We've did it.
Yeah,
We made it to the end
I
of
swapped
items.
between water and something else because I'm just like, you know what? We've got another big category.
we
coming up.
got one. So we still got more balance for those of you. If you're following along the patch notes, awesome. That's been a lot of stuff we've gone over. We have a little more balance to go through. We have gods now. But like with the items, there's some standard balance in there because, of course, we're always tweaking things. But we got to start with something new. This is year 10. It's a big 1-0. So we got some new stuff to talk about for the gods on the battleground. And let's get into it with some class bonuses.
Yeah, so this is in a completely new, mechanic, a
100%.
new feature, a new
Yeah.
system almost, right? Similar to how shards were an item-based gameplay feature that affects all game modes, class bonuses is going to be affecting all gods, all the time, all game modes.
All of
Yep.
Smite.
So what these really are is that you've got your 5 classes,
Yeah.
warriors, mages, guardians, hunters, assassins. Did I get that right? It's like just making sure. And each of these
I get you.
classes, I mean, as simple as it sounds, are going to be gaining their own bonuses. It's basically kind of stats, usually that are either
Okay.
there at the base or gaining per level.
Yeah.
That are kind of the goal for these are to lean in on the identity of what these classes are for, and just play a little bit more into that. So it'll be a good, better example when we go for the first one. So
Yeah, start
warriors.
getting into it. Yeah.
Warriors are going to be gaining 5 flats cooldown reduction as well as 0.25% per level. So
Got
that's
it.
going to be scaling from 5% at level 1 because of the flat all the way to 10% at level 20.
Yeah.
A lot of these, I don't want to go too far into when things are linked to each other, but obviously if you remember from the Conquest discussion, if you were there for that, blue buff lost its cooldown reduction.
Yeah.
It was some of that was on the silver buff, but this is just one way of playing around with, what do warriors want? What kind of specializes you as a warrior bruiser instead of like a guardian bruiser is we want you to play around with your abilities a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
You can be kind of more basic attack focused, you can be more ability focused, but warriors as a whole want to exert their pressure in the lane, whether it's conquest or still exert your pressure everywhere else on the battlefield
Exactly.
if you're in a different game mode. So you're now going to be gaining flat cooldown reduction as well as some scaling to level 20.
Yep.
Nice. Next up we have assassins. What are their bonuses going to
Yeah,
be?
so let's get into that. So
What do assassins want, right?
Over the years, we've had this kind of, I won't say it's a problem, right? Because we love to see class flexibility. We love to see people trying
Yeah.
different characters in different places. But one thing that we wanted to try and establish with this is to say these characters are meant to be the best at this specific role, this specific task.
Yeah.
And so assassins, their task is to go and gank people,
Yeah.
right?
Deal damage.
So-
They're killer machines.
They're killing machines.
Exactly.
Yeah. Whoa.
So what do assassins want? They want flat pens. They want to get it going early.
What they want,
So
give it to
It's
them.
what they asked for.
we're going to be giving
They
them
wrote a letter.
5 plus 0.25 per level physical penetration. So this will be 5 at level 1, and then at level 20, it'll end up at 10.
Beautiful. Next up, we have mages. And what are the mages? What do they write a letter
They want
for?
a
What
lot
do
Mages
they
want damage.
They want mages
Whether it's
want
for
to
killing
deal
people or
damage.
killing NPCs or
Yeah,
whatever it may
clearing
be.
the
so they
wave,
want damage.
whatever. They
So
want damage.
We're gonna see a little bit of kind of a mirrored effect here, or kind of like a yin and yang effect here for the mages and the hunters.
Yeah.
So I want to mention that a little bit. Mages are getting a little bit more damage up front, so you'll see that they're based a little bit more, and hunters are going to be gaining something for a little bit later for the late game. So
Got
we
it.
want to make sure that this is one mechanism of balance that allows us to say like, hey, we know his season 9 mages have kind of been pushed out of the spotlight, whether it's in mid or whatever mode you might be playing, but
Yeah.
specifically as well in the SPL, we saw a lot of double hunters going on, and one of the reasons why was because the lane pressure they exert,
Yeah.
right? So we wanted to say, hey, mages, we want to make sure that they're a little bit stronger in the early game. especially
off the bat.
compared to hunters.
Got it.
At least in what they're good for.
Yeah.
So mages are going to be gaining 20 bonus magical power, which is more than some tier 1s.
Yeah.
As well as just 1 per level. So scales from 20 all the way to 40. 20 early game is a lot.
That's a
40
lot.
late game,
Yeah.
not as much.
Got it. All right. Another good change, though. So, what are my Guardians getting? What did they want?
Well, Guardians are the best at tanking. They're really
That's
good
true.
at getting in the front line and disrupting a lot, but they're also really good at absorbing CC. So
Yeah.
to kind of go alongside that, they're getting base crowd control reduction. So they're going to start with 10, and they're going to get plus 0.5% per level. So they're going to
Nice.
start at 10% CCR at level 1 and end at 20% CCR at level 20.
Well, as a Guardian player, I've learned there are no problems I could not stop with my face. So I like that.
Exactly.
And,
I mean,
yeah.
some of the items have a very similar vibe, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? The goal is for them to hit my face. So let's just make that
Yeah,
a
let's just
thing.
get in there.
Right.
You're
So
getting rewarded for getting hit this time.
it's my favorite.
And
so.
it's a lot of stats. Crowd control reduction is one of those stats that may not seem very exciting at first,
Yeah.
but it provides you a lot of passive benefits. And 10% base going to 20%, that's almost, you could say, it's a lot more of a stat than some of these other classes that are what they're
Exactly.
doing, right?
Yeah.
Yes, just the overall power of being able to avoid CC chains just in general, especially as the Guardian, whose whole point is to really take these for their more squishier characters.
Yeah.
It's so helpful to have the stat just ready to go.
And it also like leans you away from like feeling that if there's ever a time where you wanted beads, you can now maybe move towards this another
Yes, that
20%
as well.
CCR option or 10%, build up that CCR to its cap, and then go for a completely different relic.
Yeah, and then diversify the build. Continue to show expression by using other items. Stuff I love. I'm excited about it. So last class, hunters. What are the hunters getting?
So hunters, we were talking about that yin yang effect
with the
between
mages, yeah.
So mages got a little bit more early. Hunters are actually getting nothing, flat. Well, they're getting a little bit. Okay, they're getting a
Fine.
little bit of a flat, but it's
Oh,
honestly
boy.
it's increased basic attack damage over time.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be getting 0.5% per level increased damage on specifically their basic attacks. That means they're going to be scaling from 100% basic attack damage
Yeah.
to 110%. That might not sound like a lot. That is a whole
It's a
bunch,
lot.
Yeah, that's a
especially when you
lot.
It's a
factor like
lot.
crits and all the power they can be getting. But it's also just for their basic attacks, not for their abilities. And that leaves
Got it.
kind of the last round out, the ending speech for this the class bonuses as a whole. As we talked a little bit about the nuances between them. But one thing that's important is we definitely understand on the design team that there's people that are going to go, hey, what about the classes that kind of transcend roles, right?
Yeah.
What about the ADC mages that are going to be getting bonus magical power, which they might like, but maybe they wanted to increase basic attack scaling. As I mentioned in the beginning, we want to kind of focus these classes with these stats in mind, but that doesn't mean we want to ignore the fact that there are kind of these subclass
Yeah, that they can
mechanisms.
shift around. Yeah.
Exactly. So whether it's mage assassins or whether bruiser guardians, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
you're going to see a little bit more nuanced shifts maybe in their god balance specifically if you want to play around with that, but these class bonuses are a little bit more focused.
Yes.
Got it.
So we're going to be keeping a close eye on those characters that do transcend their classes. But just in case, we want to make sure that this is going well at the beginning, and then, if we need to adjust them further, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, always looking for y'all's feedback. If y'all like, man, mages do slap though, then let us know and we'll keep an eye on it. So
Of course.
looks like besides just the classes, there are also a couple overall stat changes happening, starting with some magical protections, it looks like.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. So we were looking at, as a whole, what's going on with all the different
Yeah.
classes, the different stats, and one of those things that we noticed is there's always been this kind of flat amounts of magical protections that all these characters have had, and it's always
course, yeah.
been the same as well for all the classes.
Yeah.
This was a time to evaluate whether that was necessary. So as you can see here, it's actually quite simple. We're going to be decreasing what was 38.4
Very specific.
magical protections for all of the classes, which is very unlike physical protections, by
Yeah.
the way, to be a little bit more incentivized or not incentivized, categorized between each of the classes. So
Yeah.
the squishy classes, mages, hunters, assassins, are going to be going all the way to 30 magical protections. Warriors a little bit more than that at 32. Guardians the most because they're the tank
They're
is
Guardians.
leaning in on that at 35. Still all lower than 38.4 from before, and to make up for that, they're going to be gaining magical protections per level from 1.2, which is what they were all at, to 1.6, so that they're scaling at least to go a
Yep.
little bit higher.
Got it. And that makes sense, though, especially for some of the squishier classes, because, a normal person with a bow and arrow, it makes sense they get hurt a little more than a person with rocks for skin. So, yeah, that just makes sense. So, but what about base attack power, which is also getting a little shifted, but it looks like just for one class?
Right. So hunters specifically, again, playing on the fact that they were a little bit too strong in the early game.
Yeah.
We talked about how they didn't really get a shift for the early game except for like increased strength. We still want to make sure that there's going to be a difference between the hunters and the mages specifically. They're going to be gaining a basic attack power decreased by 5, which honestly will probably matter the most around like level 1s through 3.
Yeah,
After
the
that,
early
every
game.
item that you get is going to be changing
it'll
that
be
quite a bit.
pretty close to the
Yeah,
same.
it'll
It's
vanish.
really talking about that specifically the early game difference between hunters and mages.
Yeah, to help bring the mages a little back into the spotlight.
Exactly.
So, cool. Well, that's it for the crazy out-of-pocket changes. We still have some general balance we got to talk
Oh,
about,
yes.
though. Starting with the nerfs. So, Ishtar getting the first nerf. I'm sorry.
You got this.
Yeah,
Oh,
all
yeah.
you. Haha.
So Ishtar has been an amazing release. We
Oh, yeah.
have loved seeing her get a bunch of pro play. We love seeing her in ranked. All of those stats have been really great to see.
Yeah.
However, she is definitely showing up a little bit too much, you might say. Although she loves being in the spotlight, don't get me wrong, she's
Oh, yeah.
gonna take a step down for a little bit. So first thing we're doing is we're taking the flat damage from strike shot down. So this is the AoE lob shot that you'll be seeing from imbue arrows. This
Yeah.
one is going down just a little bit in base damage. And then Blades of Retribution, that awesome ultimate with the swords. Each subsequent hit of that sword is now going to be doing a little bit less damage, but we're still staying at that upper limit of 80% reduction. So swords are not doing less than 20% damage, but each individual one that you hit in addition to the first is going to be doing less now.
Okay, got it. So, following that, Lancelot, a little bit of nerf as well.
And
Why
I
don't you
completely
take that
love.
one,
Yeah,
huh?
no, exactly. Like, let me go back to make sure because I completely just missed where it was. But I know what this one is in general. So Lancelot, also an amazing release.
Yeah.
Also a little bit too
Very
strong,
good.
right? Is that like the
bias.
keyword, the synonyms there? He actually, we saw him in the SPL quite a bit.
Yeah.
But when we were looking in regards to his stats, it's kind of like the upper ranks level. It's his band stats, right? The
Yeah.
frustration against him that's a little bit too strong. He's overperforming, but not by a wide margin. So we wanted to hit him with a couple of like damage nerfs to just make sure that he falls in line.
Yeah, to bring
he's
him
not
back in a
too
little
oppressive
bit.
in his assassin, especially with this new map coming up. We have to be very careful with that too.
True.
You know, he's got his horse. He's going to be moving around that
A lot of
battlefield.
good
His
Quite
horse is
quickly.
amazing.
Exactly.
So good.
So, piercing thrust is going to be decreasing the physical power scaling by 5%, but that can, of course, happen twice. So, it's overall a 10% if you do get the 2 hits.
Yeah.
And then the ultimate is base damage. It was just hitting a little bit too hard before you had any items online. So, we're going to be decreasing the base damage across
Yep.
the board.
Got it. Next on the nerf list, Thor getting a little bit of nerf, and Villadon.
Yeah, so Thor has been really amazing ever since he got that change to
True.
his wall. So since then, you know, he has had an increase of damage, obviously. So we
Yeah.
got to take it back a little bit from somewhere, right? So that somewhere is going to be that arc damage on Anvil of Dawn. So we just want to make sure that if you are getting comboed by him, that one-shot potential that Thor has, if he does hit you with the full combo,
Yeah.
is not going to be as strong. You know, you're going to have a little bit more wiggle room there to get time to beads and ages before, you know, you're just smashed to
Yeah, you're
oblivion
just
under the
completely
hammer.
So, all right, one more nerf to talk about in God World, and that is Vulcan getting a little bit of a nerf.
Right, so Vulcan got the little bit changed to backfire before. It, you know,
Yeah.
it's something we stick by. It's something that we have seen him perform to like great success.
Yeah.
And one thing that the extra movement, the extra kind of ability to maneuver on the battlefield has shown is that his damage is now a little bit too high for what he can
Yeah.
now do.
Up there.
So backfire, we're going to be decreasing the magical power scaling by 10%, and we're also increasing that cooldown just by 1 second flat. Just with that little extra maneuverability, we want to just tone him down, specifically with backfire.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, so that does it for nerfs. We are now into the god buffs area, seeing which gods are getting a little stronger with this update, starting with Achilles getting a little bit of a buff.
Yes, so Achilles has been in and out of the meta every so often. He's really good against very tanky characters that he can
Yeah.
execute, of course. But when it comes to most other matchups, he does struggle quite a bit. And a lot of that has to do with his clear, because his clear is very dependent on enemy positioning. So I wanted to give a little bit of love to Shield of Achilles, specifically in that clear department. So lane minions only, not jungle minions,
Lane
will be
minions
taking
only.
extra damage from this ability, of course respecting the inner and outer cones of a shield. So you'll be able to clear a little bit better with this one, so more consistent across the board. And then Radiant Glory, which is in general your sustain option for Achilles, is going down in cooldown by 1 second. And this is just going to help him have a little bit of extra sustain to exist in the laning phase.
Yeah, to continue to be. Awesome, awesome. Artemis next up. Scary Bear getting a little less. Oh, no, I said the wrong person. Oh, no.
No, sorry.
You caught me.
I was just like, wait a second. I immediately thought like Tuskins, like
Scary Boar, that's what I said. Shut
Yeah,
up. All right.
exactly.
What's going on?
Although a lot of this is going to be focused away from the ulti this time because we know that ulti is really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
But going off that one, Transgressor's Fate, kind of one that like limited. That's the traps, the first ability for Artemis.
Yeah.
A little bit more limiting than we would like. it's been historically 3 for a long time, but we think it's time for it to be gaining an increased number count. So it's going to be going to 3 on the battlefield at a time to 4. So you can kind of position them a little bit more
So
for safety if you want that to do that, or at least keep one in the bank for if you want to be aggressive.
Especially with those pathing changes in the jungle, you can now cover up a
Exactly.
lot more space with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was going to say, big new map, a lot of area you got to cover.
And then suppress the insolent. That's going to be the third ability. Just gaining a little bit more damage because, whether it's with the 9.5 changes from before or just where she is compared to the other hunters, she still struggles quite a bit to compete in lane. Once she gets past that to the boxing phase, she's golden.
Yeah, good to
so
go.
just helping her a little bit more with that minion damage.
Yep.
Awesome. Next up, Bacchus, a little bit of a buff on him.
Ooh.
Oh, that's
This
spicy.
is a big
Spicy
one.
Bacchus buff.
All right, so let's start with Chug. Chug is a buffing ability, right? But now it's also a healing ability, a self-healing ability, you might say. Anytime you take a drink, you're feeling good, right? You're
Yeah,
feeling
it
a
makes
little bit
sense.
higher on the drunkometer, and now now you're also feeling a little bit healthier too.
Yeah,
in that way.
absolutely.
So he's got a little bit of extra sustain in the lane now that he's able to chug his wine and receive its healing
Yeah,
benefits.
just get a little health.
So, also, in addition to that, Belly Flop
More.
is going down in cooldown from 16 to 14 to now be 14 seconds at all ranks because we want to make sure that people are knowing that leveling your 3 is the way to go because that's got that extra minion damage.
Yeah.
And this kind of solidifies like, hey, I want that extra minion damage. I don't really want to, have to worry about making that decision between do I want more flops or do I want better clear. Now you can have better clear and have better flops.
And still have the flops. Nice. Like it a lot. Super cool. Next up, also, like, sustain in the lane just sounds like a catchphrase that I want to use for something.
Yeah,
Get that
absolutely.
sustain in the lane. All right. So next up, we have Bakasura getting a bit of a buff.
Bakasura, kind of like skill variants almost to like
Yeah.
an epitome. Bakasura is kind of one of those characters that you either love or you hate because it's just really hard to play.
Or are bad
so
at.
just playing around like that, one wants to make sure that he's got some fun buffs.
Yeah.
So that eat minion, it has that active cooldown reduction component to it. We're just gonna make that 2 seconds flat at all ranks,
Okay.
letting him kind of gain that effect a little bit more in the early game when before it was kind of more pushed towards the late game when he already has cooldown reduction.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna play with that a little bit more early. Regurgitate also that ultimate. It's gonna be increase the slow from that deployable area. It's got a pretty good size, but when people are still in it, like they just leave still a little bit too quickly. So
Yeah.
now it's gonna be they're gonna be a little bit slower for a little bit longer, specifically in the early stages.
Yep.
Awesome, awesome. Fenrir, another assassin out here getting some buffs.
Oh yeah.
Now this one's gonna be really fun because Fenrir is one of those
Fun
characters
Fenrir.
where you can build him in all sorts of ways, and it just kind of works, right?
Yeah.
So we're giving him a little bit more flexibility, even beyond what he already could do, by giving Seething Howl attack speed, 25% to be exact, at all ranks when
Flat. It's
Yeah.
good.
when
Healthy.
using Seething Howl. So that's another bonus that you get when using that one. But also for Brutalize, we want to make sure that he's not just walking into destruction by jumping onto someone with Brutalize. So making him just a little bit tankier, going from 1.5 prots to 2 per level, is going to just help him not die when jumping on people.
Yeah, survive the jump. So,
Exactly.
awesome, awesome. Hachiman next on the list, and more buffage.
Yeah, Hachiman is kind of a mirrored buff that we saw with Artemis on her third ability.
Yeah.
Hachiman's Heavenly Banner. Similarly, just a little bit too low damage that, a little bit not as impactful in the lane as we would like it to be, so we're going to be buffing it there. Also scaling a little bit, 55% scaling, not that high. It does sure gives you the attack speed
Yeah.
benefits, but we want to just bump that up a little bit across the board.
Awesome, awesome. The next on the list, and this is just me being dumb for like 2 seconds, is Hell buff. But when I looked at it, I said Hebo, but spelled weird. We have a Hell buff. So
I guess you could say that.
yeah. So what's
So-
happening with Hell?
For Hell, she has always had this protection reduction on her second ability's Dark Stance Hinder, but it was a very low amount. So
Yeah.
it would kind of, to the point where you were leveling this ability up last usually, even sometimes after your ultimate. And
Yeah.
so what was happening is you were getting to this top end of the protection reduction, but at that point, flat prots don't really matter as much anymore.
True.
So what we wanted to do is give her a little bit more application going into the later stages of the game and have that also be a percent reduction as well. So it's both now. It's you get the flat, you get the percent. They're
percentage.
both better at different times. So once you get to the late game, you'll still be feeling like you're shredding people.
Yeah, nice consistent shreddage throughout the game. Love that. So next up, Hercules.
Hercules is an interesting one because it feels like he's always really good or really bad, and he's been
Scary.
not so strong for quite a while now.
True.
One of
Yeah.
those things, that he kind of has needed, especially since like the 9.5 times, is just like a little bit more damage, especially against his minions. So Driving Strike is going to be getting a whole bunch more damage, specifically on the base damage, of course, to incentivize him building on the warrior side. But also the spicy one here is mitigate wounds. His healing ability is also going to be gaining a buff effect, similar like how we saw with Fenrir. He's going to be gaining 25% attack speed at all ranks, in addition to the other effects it provides. So now when you pop that, you're not kind of just being like a defensive heal bot. You now want to be aggressive with it too.
You're being a
'Cause
bonk.
what else do you want Hercules to do other than just like use his combo and then just start smacking you?
And then run at you,
And not to mention that cooldown's going down as
And
well.
the cooldown's going to be going down 2 seconds flat, quite a bit.
That's a
But,
lot.
You know,
Yeah, that is a lot. Awesome.
he has needed it.
Yeah, that is fair. I haven't missed him a lot because the bonk, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. I'll just adjust. Hunbot's also getting a buff.
Yeah, so Hunbat is in a very interesting place where he feels really, really great when you get to that team fight stage and are able to use Fear No Evil. But up until that point, he kind of just feels a little bit like an alt bot, and we want to give him a little bit more flexibility in how he uses his offensive tools and his defensive tools for that matter. So Somersault's getting a little bit more damage, so if you are able to land that jump on an enemy, not only are they taking more damage, you're also slowing them for a little bit more as well. So you have even more chance to follow up on them with the monkey bounce or the overhead smash, which both do deal a lot of damage. So
dish it out.
the whole combo altogether is feeling a lot better if you're able to land this jump.
As long as you can land the jump.
That's
So
the question.
it's hard. That is a skill. It's a skill. All right, so King Arthur on the buff list for next up.
Yeah, so King Arthur's got a whole bunch of stuff going up.
A whole bunch of
There's
stuff.
a couple of reasons why. So King Arthur's, again, when he's good, he's good. When he's bad, he's quite bad.
Yeah, he's out.
quite bad right now. And also, we've got to keep in mind whether it's the minion tankiness changes, whether it's Glad Shield and the subsequent damage reduction, a premier item for him.
Yeah.
He kind of needs a little bit of an extra love. So damage in several different places. He's going to be getting increased damage on his hamstring specifically, on his battle stomp. And Twin Cleave, which is a little bit more of an interesting one, isn't just damage straight up, but it's going to be an increased protection reduction debuff, which can stack up to twice with that Twin Cleave.
Yep.
Nice.
So
yeah.
Damage across
overall-
the board helps him in lane.
Yeah, just a lot of good changes to help account for some of the item changes and other stuff that we have going on throughout the rest of the year 10. It's been a while since I've said that. I had to work one in. Kuzimbo up next. Love seeing Guardian get a buff.
Yeah, so Kuzumbo is a lot of fun to play in lane.
So fun.
But the biggest problem is when you're not able to get those sumo slams off very consistently, you kind of have to play a little bit farther from range when you get into that later stage of the game.
Yeah.
So being able to more consistently CC people from range is going to be the biggest goal of this change to Nene Kappa. It's basically giving it more slow when you rank it up to 30%, and then decreasing that cooldown. So again, playing around those shell spikes, getting your cooldowns back by getting hit, you've got more Kappas again.
Yeah.
More Kappas. Hooray. So continuing the Guardian trend, Kumbhakarna also getting a buff.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
this
some
one's
interesting things
crazy.
there. So we were looking at his passive, and his passive is it's kind of binary in a way. Like you either know what it does or you don't, and maybe he lives. But the chances that Kumbhakarna lives through that passive is probably not that high.
A little slow.
And while we didn't necessarily want to make that effect stronger, where it's like, hey, he lives 100% of the time.
Yeah.
We just wanted that effect to be more of a choice more often.
Got it.
3 minutes for a passive cooldown like that it's pretty high. So we're reducing that all the way to 2 minutes. Still a pretty considerable amount of time, but now it won't feel like every time you engage you have to worry about it. It's still going to be a meaningful decision, but allows him to really consider when he can use those moments a little bit more.
Yeah.
Also, Groggy Strike will now be applying a cripple in addition to its root effects.
Yep.
Nice.
So now it's a little bit more worthwhile to charge up that big swing.
Yeah, to get it
Exactly.
all the way
A little
back.
bit more rewarding.
Nice. Moving on, we have some mage stuff going on with Morgan Le Fay also getting a buff.
Yeah, Morgan Le Fay has been a little bit absent over the past few
Little
patches, and we have kind of realized that this has to do a bit with her ability to kind of finish people off. She's great at poking, great at dealing
Incredible.
damage from afar and peeling herself off, but when it comes to actually killing people, she has a bit of a struggle with that. So one way that we're going to be doing that is by increasing the power of, or not the power, sorry, the scaling on Shroud of Wildfire, that initial hit. So once you get that bang off, it's doing a little bit more damage. And then, of course, in consuming power, this is going to also be increasing that damage coming from the, I believe it's both the pull in and the swing out.
No, I think we just went with the mark damage. So the
chaos.
mark damage is going from 5% to 8%.
Yep, so that's if you're able to get a lot of those marks off by using all of Morgan Le Fay's various abilities and various forms of sigil mastery. If you're a master of the sigils, you might say.
You've mastered the sigils.
We
You're
didn't
gonna
also
be
want to
doing
go
more
like
damage.
too crazy with that because we understand that sometimes it feels a little bit more incidental. It just felt kind of inconsequential. At the
Yeah,
moment, so.
you wanted to carry the weight, but not be like, oh, if you do everything right, you win. Hooray! So cool. Moving forward, Nike getting a buff.
Yeah, Nike's definitely not been having a good time for a
not
little
been
while.
Nike's day.
So
Poor
honestly,
Nike.
just a couple of easy buffs there. Valiant Leap increasing the base damage. It's pretty low for what that ability does.
Yeah.
The base damage is going to increase that across all ranks. And the ultimate We went back and forth in its strengths before. Now we're going to just be decreasing its cooldown from 100 to 90. It deserves just the normal ultimate ability cooldown.
Yeah, nice and easy. Olaron up next.
Yeah, so if you remember a year ago, which I know very long
Very
time
long
ago
ago.
for a lot of us, we
year
did
ago? That
an
was 5
adjustment
days.
to critical
18
strikes and
days,
how much
20
bonus
days.
damage that they deal. And so Olaron was also affected by that because despite him being a magical character, he too has critical strikes.
Yeah.
So we've decided it's finally time to give that a bit of a push back into the more powerful direction for Olaron. And so now his crits, instead of dealing 1.3x damage, they deal 1.5x damage.
Nice.
Oh.
A little more, yeah, just a little sprinkle of damage in there. So Serket also on the up and up. What's up with that?
Yeah, Serket, we've been addressing a lot, and I think, we've talked about this in other patch notes based on how we've shifted her previously.
Yeah.
This time we want to just go a little bit more in line with some soft, simple buffs, and then we're going to continue to readdress her. She's always going to be one that's we're going to keep in mind. This might not be the last time you see her. We just want to do the small things, especially in relation to all the other changes that's coming up. We just didn't want to leave her out as well. So madness duration on Cobra's Kiss is going to be 1.4 seconds flat at all ranks. Allows her to use that and be a little bit more flexible there. And ambush cooldowns being decreased from 18 to 16. Again, a little bit more flexibility there. 18 seconds for that ability is honestly quite high.
It's a long time, yeah. So cool. So getting to doom, this one's for you, Scotty, getting some buffs.
And it's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and some cool
spicy.
buffs. Yeah.
These are some awesome buffs for Scotty. So first off, let's talk about Calder because Calder's the real god here, right?
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
just,
truly.
I'm just kidding. But for Calder specifically, Scotty's passive, he is going to be regenerating more health more frequently. So
Healthy
how
dog.
it's going to work is instead of every 5 seconds you get 1 pip of HP, now it's every 4 seconds you're getting 1 pip. So a little bit faster if your dog needs some healing. He's coming back a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
Up next, though, we've got Piercing Cold. So this is the one. And so this is going from 14 seconds to 12 seconds. Just a little bit more consistent on the clearing. This
Yeah.
is also a very good self-peel tool because it's got a slow on it. So being able to have that tool up more often, especially for a character that is kind of lacking in range and mobility,
Yeah.
is going to be really helpful for her. But that's not the spiciest change
Yeah,
yet
it's
because
not
we've
all.
got one more here.
One more.
So Winter's Grasp, the ultimate ability,
Yeah.
is now getting an initial hit. And you might say, oh my god, that's a lot of damage. And while that is correct, it is also coming away from the damage over time. So now
Got it.
instead of having this very long, very, if Calder dies especially, it's not the most consistent damage to get off. It's now coming a little bit up front and still a very significant amount in the damage
Yeah,
over
throughout the
time.
duration.
But now if you actually do get the Calder toss onto the dog yeet on the right person, now they will be taking some extra damage up front as well to make sure that they don't have to sit in it for the full duration of the snowstorm to actually get that damage off.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that is a spicy change. Just got to make sure you land that dog eat, like you said. So
Yeah.
very important. So back up next as well on the buff train.
Yeah, just as needed a little bit of love, so we're going to go
Yeah.
simple here. Sickening Strike, increasing the base damage on that by 10 at all ranks. A little bit more utility effect for the ultimate,
Yeah.
lurking in the water, so we're going to actually be increasing the slow from 25% flat, which, is all right, to a little bit
Pretty
more of a
good.
sizable 30% scaling to 40%. So it's going to be a lot more dangerous, actually, for the persistent effect of that and not just all about the explosion.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, great for zoning or great for utilizing in those late games, especially if you're chasing somebody down or zoning somebody off.
Yeah.
That'll be really good.
Yeah, and we're also increasing the protections there while he's in that ultimate, so that if you are just smacking him instead while he's in that, he's
Yeah.
a little bit more survivable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he'll handle it a little better. So next up, Vamana. Right
Another
at the bus.
spicy.
Another spicy
I'm
one.
the
Spicy.
spicy
Yeah,
ones
it is.
today. All right, let's talk about
keep
Vamana.
going.
So Vamana is a character that has a lot of problems when it comes to dealing with certain relics. Cursed dog. And so one way that we have decided to kind of get around this counter, of course we're not completely removing a counter,
Of course.
is to remove the healing over time from this ability. You no longer heal from this ability, but you
Whoa.
can get some healing in a different way now. While this ability is active, you're getting 30% physical lifesteal while you're big, so this counts
That's
for
a
the
lot.
entire duration.
That's a lot.
And then additionally, we're increasing the shield from 1% of your max health per 2 seconds, or 0.2 seconds, sorry, to 2% every 0.2
Yeah.
seconds. So doubling the shield basically, no health regen, but again, shields can still be countered by your Sunders, by your Cursed Donks. You're just not getting perma damage increased against because you are healing for this amount of time.
Yeah.
Now you can feel a little bit more survivable against those, and you don't just insta lose to one
Yeah.
relic.
And if you want a little bit of that healing back, you have to do something active for it at least.
Yeah,
Yeah, you gotta
exactly.
work for it. You gotta be in the fight.
You
so.
still got healing potential, but it's not the same as before. It's a
Yeah.
little, it's shifted.
You
might
heal through
say.
violence now. So. All right, we have made it to the final
It's the
buff,
final one here.
The
and that's
final buff.
Zablanque getting a buff as well.
Yeah, this one honestly is pretty spicy.
Ooh.
While
It
the
is.
ultimate effect is active, no, it's not just that blind effect. It's not just the increased range. Kablanka as well, will be now gaining attack speed while the effect is active.
This is
So
a lot of
That's-
attack.
20%
yeah.
scaling all the way to 60%.
That's a
You're
lot.
That is
now
a
going to be going,
lot of attack
swinging a lot
Yeah.
faster.
Putting points in this ability has never seemed so good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and people were worried that the blind effect just wasn't strong enough, which honestly is pretty strong. Now you have to
Yeah.
be terrified of when he's in it too.
Yeah, because he is flinging those bolas. So, shoot, I'm still the person that's like ult, stop, ult. So I just can't
That
forget the
muscle
old
memory
days.
kind of
yeah, it's
effect, yeah.
trained. So, whew, all right, deep breath. That was a lot
We
of stuff
did
we
it.
just
Oh,
talked about. We
geez.
did it. We
Yeah.
made it. I'm super excited about it. There's still more to come, obviously, but that was
There's
a
a lot
lot
more
of
to come.
balance. Yeah, there's a lot of great things to come, but that was a lot of balance. A lot of things are changing. If you want all those numbers, you want to recap, you missed anything or showed up late, check out the patch notes. Everything's going to be there, same as what we've just gone through, but with a lot more numbers if you feel like reading those and doing some math. But next up, we do have community news, but before we get into that, how about a fun little video for y'all? Check it out.
Fellow traveler, stay for a spell, for there are tales to be told. Stories of time, stories of seasons. These are the stories that bind us all. Forged in the fire of an eternal conflict, Surtur will erupt to raise the lands of gods and men. Through the flames, rebirth gives way to change and the rise of monsters. The sunlight pierces the ashen horizon, nurturing the barren lands and welcoming new life. And for the souls that were lost, they will be carried and find their way to what awaits us all. And what awaits us all? A celebration of our deeds in this journey we all share. Our stories connected by the ebb and flow of time like the seasons. We are renewed. When we meet again, what tales will await us all?
A super cool trailer full of teaser mystery. So hope y'all guys enjoyed that. That'll be a little bit of a teaser that y'all can pick apart and figure out what might be coming in year 10, which we are kicking off next week, which is crazy. It blows my mind. Smite has been around for 10 years, and I'm going to repeat that like 1,000 times because it blows me away. It's been such a long journey. But we have more to go here today. We've been through so much already, but we're going to kick off community news and share with y'all. Joined with me now, I don't even know how to talk anymore. We have Lermy, who was hanging out earlier, and another friend who was hanging out earlier, Titan Ajax, back,
I'm back.
ready to rumble. So let's get into some community news, though. So I'm going to start off with the year 10 pass. You know, each year we've had season passes in the past, but now we have the year 10 pass. Name change to honor the new mode that we're doing things, but also full of content. Just like all the other years, all kinds of incredible things you can get with it that I'm going to go through right now, starting with obviously, you get all the cool skins that come with the new gods that come out. And if you don't own that god, you get the god too. And the voice pack. So you're going to get all of that for every single new god that releases in year 10 for Smite. Already cool. You're also going to get an additional tier 1 skin with that, the emotes, wave and clap, and a bunch of other stuff, including 3 exclusive cosmetics to this year 10 pass that you can only get through the year 10 pass. And those are the Calamity Cat Soul skin, which I think we have the art for here. Let's do it. Oh, look at that.
Look at her.
It says
Wow.
year 10. Look at the kitty.
Oh, I love the kitty.
I love it so much. But yes, this is exclusive to the year 10 pass, so super duper worth it. You'll also get the Calamity Cat loading screen and the Miraculous title, which is a miraculous title. It's also the miraculous title. You get it. So all of that plus, that's like 3 pluses if you're keeping track. You'll also get a special bonus of 1,000 gems. And as I
That's a
mentioned
big one.
earlier, what?
That's a big one.
That's a lot of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big number of gems. Plus, as I mentioned earlier, if you don't own the Ultimate God Pack, you'll get every god that comes out with the new year. So that all the year 10 gods you will also have access to as they release. So definitely make sure to pick that up. It is super awesome. I mean, the skin and the 1,000 gems alone, but the content for every single new god that comes out this year. And as you might have just seen with that teaser video we showed, a lot of cool stuff on the way.
yeah.
So get excited for that. To continue in the community news, we have something else really cool and exciting that I'm so pumped to show you, and we're calling it Smite's Temple of You. Smite has been around for a long time, and we have some members in the community who have been playing for just as long. And to celebrate that, we have a cool little video project that we've thrown together to help celebrate those stats. So what you're about to see is a demo version. These numbers aren't real, so you'll see Lermy's name here. Not real numbers, but it's what it will look like when y'all do it. And let's just let y'all see the video first.
Gods and goddesses, welcome to the Temple of You, the monument to glorify your divine exploits. Allow us to celebrate your greatest accomplishments in the first decade of SMITE. A testament to your triumphs, trials, and tenacity. You have many loyal supporters. Shall we bless your most devoted acolyte with your recognition now? Followers from all walks of life. And some showered with riches beyond compare. You're not the only god of your caliber. Here are the other deities in your pantheon. The halls of history will echo with tales of your conquests. Ah, the Gilgamesh to your Ishtar, a battle for the ages. The songs of your conquest will ring throughout history, or until the season ends. You certainly love to rain terror upon your enemies. Who says kind-hearted gods don't show force when needed? Ah. It appears you are a force of good. The most powerful gods can also be the most benevolent. You are deserving of our deepest gratitude. You watch from the heavens as champions fight for your favor, and to the victors go the spoils.
Nice job.
Are you not entertained? Your accomplishments shall stay legendary for eternity, but your lore is just beginning. May your conquests continue in the first season of SMITE, Year 10, the Season of Monsters.
You rock.
And that is the Smite Temple of You. That's kind of crazy. It's the big overview of like your history of Smite.
That's
with all those
awesome.
cool numbers. Yeah, again,
Love it.
those numbers those were just made up because we just wanted that for the demo purpose. Figured, we'll share all the stats on Twitter and everybody will be sharing their stuff anyway. But so to be a part of that, pre-registration kind of happened during SWC, so January 13th. That's a couple days ago now. But if you were able to pre-register, then you'll be getting an email at some point between the 15th and the 23rd that details some of this stuff, so keep your eye out for that. If you missed pre-registration, don't sweat it. January 24th, I'm double checking because I don't want to lie to y'all. January 24th, just go and participate in it. You just keep an eye out. We'll be sharing ways that you can do this, but you can go participate, get your video, and share it with people and see your history in Smite, the chunk of Smite that you've really taken a hold of. So I think that's really cool, and I'm excited to share mine and then look at my coworkers and be like, man, I got to play more in 2023. So anyway. So that's cool. And then one more shout out that I want to give is for the Year 10 celebration event going on right now. It's been going on for a while, so we're actually getting near the end of it. So if you haven't hopped on this, make sure you do that. It's so easy. Play 10 games. Play 10 games. Just hop in. 10 games of Smite, and you earn a Tier 4 skin chest. You can even get like Toonie Terracilla out of that. So good skins
Some
are
hot
in that
ones there.
chest.
That's really
so
cool.
that's a really good chest. A free battle pass, or if you own it already, 10 levels for the battle pass. 10 free pick your own god chests. So if you don't own the god pass, choose 10 gods to try out, Yeah. And then 10 account and match boosters. So that's essentially 10 days worth of boosters for your account.
That's
so
awesome.
and all of that is just by playing the game. Just hop in, play some matches, don't worry about it. So that's that wraps it for basic community news. We got some merch news now. Nothing crazy. Just make sure to check out the Skull Store. We got all kinds of incredible merch there, especially coming out of SWC and all the hype. Support your favorite SPL player. Look at some of that merch that we have there, and pick something up to buff the wardrobe. You know, I'm all about that Smite wear. So always make sure to grab that. As SPL news go, now this is really cool. This is something to get hyped for. We just came out of SWC, which is huge. And now we're moving into something else pretty cool. We have the SMITE Salt Year 10 Celebration Tournament. So this is a tournament that anybody is welcome to join in. This will be taking place January 28th or 27th through 28th. I started with the wrong date. But and anybody can join. Sign-ups are open. And there's a 200,000 gem prize pool. So hop in, play your heart out, and earn yourself a couple gems along the way if you can rough it out. So again, happening. You can look out for more information for this soon, but this is happening at the end of January. So super excited because that's just going to be a fun event. Again, open to anybody. So
It's gonna be on the new map too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
the brand new map that we went over at the beginning. And if you missed, you can go check it back, rewind later. Check out the VOD. It'll be fun. So next up, we're moving into the quality of life. And I'm gonna let these wonderful people here take care of that because I've talked enough already right here. But I hear we're kind of having a fun little update in quality of life. What's going on?
Oh yeah, this is a big one.
It's a big one.
We're going to be increasing the Smite player level cap. A long time ago, we increased it from 30 to 160. Now you're going to be able to level all the way up to 2,000.
Oof,
That's up
Yeah,
there.
big numbers.
that is huge.
That's so big.
This is gonna only be cosmetic. It's not necessarily gonna affect anything in the game. It's just to show off how much you've played Smite.
Yeah.
Built into your account now. It's not gonna alter matchmaking or affect anything else. But the other good thing to know is that it only applies to players who've already gotten over level 160. So we're not going to be applying a new curve that's going to change the path from 30 to 160. If you're still on that trek, keep on fighting the good fight.
Yeah, still
and then
walking
after
the line.
160, you're going to notice that you can start get levels a little bit more rapidly, working all the way up to level 2000. But let me say, it is quite a climb.
So hard.
I was about to say, because what if you're already level 160 and you've been playing for a while?
It will automatically adjust you. So any experience you've been earning over 160 has been saved and stored in our databases and will automatically adjust. We already tested it with Lermy. And what level did you end up?
I think it was around 219 or so. So not even close to
And
that. I
she
feel
plays
like I
a
played
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we had tested, we ran some data queries to make sure that we looked at who was playing the most in the history of
Yeah,
Smite
like-
and trying to avoid them from hitting cap on day one. I think somebody out there effectively played enough games to level from 1 to 160 23 times.
That's so
That's
much.
so many
fun.
games.
Oh
Good on you.
And they're going to end up being like level 782 or something like that. There's still a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, to
We
keep
wanted
going.
to, when we did it this time, we wanted to make sure that we weren't hitting cap again for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to be sitting on this for a little
So gonna be really excited to see how where the pros and the streamers end up at what level. It'll just be
Yeah.
a really fun way to show, kind of like the Temple of You. This will be another big
Yeah.
part of that.
bit. So that'll be really cool. Wow, 23 times. If you're watching this and like still playing Smite right now, like keep it up.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah, thank you. That
Yeah.
you are what I would consider a pillar of the community. So,
Absolutely.
cool. Well, that does it for community news as a whole. But we've talked about a lot of cool things, and now we are on to a spot of the show that I always love so much. We're on to cosmetics. We're
Oh,
on to
yeah.
the skins, the new stuff.
It's
to
something
look
beautiful
at.
to look at.
Starting with a brand new battle pass, kicking off with year 10, and that is the Boss Monster Battle Pass. Part of the Season of Monsters. It makes sense.
Yeah,
So the
perfect theming.
Exactly. The first skin in that line is Infernal Winds Kukulkan. Okay.
What a banger to start off
I was
with.
about to say that it looks so different.
I just love how we get to have these reactions to this amazing art on every show. You know, the team just doing awesome work. Kukulkan, like you've never quite seen him before, huh?
Yeah, no, not
that
exactly.
guy does look like the final boss in a video game. though,
That's
I gotta
what
say.
was thinking.
He does, very much so. So we don't have a turnaround for this one, unfortunately. So you'll have to wait a little longer, and by that I mean like PTS right around the corner. But to see it in game. But we do have a voice line, so let's hear that.
The scent of despair and fear is thick in this realm. It is time for the apocalypse to begin.
Sheesh. All
End of
right,
the
well,
world and such.
I was about to. I'm
Yeah.
going to double up on that. Sheesh. Like, yeah.
Apocalypse, huh?
Yeah.
Okay,
Is that
all
what he
right,
said?
let's get going.
It's in such a convincing tone. All right, so that'll be the first skin you're going to see. The second skin, Web of Fate Arachne, also in the Boss Monster Battle Pass. Eyes, lots of
wow.
eyes.
Yeah, we wanted something a little bit elegant and otherworldly to kind of balance out all the various archetypes of boss monsters that
Yeah.
it can be inspirations from many different games. So Arachne was a great choice, and this is a really cool, unique art style applied to her.
Oh my
Ooh,
god, look
this
at
one has
those
to turn
eyes
around.
all over the place, like you were saying earlier, but they really stand out on this design.
They
The
really,
color
really
palette
do.
is beautiful.
It is, and I'm always a fan of like that half face, other half giant eye thing. Like that's peak monsterage to me. So let's hear the voice line on this one.
Gaze upon perfection.
That has RPG villainous
Yeah.
for sure.
It really
You
does.
can feel that. Even the extra is there and is extra.
Yeah.
And then when she said gaze, she has what, like 50 eyes there, so she really means it.
True. No
Yes.
sneaking up on that, boss. So the next skin in line will be Crimson Conqueror Guan Yu.
Whoa, this art is
Oh, that's
so
cool.
nice. Wow, that is wallpaper material.
That is wallpaper material.
It is. It's great. I will mention that this one is the revisited skin. So this one was in a previous battle pass, as our battle passes are. 3 brand new ones and one that's a reinterpretation. This is from the boss. What did we call the first one? It was
Oh,
boss
geez.
something.
Final
Final boss.
We
There
did
it
the final
is.
boss battle pass. Now we have the boss monster. So the other 3 are not so humanoid.
Yeah.
Guan Yu with his horse and steed still just barely makes the cut.
True.
Yeah, but this is one heck of a recolor, and it's also in the
It
free
is.
track too, so you're getting this just by playing the game. You don't have to buy
Exactly.
anything.
Just for hanging out and playing. So awesome. The last skin that we're gonna see here in the battle pass is Corrupted Commander Ternunos.
Ooh.
Okay, that's the purple though.
That is very nice purple, like you said.
And like scary goat thing over there on the right. I don't know.
Yeah, he's got to turn
He
people to
turned
something,
people into
right?
goats.
Into scary goats, like
Yeah,
looks
they're,
like.
they're scary this time.
Yeah, this is really cool. I love all the metal that
Ooh.
contrasts
Those
Carnonos' usual nature. Wow, those like textures and materials are gorgeous. Look at all that engraving on his armor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is some awesome drops that you're gonna get from slaying this
True.
guy.
Right? All these boss monsters probably have crazy loot.
All right, let's hear the voice line for this one.
They will all bow down to me.
Fair enough. Short, sweet, and to the point. A lot of bowing to be done. So again, those are all part of the brand new Battle Pass, the Boss Monster Battle Pass, as long as a full track of cosmetics and other things. And that'll be releasing next week with the update. Always crazy to say that every update show that's hey,
Next
right around the
week.
corner.
Yep.
So next up, now this one is near and dear to a lot of Smite fans' hearts. Continuing the theme of kind of the lore and history of Smite, we have a chest coming out with the 10.1 update named the Denton chest.
Yes.
With Denton Bacchus.
He returns.
He's
He
finally
returns.
here.
Look at
You
him.
can finally play as Denton. For those of you who are just joining us in the newer years of Smite, Denton was a Cyclops character that was never a playable character, but was used in a lot of fun end of lobby, end of match animations and marketing promotions and other stuff like that. He was kind of like an unofficial mascot, kind of goofy and silly little Cyclops guy.
Yeah.
There was a lot of love for him in the old days, but he got slowly phased out. And with 10.1, there was like, we were wanting to look for these types of characters and really, shine a light on them, bring them back, do them justice, all new art, and now you can finally play Denton as a god on Bacchus as a skin. It's just so fun. I can't wait
Yeah.
to say. I can't wait to see this one out there.
Yeah, so we don't have a turnaround, unfortunately, so I have to pull the rug out from under you there. You'll see him in PTS and live in game, but we do have a voice line we can
Oh,
share.
you
Let's hear
got it.
Denton talk.
Denton!
He's very well spoken.
If
Very
that
well
isn't
spoken.
peak Denton, I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So again, if any of y'all who have played more than 10 gods, you had to have come across a end of match screen that had Denton in it. So a piece of Smite history coming into the game. Absolutely love to see it. So we're going to do a quick jump ahead into the future here. February 7th, there'll be a bonus chest coming out, and that will be the Ice Wraith chest with Ice Wraith Geb.
Ooh, I'm excited to see this one. Whoa.
Oh, that's
Whoa.
horror.
He's scary. Ged's usually a
Yeah.
nice guy, but now he's an ice guy.
I know, right?
Thank you for
with
that.
Geb, I did expect something, sometimes a little bit calmer, but this is awesome.
Yeah, this is definitely steering away from that. It has Ymir has a lot of these vibe skins where he's usually already aggressive. Here's a more aggressive take on that. But you're right, this is kind of a 360, a 180 for Geb.
Oh, 360. Oh, yeah. And his
Wow.
elemental form, I think, works really well for ice like this.
Oh, yeah.
Ice elementals, you see a lot of cool creatures like this across the game and fantasy space, and this is just a really unique way to work this into Gab.
Yeah, I love the crystals, right? They've got all this nice gradation going on. It really makes it feel complete, like this is just an ice creature that you come across.
Yeah. And the floating skull, I don't know. That really does it for me.
It's creepy, but it's cool.
It is. Let's hear the voice line for this one.
Humans must kill.
So, definitely not calm.
Nope. He's going on a rampage, I suppose.
More bestial take we went on this one.
Yeah,
I think
I'd
makes
say.
a lot of sense. If he was all regal and calm, I think that'd be a little unfitting.
Yeah. So, we've seen a lot of really cool things. Again, that'll come out February 7th. But what's coming up next? You might have seen it if you were watching during SWC, and I hope you were. Lots to see. But up next, we have an incredible crossover that so many people at the company have been hyped about since its ideation, since it's the original form. But before we get into it, how about we share a trailer with y'all to see it real quick? Check it out.
Across the multiverse, we are known. Some call us saviors, others a scourge. Across all worlds, we share a single name.
Planeswalkers.
I mean, incredible. Like, we've been waiting for that for so long to finally be able to reveal and talk about Magic the Gathering in SMITE.
excited.
It's huge. It's incredibly huge. So, like, listen, I've played Magic a lot. If you hand me a deck, I can work my way through it. I can have fun with it. But I think we have two experts over here, a lot more than I am anyway. So how excited are y'all about it, especially through this process?
Oh, very exciting. I've been playing Magic since the 90s,
Yeah,
off and
nice.
on. It's a very popular game, I think, in the game dev crowd.
Yeah.
Game developers really appreciate Magic's deep lore, their way they manage their rule sets and their pacing and their releases. Really, they're like one of the first live release games, right? Constantly releasing new content,
Yeah.
new sets, new theming. They've been doing a lot of amazing stuff for a long time, and it's just so awesome to get to work with this team and explore this other game world in the world of SMITE.
Yeah, especially for a
Yeah.
game so rich in lore, it's incredible. And yeah, Lermy, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, as a more recent convert to Magic the Gathering, it's just so incredible to learn about, like AJ was talking about, all this deep lore that comes behind it. And as just employees of Hi-Rez, we have a little group going every so
Oh, yeah.
often. We get together and play Magic on the weekends sometimes. It's just such a fun game to play, and I'm so excited for all of you guys to get to experience what that's like too. Just get a taste of it, of course.
For sure, yeah. And I mean, much as to what was said, like, as I was getting started at this company a couple years ago, I don't even have like nice modern decks anymore. But I had coworkers who was like, "Hey, that doesn't matter. Come out, like we'll hang out. I got a deck you can borrow." That was one of the first times I actually hung out with my coworkers outside of work, was
Yeah.
playing Magic. And I mean, I've played with you, AJ. I've played
Yes.
with other people. So it really is such an amazing IP and such an honor for us to be able to do this. So it's going to be an event like crossover events of the past, but this one has something we have never done before as well. This event spans 2 updates. We will be releasing a total of 10 skins. Like, this hand isn't free.
And it
but-
was still hard to narrow them down. They got so
Oh,
many cool
yeah.
characters.
There's so much to choose from. Like, we have as always, we have a bunch of people from the company that just sat there, and it was a war. It was an unceasing
It was a
war.
process.
Yeah, of like,
really
we want
was.
this, and like, there was no negativity about it. It just really was, who can we best represent? Who's gonna come in and
So
feel
many
and
cool
adapt?
characters.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but 10 characters, which is a lot, across 2 updates. So that'll be this update now. You'll get the first 5, the second 5 coming in the next update, which we'll talk about when we get there. Enough for
Right.
today already. But And this will be an event. So as you get through it, there will be, you know, there will be planeswalker and creature skins, kind of, you know, a little bit of both. And there will also be cosmetics that you can get. And you can, you know, you can roll chests for these, you can direct purchase these, but like a lot of other events, you know, you work your way through it and you earn more prizes the more things that you own of the event. There will also be a set of free quests, free planeswalker quests throughout the event as well. So you can chain through these and work through them, you know, as the event progresses, some now, some in the next patch, but those will be free to anybody, so make sure that you're hopping in, checking out those quests, and earning things for yourself, because we like being able to share, and that's kind of at the heart of Magic, is bringing people together and doing stuff. So
Absolutely.
But, you know, I could talk about this all day, but where would I be without pushing us towards actually looking at these incredible skins? Starting off with this one, and I have chills if you know who I am in the SMITE community, Karn Atlas. Atlas.
Oh, look at him.
Look at him.
Wow. This just translates so well to Atlas,
It
too.
really does, and it looks so good.
Karn, one of the earliest Magic characters that we're working with. He's been around in the Magic universe since the early sets.
Yeah.
In the late 90s, and still a focal point. He was just recently a big piece of the Dominaria United set. He had a big role in the story and a very spicy new card.
Yeah.
That had some very unique mechanics. He's known for his manipulation of artifacts, which are a very important part of Magic for anyone who's watching. Is like, of course we know this, but want to make sure we give a little bit out there for those who aren't
the
familiar with
SMITE
that.
fans,
But
yeah.
yeah, the Magic universe known for the 5 colors of mana that correspond to different types of magic, and also artifact, which this is where Karn comes in. So we definitely wanted someone that represented the artifact nature of Magic, and we just felt like he fit Atlas really well with that body type, the big, strong iron golem. And then astrolabes are actually, you know, there's multiple Magic cards that depict astrolabes. They can be very powerful artifacts. So the idea of Karn picking up Atlas's astrolabe and using it as a weapon, Karn has been known to use some very interesting artifacts to help defend his planes that he's been on and defeat evil. And we just worked all that in together to create our Karn Atlas.
Which, again, just absolutely breathtaking, especially as an Atlas player. Like, I don't have all of the Magic the Gathering lore. I know a bit. Like, I used to have, it was really bad, but I had an all-artifact, no-color artifact deck I used to run. It was all mirror-based. They were all old cards, but,
the mirrors.
Yeah, right?
Those are cool.
Wow.
Those are cool little guys.
But, yeah, like just seeing this, it fits so well and is just an incredible skin to look at. Even if I knew nothing about Magic, coming in and looking at this, it is a breathtaking skin. So let's hear the voice line for it real quick.
I could not save my own world, but I will save this one.
Big protector vibes.
He very much is. And it was just such an interesting process working through these Magic characters. You know, they've had a lot of different depictions on a lot of different cards.
Yeah.
Especially Karn, who's been around for a long time.
For
so,
as long.
you know, we working off the modern visuals of him as much as possible, and translating that to 3D is also a very unique take, because, you know, most of Magic's properties all take place within a 2D artistic space, either, you know, printed on the cards or in the games like Magic Arena. So we're just had so much fun exploring that and interpreting that and working that into a 3D action-focused gameplay.
Well, and, you know, I think with all of the work that we did, you know, on the art team especially, and all of our teams to make these come to life, it would be a shame not to see it in game. So let's take Karn in game and see what the model looks like in action.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and of the new Conquest map,
on the
too.
new
Of course.
Yeah, he's looking nice.
That is such an awesome. I mean, everything down to just the way that, like, I guess you wouldn't call it armor if he's.
It's like his body.
Yeah, like his body. Just the way that his body has all of those artistic details on it is incredible.
Yeah.
And that astrolabe.
And that astrolabe.
There's every single one of the Magic skins is loaded with references to the game. There are visual effects that are referencing specific cards. There are voice lines referencing specific cards.
Yeah.
A lot of different stuff for Magic fans to see. One of the main inspirations for the astrolabe was the card Chalice of the Void.
Yeah.
Atlas being a cosmic character and having these kind of gravitational pull type of effects. That made a lot of sense with the Void. So we have this black and white Void style, which is, you know, also something we have in SMITE. So we got a really great connection there between Magic Universe and SMITE Universe. And it fits Karn super well to have this, you know, powerful artifact that he fights with.
Yeah, I love the colors for this. It's kind of like there's a lot of that, like you said, black and white, but it almost there's like some silvers mixed into there. I don't know, it's just entrancing to look at.
You can also see little bits of liquid metal,
Yeah.
which is also a feature of Karn. If you're a more hardcore player like myself, you're very familiar with the main way Karn is played in the game, where he is able to tutor up artifact cards from his sideboard, one of which is one that turns everything into artifacts, and therefore becomes unusable because Karn can make artifacts be... So he can pretty much negate any card in the game by using his passive ability, which makes artifacts not be able to be activated, and turning things into artifacts using the liquid metal. So we got that reference in there too. Also, his ultimate references is another specific part in Karn's storyline. So you get kind of a rainbow here. You get all 5 colors of magic.
Yeah.
Kind of referencing one of the older storylines where Karn was on the team known as the Weatherlight team, who worked together to create this thing known as the Legacy Weapon, which essentially was a 5-color powerful magic beam that destroyed any permanent in the Magic universe. It also has a card reference to it, so when we have this giant laser beam on this character, we're like, oh, this fits perfectly. This was an actual artifact from Smite's one of Magic's older storylines, and it fit the skin super well.
And you love when there are that many, and I guess it makes sense with how huge and diverse Magic is. It makes sense that there are all of these opportunities, but that's one thing that, as somebody who has a very basic knowledge of the game, I've respected about watching this process unfold with some of who I would describe as hyper fans within our company, because I wouldn't be able to make that connection. I don't have the history or the knowledge. So being able to see that stuff come to life and hear you give the explanation for it, it's so cool that we have people who are willing to take from such a rich and diverse lore and pull these things out and make the skins so much more than just a surface level thing, I guess.
Absolutely. We wanted every Magic player to be able to see all of this detail and all this depth that went into it, and a lot of that was part of the process, trying to figure out which characters in Smite are going to match up with which characters in Magic. It was so hard. It really was so hard to pick because there were so many cool ones, but I'm really happy with the set we came up with. We tried to get a really good diversity of newer Magic characters, older Magic characters, all the different colors of mana, as well as artifact, all the different Smite classes.
Yeah.
Really trying to mix up so there's something for everyone. Yeah, I'm so excited to show all these off.
Let's keep moving then. Next in line, we have Liliana Vess Nuwa.
Oof. This one's near and dear to my heart because when I first started playing, I was a mono black player. And
Nice.
the first mythic that I was ever told to make was Liliana the Veil. And that card goes absolutely crazy. So I cannot wait to be playing as Lily in Smite here.
Nice.
And there's one thing that I have to point out. Go back and look at the Atlas art and continue to look as we move forward. But you'll see that if you watch the cinematic for Surtur at the Smite World Championship, and if you haven't, then you might see it again soon. But all of these characters are showing up during the Surtur's Ragnarok. So the end is coming. And you can see here, she's bringing Anubis. It looks like Thor and Bellona.
Right.
She's raising them up. And if you saw in Karn's, you'd see a statue of Atlas, funny enough, in the background. And so all of these card arts take place on the battleground that is undergoing the apocalypse, essentially.
Well,
so.
Most of the characters we've chosen are planeswalkers, right? Which in
Yeah.
Magic means they can walk between different planes of existence.
Yeah.
So we kind of invented some of our own, not officially
Not
MTG
official,
canon
no.
story
It just works well.
that we're having this apocalyptic event, Surtur and the Season of Monsters, waging war against the gods, and imagined as if, what if the Magic characters actually planeswalked into the Smite universe, and how would they act, how would they behave? So some of them are more heroic, some of them a little bit not so much.
Yeah.
Liliana, she likes to play both sides.
walk the line.
She's kind of an anti-hero. So you see her there resurrecting a bunch of gods, and you're going to see a lot of death magic in her abilities and her powers. We paired her with Nuwa because of the clay soldiers.
Yeah.
Nuwa really uses these minion pets that she can command and spend time on the battleground in a way that no other god in Smite does. And we wanted Liliana to be able to have that ability for very iconic, raise dead, zombify,
Yeah.
or command the dread horde if you want to get even more specific in some of her lore, that we really felt was extremely important to her portrayal in Smite.
Yeah, and I mean, she came packing with 5 black mana already, so 5 black lands locked and loaded, ready to play. So let's hear the voice line for this one.
Oh, a battleground. Perfect. Plenty of options for a necromancer.
Oh, yeah.
The card art displayed that well. So again, like with the last one, so much work and effort and love went into this. We're gonna see it in game. Let's hop in and keep viewing these.
Oh, she's so pretty.
She is.
I can't get over it. She's so pretty.
Again with the purples. I'm a sucker for anybody with purple in their character design. So
Well, Liliana, an absolutely iconic design from the Magic the Gathering team, really wanted to make sure we got her into this event. She's the representative of the black mana characters, planeswalkers. Black mana uses a lot of death magic and discard spells. There's also a lot of purple used in the card arts of various magic. So really, I don't have them all on hand. I should have double checked my notes even deeper. But we had at least one specific card reference for every single magic character's every single ability.
that's so crazy.
So like there's a very common concept of magic like Death Clouds, Death Fog that kind of fits to her one. There's her clay soldiers, which are reskinned as the Eternals from the
so
War of
cool.
the Spark, and Liliana's absolutely epic moment in battling Nicol Bolas.
Minions.
So we have her summoning Eternals as her zombies of choice for her sort of raise dead themed
so
clay soldiers
cool.
in Smite.
Yeah. Again, it's just watching the inspiration for these skins come to life. Oh wow, that's awesome! The big ring of purple.
Yes, that's a reference to the card Damnation, which is a
Oh,
board
great
wipe.
card. Love that card.
Yes.
It makes sense to use a board wipe for a global ult.
Other cards that inspired Liliana was Liliana's Caress, where you can see her using this purple magic to kind of, put the hurting on someone, to use a technical term.
Yeah.
Also a card, Killing Wave, and other sort of mono black board wipes. Like this, a very common term in Magic, which means something that destroys all creatures or damages all creatures.
Everything.
Nuwa's alt is so much like a sweeper
It
or
is.
board wipe from Magic. So we thought that was so cool. Oh, we got the Neath bot jumping into the action. But yeah, this was just a really cool way to show off that type of effect, which is common to the black magic.
That is so
Stay out
awesome.
of my way.
Super excited to see that, but there's more to come with Magic the Gathering. And next on the list, we have Chandra Nalaar Pele.
All right.
Oh, this
that's
card art
so
is
cool.
sick. It's got the little
Woo.
starter minions.
The fire imps.
Yeah.
Which, depending on which way you know them from. Soon to be what Lermy said. But
Spoilers.
yeah, Chandra also extremely iconic.
Oh yeah.
The Gatewatch team was certainly a big focus for us because they've just been a big part of Magic. And a funny thing too, a lot of these skins and this whole process started design well before even the release of sets like Dominaria United. So we didn't know at the time Liliana was coming back or
Yeah.
Karn was coming back. We picked a bunch of characters we just knew were really iconic.
Yeah,
and
they
we
were
like,
great fits.
people are going to know these. Magic players are going to know these. Smite players are going to like these characters. And it's just been awesome how the recent Magic releases have lined up really well with our selection so
Yeah.
far. Chandra getting a card just before we started this whole discussion in the Innistrad Crimson Vow
Yeah.
set. And so we focused on her as one of our initial picks, and we have a lot of fire characters in Smite.
True.
So we were like, what would fit Chandra best? And Pele just was a very natural fit because there's a lot of energy, a lot of movement. That's the way Chandra fights.
Yeah. So, I mean, very recognizable, like you said, because even as somebody, again, who has played Magic but isn't as versed in it, Chandra and Liliana, both Planeswalkers that I owned at one point, out of like the 5 I ever owned. So, like, I see them, and even I am immediately like, I recognize this. That's so cool looking in this 3-dimensional space. And, I mean, yeah, here's Chandra right here, looking good.
Wow, that's sick.
Important thing to note about this is she is in her idle stance.
Yeah.
So that means her hair is not on fire. But when she uses her abilities and while she's firing her abilities and while she's in her buffed ultimate state from Pele, she will have her hair ignited. So you'll be able to see both that.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
We got the turnaround for it too? Oh
yes,
my
and the
gosh.
flame on mode.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's
That looks
sick.
so good, too. And it's such a cool transition because, yeah, it really nice and calm. The hair looks good. And then, yeah, that snap into fire. So let's go ahead and hear the voice line for this one.
Hope they're ready for it to get a bit hot in here.
I love that. Short, sweet, and to the point.
Yeah, she's a little more of the casual of the Planeswalkers, right? But it's really great for a variety of the characters, which, Magic is pro at.
Oh yeah,
So there's a
variety
lot of
all over.
unique differences, even though these characters are teamed up, in many ways. Her and Liliana and their tones are very different.
Awesome. Well, I think that we should hop in game and see this one too. I want to see the hair catch on fire. I want to see the transition.
Ooh,
Oh, that's so
and
cool.
we're going straight into it.
Yes.
That's so awesome.
Dang, that looks nice.
Yeah, that like aura effect.
So that's her Pele's speed boost.
Yeah.
Oh, and then when it boosts up.
This was inspired by and this and her ability too were kind of inspired by magic cards like Pyroclasm, Whip Flare, these idea that's red spells that deal a lot of damage to all the small creatures around her. Ability 1, I believe, is a Phoenix. You can see that kind of bird shape. So
Flapping
there's a
on the
card
way
called
up.
Chandra's Phoenix.
Hold this for me.
There's all that was worked into it. There's your Pyroclasm type effect, which worked super well for Pele's Magma ability.
Yeah. I at one point had like 5 or 7 pyroclasms. I don't know how I ended up with so many. I did drafts and it just kept showing up.
It's a good card.
It is a good card.
And so the ultimate also has some red lightning worked into the initial hit, which you can see in cards like Lightning Bolt, one of Lermy and I's absolute favorite cards in the
Oh
game.
yeah.
Classic.
A
Or
powerful
Chain
card.
Lightning. And then also you see a unique anim set specifically for Chandra Pele because Pele has weapons, so we had to change that, right? So we got rid of the weapons. We instead have like close range fire attacks that are
Yeah.
more magically casted. And so she's got her share of ranged and melee type projectile attacks and AoE, which is just a really cool way to show all of the different types of red spells you can cast in Magic.
Yeah, and just a great homage to the nature of fire as in this character. It plays with all the elements of it, and I just can't. Every time you're using abilities, I'm watching the hair change and the stance change. You have that combat mode and the passive not on fire mode, and it is just so cool to see that transition back and forth.
And that ultimate,
So pretty.
it does look good. The ultimate makes a lot of sense with cards like Chandra Ablaze or Chandra Awakened Inferno. She's known for this ascension to being on fire and having this really powered up state, which makes a lot of sense with Pele's ultimate and her passive.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Super, super excited, but there are still 2 more. The excitement will never stop.
Oh, keep them coming.
And next up,
For me.
at least for this one, obviously we'll have 5 more in the future. I'm getting ahead of myself. Next up, we have Atraxa Thanatos.
So this is the important one to mention. It's the only one that's not a planeswalker.
Asterisk.
Although the Phyrexians are able to go from plane to plane via their portal technology, which they tend to use in other sets. But
Yeah.
we wanted to highlight the Phyrexians. I could not imagine
They're
this
so
battle pass
cool
without
looking.
a single Phyrexian, especially now that we see Magic's release plan having a huge Phyrexia-focused multitude of sets.
Can't wait.
Which is really awesome. Atraxa being also one of the most played cards of the Magic Commander format, which is also why we were excited to pick her. There was a couple Phyrexian creatures we were torn between. There's the Praetors, which are very iconic and popular too.
Yeah.
But then there was also Atraxa. Atraxa being the most played in Commander, one of the most played commanders of all time.
Of all that.
According to multiple websites worth of data. So we wanted to have a shout out to the Commander community as well as getting a Phyrexian. And she fit Thanatos so well because Thanatos is essentially an angel of death.
Yeah.
And Atraxa is one of Magic's archetypal angels, which if you're familiar with Magic, you might know that angels is a big facet of Magic history and gameplay, but corrupted by a Phyrexian or, completed, as they say.
Yeah.
So not corrupted, but made better, depending on what perspective you have.
Yeah, who you ask.
Essentially turned into this eternal, powerful being that is part metal, part organic, and just overall extremely cool and shows up
about to
across
say.
various Magic storylines in many places.
Super cool. The 2 tails, the design, there is such a strong presence with this skin. And as you have to remember, that's a Thanatos skin. So that's an incredible change of pace for the character. It embodies that character's natural design, but brings a whole new look to it that if you're just admiring the character at the surface level, you might not notice, So let's go ahead and hear the voice line for this one.
I am the voice of the Praetors. I am Atraxa.
Nailed the introduction as well. All right.
Working
so,
on her voice was really fun too, because we just knew that it was going to have this villainous, corrupted angel feel that it just fits, the art so well.
yeah. So again, Magic the Gathering is it's been such an honor to work with this. We can't not see it in game. So
we've got it.
we're going in game
Yes.
for all of them.
Let's go in game. Oh,
Oh, with the
Oh.
bow.
nice timing.
That's
so
epic.
good.
Wow, this is absolute peak. Like, I will be using this Thanatos skin probably forever because it's just that cool.
Yeah.
Atraxa's I guess head, crown, I don't know what you'd call that, but it has such a presence. Like the bow as the head came back up, that just watching that whole,
Oh, there it is again.
yeah, it turns the head up and you see all of that and all the ornament. It's just incredible to look at.
Well, props to the Magic team for the initial design and all of the artists who have done Atraxa cards in the past that are just gorgeous. And props to our team for reinterpreting these characters into 3D and working through the models, as well as our illustration team who got to illustrate Magic characters at a very similar, type of illustration quality that Magic cards themselves
Yeah.
are printed in. So it was really fun because we even call our SMITE illustrations our cards, right?
Yeah.
Card art. So it was just really fun to work through that with the illustration team. Amazingly talented group on the SMITE team, some of which we've also done some contract opportunities for Magic cards as well.
So
Shout out to John, who recently had a Magic card release. As you can see, she uses her iconic staff, which has a strong reference to the Phyrexia symbol, which is kind of a circle with a vertical line through it.
We
And you
will
can see a
not
lot
relent.
of visual effects that are references to the Phyrexian glistening oil, which is kind of this
Oh, that's crazy.
magical sludge
Ooh, very sludgy.
Very
right,
sludgy.
that is
Yeah.
used to fuel their
Completion awaits.
evil artifacts. And then you also see some good hints of green in there, and that kind of calls out a lot of the Phyrexian effects, like the infect effect, which is very powerful in Magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An alternative way to kill your opponent, which is pretty rare.
I am the
Lose
hand
to that one.
Oh yeah, you lose the infect
When we play,
when you play Cube.
yeah, when we play Cube.
Hi-Rez Skilly has a amazing vintage cube.
That's incredible.
That
yeah,
is
it's cool.
extremely expensive collection too, by the way. He is, and we are very grateful when he lets us play with it.
Completion awaits.
That's where a lot of this experience, a lot of our more recent gameplay experience comes from.
Yeah, it's crazy that Magic is not only a game in a universe to a history and lore, but it's also it's a collection piece. There are collector pieces riddled throughout the Magic universe. Like you could not play the game at all and have an art like a shadow box filled with all of these incredible cards you've collected
Oh, of
exclusively
course.
because you could stare at them for hours and get lost.
I've
They're
met many
just that
people who
beautiful.
just collected the cards and never really played the game that much. You know,
Yeah.
but me myself, I've always been a real power gamer in Magic, so I had to do a lot of the.
He's
I had to
a
go do a
gamer.
little bit more research on some of the lore, and I mean, hopefully, none of my summarizations today are too off because Magic does have extremely deep lore, and I had to do some catching up on that. But
You can see that symbol you were talking about, I think,
yep,
in the middle
that's
of
that Phyrexian
the
symbol.
Phyrexian symbol.
Cards that were also inspired with Atraxa is Yawgmoth's Vile Offering, Phyrexian Crusader, Phyrexian Tower, Phyrexian Obliterator.
They cannot.
My personal favorite, Phyrexian Dreadnought. Not one that really worked out with this skin, but just wanted to throw that shout out there because it's one of my favorite cards.
Shout
of
out to
all
a
time.
favorite card.
It's one of my favorite cards, and it's extremely unique card. But just to show how iconic this villainous group of characters in Magic are, I just don't think that the event would be complete without them.
I mean, I agree entirely. It's such an iconic.
So she is our creature. An important thing to note is that we have actual Magic card frames in the game to make
We
the
will not
cards
relent.
look like Magic cards
It's
in the
so cool.
in the loading screens and in the event UI. So you'll notice that Atraxa will have a creature frame instead of the rest of them having a planeswalker frame. You'll also see some excerpts of the lore that we kind of designed for our version of the Magic characters in SMITE, written on those, akin to the Magic flavor text, which is a really fun thing on most Magic cards. I mean, it's absolutely amazingly designed game Magic, the way that they make it a competitive gameplay set that has pro applications, it has casual ways to play,
Yeah.
and that each set tells a complete story through the art and flavor text of the cards.
Yeah.
It's amazing how it all comes together. So we did a version of that for Smite as well through the event UI and through the card art, which you'll be able to see out on the PTS and the. I'm sure we'll get shared out on socials and things like that, as well as the flavor text on those cards.
Yeah, the Smite side episode in the Magic universe, our fun little fan episode, is just incredibly cool, and it's been an honor to work on for sure. And we're not done yet.
We got
There's
one more.
one more skin that we can talk about today. Hang on, you'll see more in the future. But for today, we have one more, and that's Jace Bellerin Yu Huang.
Oh man.
Yes. So we really wanted Jace, and his blue magic, and this kind of, it's generally involves psychic powers, right?
Yeah.
Telepathy and manipulation, cloning, illusion. That was a little bit difficult to find a character in Smite that really felt like Magic's blue.
Yeah.
We have a couple characters who dabble with a little bit of that,
Yeah, who
maybe
walk
like
the line a
the
little bit,
Morrigan, stuff like that. But this recent addition to the game, Yu Huang, and his Taoist, very very meditative, right?
Yeah.
Very mental. Really just, once we started working with it, we were like, oh, this is actually going to fit
Yeah, this is
really
coming together.
well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Jace is very stoic, just like Yu Huang, so he's very reserved. So overall, came out like a great pairing, as you can see in his background art, you get the Chinese references in the
Yeah.
architecture in the distance to call attention to that it's a Yu Huang skin. And also, of course, he's still doing his part in the battle against Surtur and Ragnarok, blocking, counterspelling this meteor that was thrown at him. And there he is.
Absolutely love the design. So regal looking, and just the detail work that goes into, because with armor you get a lot of hard shapes and lines, but even when it comes down to cloth like this, I mean there's armor inlaid in there, but even like the overlayered cloth, the leather belts, the straps, it's crazy how much detail goes into these. And obviously big shout out to Magic for the original design and for creating this. And it's so cool having seen cards native to Magic, to see this transferred into a 3D element and still just look so incredible.
Yeah, as a recent convert to the blue realm of things,
Yes.
I have I'm so excited to play one of my favorite planeswalkers on one of my favorite gods in the game.
And I have to say, the Magic team was an amazing partner throughout the whole process. They gave us great feedback, great guidance. They also were very respectful and understanding of, Smite still needs to be Smite, and it needs to work in the gameplay space. So they were flexible on certain things, like sometimes Jace has a cloak that kind of wraps all the way around his shoulders.
Yeah.
But in 3D animation, you get a lot of stretching and stuff like
Yeah,
that, and other
clipping, and it
rigging
just
and
looks-
clipping issues and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So we did redesign his cloak a little bit, but it looks awesome.
Oh, incredible.
And the
Absolutely.
planeswalkers' clothes can change sometimes when they're visiting different planes and stuff like that. Excellent Jace is very different than Ravnica Jace. So there was a lot of room for exploration there, and he looks amazing. And I also love that he kind of levitates a little bit, because blue is very well known for flying in
yeah.
Magic.
Yeah.
So just all around fit really well.
Shout out to Fog Wall. I love my walls. So let's hear the voice line for this.
Let me guess. You're thinking you need a game plan.
He already knows what you think you thought he thought.
Yeah.
Yes,
He's 3 thoughts ahead. Not
Yes.
steps ahead, 3 thoughts ahead.
definitely.
So I mean, we've done it for all the others. We're doing it for this one. Let's hop in game and check out
Yay.
Jace.
Oh, he looks
Yes.
great. Wow.
And like you said, so meditative. Like you can already tell just by the stance and the way the motions are so flowing and elegant.
Right, and Magic known for wizards and warlocks, sorcerers, that type of archetype. Wizards, I'd say, is probably the one that you see a lot of cards with that type on now.
Yeah.
Jace is like, he really embodies that archetype visually, which is really cool for the event as well as for seeing Smite. So we've got him spawning clones of himself
Yeah,
for
that's
that
so
attack,
cool.
which that's an extremely common thing for Jace to do, is to make clones. You can see that across a couple different cards like Spark Double and some of Jace's most recent Planeswalker cards. We have, throughout his abilities, we have some of the glyphs and runes, which you'll see in a lot of his cards, such as Jace the Mind Sculptor, Jace's Archivist.
Yeah.
His magic has this type of almost like lettering to it. So we have that worked throughout the kit.
Ooh, and then you has some dragons, right? Whoa.
That is true. So Jace has a sidekick character here. So the concept of making illusory creatures is also a very common thing in Magic. There's illusory bear, or phantasmal bear, phantasmal dragon.
Yeah.
They're effectively illusion, blue versions of other creatures. They're effectively powerful in their aggression, but they are easily dispelled. So for Jace's dragons, he summons these illusory eels, which are based off of the card Jace's Mindseeker. So there's actually a specific card where Jace has this creature pictured on him with it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Another direct reference.
It's a little bit of a deep track card.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's from an earlier core set. It didn't see much competitive play, but the fact that it was a specific reference to a specific card, and the combination of just kind of the idea of illusory phantasmal creatures being a key part of blue, as well as another key part of blue being like his root, a lockdown. Blue is often known for tapping creatures down.
Yeah.
Tapping means they can't attack or block or use activated abilities. It makes a lot of sense, like, to use the root, like that, right? So we saw a lot of close connections between Yu Huang and Jace. We've got levitation, we've got phantasmal dragons or eels, we've got the kind of reinterpreting the idea of tapping down something through blue magic as a root, and we have summoning clones. Like, it really all came together so well.
And just that seems to be the prevailing theme through all of these, is every time an idea was locked in and at its base level, the amount of research that went into making sure that there were references to everything that you got a chance to look at it's incredible. And like you said earlier, our team was energetic and excited about this. I had just from the conversational stages of this plan, I knew it would be that way. But then, Magic coming in and being such an incredible partner and working with us to really make this be, as good as it could possibly be, made the process not only more enjoyable, but I think all the better in the end, because it was two people with an obvious passion for a material coming together to make an incredible crossover event. And this is only the first half of it. Y'all will be getting more.
I know.
in the
I'm so
future.
excited to show you all the other 5. Also, some other quick shout outs. There are some really cool cosmetic bundles you'll be able to get, which I don't believe we're going to be showing all today, but they're going to feature a lot of really iconic things from Magic, such as mana symbols, Black Lotus, the Mox cards on a loading frame, some really cool stuff. I don't want to spoil all of them because some of them in the second release, but there's a lot of those are specific references to Magic cards and Magic game actions and things like that.
Yeah.
The event screen, like we said, has all designed like a Magic tabletop space, has really good ways where you can view the cards. You get to see the those illustrations you saw today. You'll see actually on a Magic card template with the frame and flavor text.
So cool.
Yeah, it is like really cool. And just huge shout outs to Aggro, who unfortunately is a little under the weather, couldn't be here today.
True.
But he was a huge help. He's also a really big Magic player. He's a relatively recent convert as well.
Yeah, but
we
very
got him into the
knowledgeable.
Magic a few years back, but he is super into it. He's also really good at it. He's already day 2 at SCG, which I've never done. So he helped a lot. He did a lot of the voice pack writing, and he was also a big part of the playtesting and feedback session. And just there's so many artists. I wish I could name them all, but so many people across the whole card art illustration team, especially John Neumeister, Shane and Chris on Particle Effects, the audio team did so much work. The modeling team to make these characters just be
come to life.
Just be the coolest new thing in Smite, and I think a really amazing representation of Magic characters, and ones you usually don't ever see a full 3D animated like this. So
it's incredible.
So another huge thing to look forward to, and I'm so excited to see this. But we've come a long way in the show. There's a lot we've talked about, and it's been, if you've been along for the whole ride, thank you. It's been we're just loving being able to share all of this, but there is one more thing we have yet to talk about, and that is the brand new God coming with the launch of Year 10. And why don't you check out the cinematic to see a little bit more about that. See you in a sec.
Have you prepared for judgment, monster? Unworthy. My life is death. Each day, each millennia. Eons pass, and yet I cannot. When will it end? How much more am I doomed to suffer? No more. No more.
Are you prepared for judgment, monster?
I just want this to end.
You are still unworthy. Life is death. But this is not where I fall. This is where monsters rise.
What an incredible video. I always love these God cinematics because they're always full of action and that juicy lore that you can put together. So yeah, excited to get into Surtur, our brand new God, to kick off year 10. Familiar to a lot of y'all in the battleground, but we'll get into that in a minute. I am joined now by two more guests, a familiar face and a familiar face. We have Titan Clumsy and Titan Lermy.
Hello again.
I tried to combine your names. I almost said Clermy.
Oh no.
My brain is rotting. There's so many things that have happened that like it's a deflated tire.
Yeah, we've been here for a while.
73 years. I had a birthday.
73.
I had a birthday during one of those videos.
Nice.
So but no, let's get into Surtur.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess just at the very top of it all, why Surtur? You know, why pull him out of that fire giant pit and throw him onto the God selection screen?
I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head right there, right? It is year 10 of Smite.
Yeah.
We wanted to do something exciting, something that hits like the nostalgic core, something that Smite players themselves would really enjoy, something that players that don't really know that much about Smite can still see as like an iconic figure. And who else but our own fire giant? In fact, who is Surtur? He is the fire giant.
Yeah.
So he's being elevated from just an NPC boss that's been, you know, as you saw in the cinematic and stuff, he's just been hit over and over the head again and again.
Oh, yeah.
And now he's going to be joining the battlefield himself to just, you know, wreak havoc.
Yeah. Well, that's incredibly exciting. I know that we have the card art to look at here as we continue talking, so let's check that out as we get into it.
Oh,
my
yeah, that's awesome.
gosh.
I mean, a little bit about Surtur, right? He's the fire giant. He is the lord of the fiery realm of Muspelheim.
Yeah.
And what does he do? His purpose is honestly quite singular. His lore is very straightforward. He brings about the end of the universe in the Battle of Ragnarok. So this is him setting the Yggdrasil tree alight and aflame, which, you know, ends the universe, ends the world, because that is Yggdrasil does its purpose. That is what it's there for.
Yeah.
But, you know, unbeknownst to him, and as the Phoenix usually goes, once things are kind of in flames, new things are risen again. So while he ends the universe, it is reborn, but Surtur's purpose has been fulfilled. He destroys everything.
And I mean, obviously incredible to look at, but you know, as we look at this, and we get to see a turnaround here in just a second.
Oh, look at him.
You know, I've seen y'all design gods from the ground up. You know, I've seen y'all work through the process of bringing something from out of Smite into Smite. What was different about this? You know, because this was a character that had existed at least in some capacity on the battleground. So how was it different? You know?
That's a great question, because he's existed in several different ways, whether it's in the Conquest map in a few different iterations, whether he was even in an adventure at one point as one of the bosses there.
Yeah.
You know, we really wanted to make sure that we brought a the depictions that we have shown as Surtur. We brought the lore accuracy as well of like, you know, his charred flesh, which is a massive component to him, his bright and flaming sword. We wanted to make sure that he evokes those Norse feelings that you'd expect, especially from his fiery realm of Muspelheim. You can see the fire exuding from his horns, from his sword, from his flesh itself.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure that when you look at him, you saw kind of like the evolved version of the NPC that you kind of have been fighting over and over again, right? He doesn't, even though he may be smaller in stature, although he is still quite big, he doesn't look any less impressive. Those were the high-level goals we really wanted to hit, and I think the artistic teams have done such a fantastic job. So the concept art killed it. The 3D modeling really brought it into life, and you can see I love the materials on his like chest and torso area. His beard looks sick. He's got kind of like the Emperor and Lord motif with a little bit of a broken crown going on there.
Yeah.
We really wanted to make sure that he stood out apart from, you know, the other gods.
Yeah, and speaking of standing out, he is rather tall compared to
He
a
is
lot of
rather
them,
tall.
right?
I mean, giant is literally in the name.
Yeah,
so.
he is a Jotun, right? Absolutely. So that's a little bit of his lore as well. He is a giant.
Yeah. So you know, let's hear a voice on real quick. I just want to hear what this god sounds like.
The horn resounds as the battle for the end of the cosmos begins.
Like you said, the tie into that lore there of it's Ragnarok. You know, it's the end of days.
It's the end of days.
He's bringing it. So I mean, this is a new god reveal. You know what's happening next. It's time to hop in game and check out Surtur live and in action.
Let's
and
do
on
it.
a cool new map.
Oh,
The cinematic reveal.
nice pan.
Nice stretch.
I mean, he's got to be, you know, fit to go
Listen-
after sitting still for so long.
I was about to say, you have to be limber to bring on the end of the world. So this is
Yeah.
finished.
So
finished
we're
art,
gonna.
by the
It
way.
looks like we're just going right into it, checking out his abilities like we usually like to do.
Yeah.
Oh, it's time. Here we go.
Oh, that's so crazy.
Nice.
Oh my gosh. So, like always, so many things going on here. Especially the meteor. That's a lot to take in. So we'll see that one more time and then we'll get into it.
Yeah. So we'll break things up now. So
Yeah.
we saw the entire kit as it is. Let's break things piecemeal now.
All right, and yeah, I guess we'll start with the passive. So his passive's called Obsidian Flesh, and what's going on with the passive then?
Right. So Surtur's flesh is made of obsidian, and basically when he loses enough health, you know, okay. Well, I guess things to notice is that he is a warrior, right? He's a physical-based warrior. He has melee basic attacks, although with a little bit increased range. But when he does take enough damage via that passive, you can see a little bit of a obsidian fragment kind of splits off of him.
Yeah.
And Surtur himself can pick that back up to regenerate some of the health that was lost over time, as well as a protections buff. Thing to note as well is that enemies can actually step over those fragments to destroy them. So if you're versing a Surtur, just make sure when you're hitting him and you see him get low, you want to tread over those fragments.
It's
So.
a dancing lane.
It's
you
a
might
dancing
say.
lane, which is pretty cool.
Make
It's
sure to
also his
stomp
main
out.
form of self-sustain and regeneration. So you really want to deny him those if you can, and he really wants to pick those up. It's his own little mini game.
And yeah, and again, always an opportunity for conflict too, because you know you can try to predict. Oh, they see that, their instinct is to stomp it out. I'm gonna take over and attack that, or on the reverse, he needs this sustain. He's gonna go for that. I have to take advantage of that. So
And going back a step as well, because we talked about the melee basic attacks. If Surtur, you can see Surtur has actually a 4-hit chain.
yeah,
And if you look right there, the first hit is the standard, second and third hits are cleaves, and the fourth hit is a heavy hit. The second hit's also kind of a weak cleave, which is a little bit unique there too. So standard, cleave, large, slow hit.
awesome.
But yeah, let's move from the passive and the basic attacks to the first ability, Flames of
Yeah,
Muspel.
Let's do it.
So Flames of Muspel is, you know, singular in purpose, and what it does is it is a basic attack stim. We've seen a few of those before, but it has a couple of unique effects. In fact, it has quite a few interesting things going on.
I'll lay 'em
We
out.
can't just do things simply, right?
No.
So Surtur sets his sword ablaze, and when he next hits an enemy god, it deals bonus magical damage.
Ooh,
on
he is
a-
a warrior.
on a
He is a physical warrior. We
Oh.
talked about that before, but yes, this is a little bit of a transcendence here. He is going to be dealing bonus magical damage. There is a physical burn that's active as well, because if you have a fiery sword that's hitting you, it's going to set you aflame a little bit. So let's go back to that in a second. So he deals physical burn damage as well as a bonus magical damage proc. Also, you can see he's the Lord of Muspelheim. He's got to bring his fiery horde with him. That's what he does to break the Bifrost period. So this ability actually spawns a fiery imp that will attack enemies for a short period of time.
And that's a throwback in itself too. Because
Exactly.
We've seen Surtur in previous eras of Smite have some connection to those little fellas.
Yep, we wanted to kind of bring that idea back again. So one of the goals for our version of Surtur as a playable character was to make sure that we harken back a little bit to what he is like as an NPC, but we didn't want to just directly draw all inspiration from that. That's not very exciting.
Yeah, because this is his next stage in Smite. You know, you want that inspiration, that history, that foundation, but this is a new phase for the Fire Giant.
Exactly. So one final thing that this ability does, other than the fact that it's unique and does bonus magical damage, is it actually is a stacking mechanism. So if you kill when the debuff is on an enemy, that flame debuff, that damage, if that enemy dies while that flame damage is on them via yourself or from any other sources to make it a little bit easier to stack, you actually gain that bonus magical damage proc increases in damage every single time. So you can keep stacking that up to 200 times, I think is the last number we went with. It is an obscenely large amount, and you have obscenely small fragments of damage you're going to be increasing over time. So this is a long game. You can continue to empower your bonus magical damage proc because it doesn't scale. You can't buy magical items or anything like that. So the more you utilize Flames of Muspel to kill lane minions, kill jungle minions, kill enemy gods, you can empower further uses of Flames of Muspel.
Yeah, and like you said, this works on anything, really. So get those last hits, get that extra gold, and most importantly, get those stacks, because you want to be hitting hard with that magic.
True, it's fuel for the fire. Awesome. Well, yeah, let's move on to the second ability then, Giant's Grasp.
So Surtur is the fire giant. What does he want to do? Well, he wants to pick things up and throw them around. So we want to do something a little bit unique here. So as you can see, he's kind of has a two-targeter mechanism. The first time he picks something up, if there is nothing around him, he will just grab a meteor from the earth itself and chuck it forward, stopping on the first enemy and stunning it. However, if there is a lane minion around, which we don't actually have spawned right now, he'll actually pick that up and it'll throw through all the different enemies and stopping on the first god hit. Now, if we spawn a fire imp from his one, you can actually pick that up as well as the third option, which works very, very similar to the lane minions, except it stops the first enemy, stuns them, and does an AoE explosion. Now, note that damage from the throw and the explosion will not damage the same target, but you can do that through a minion wave and still explode on that, and it'll deal bonus damage there. So, 3 things you can pick up: either nothing, which spawns a meteor, a lane minion, an enemy lane minion specifically, and not jungle minions. He's not that great in the jungle, but you can give him a try. And then finally his fiery imps from the AO1, and well, maybe from somewhere else too.
Ooh, all right, super cool. Always love being able to just yeet things. So Emberwalk comes up next for ability number 3.
Yeah, so Emberwalk is kind of like movement speed utility. Surtur expands a fiery ring around him of embers that provides him movement speed. If he hits enemies with it, it also deals damage and slows them, and it expands and contracts. So the expansion and the persistence of the ring deals damage once, the contraction does damage a second time. While that ring is active, if the enemies are within the actual outer ring component itself, they will take ticking damage as well. But if they're inside the ring, inside kind of that donut shape, they won't take any damage from that persistent tick. They'll still take the expansion and contraction damage, but they're actually not going to be taking the persistent damage. That way, Surtur can kind of keep them in that sweet spot, which his basic attacks will also be able to reach him because he's got that extra range. But you kind of want to make sure that hey, you're kind of keeping people near you, or you're trying to chase them down with that movement speed buff and that movement speed slow that you're going to be hitting them with.
Yeah, great kiting mechanism. You want to keep them in the zone as you're running after them, or they're chasing after you.
Also, the more enemies you hit with this, the more movement speed Surtur gets up to a small cap too, and that's enemies, not just enemy gods. So the more you're kind of doing this in team fights or in the wave, you're actually gaining more movement speed. And there's one last fun mechanism too, which is if there is a passive fragment out, Emberwalk will actually automatically pick that up.
Oh, that's cool.
So there we go. So if that's there, you can see that picking up from range.
Nice.
So that way, if he's got that active, he's in a team fight, he's getting smacked a lot, it'll automatically kind of just pick up.
Super handy. All right, so we've made it to the piece du resistant.
Yeah, there's one thing that we haven't seen yet that I'm kind of looking forward to here.
Oh yeah, we got an ult. End of Days.
End of
Very
Days.
apt
We talked
for
about
the
it at the
bringer
beginning.
of Ragnarok. Like I want to see this. He turned into a meteor. I
That's
saw it.
That's what happens. So after a short build-up, as we've seen with similar rooted CC immune abilities, Surtur surges into the air, infusing into a large meteor. While he's in the air, Surtur is actually immune to all damage and can choose where he comes crashing down. Kind of similar to like what we've seen with like U-Forms 3. So you can actually kind of move as you're falling. Now, before you actually fall to the ground, several mini meteorites split off, dealing damage, kind of actually focusing enemy gods too. So if there's enemy gods nearby, it will home in on them. The enemies can try and move out of the way too. Or it'll choose randomized locations if there's no enemy gods and no enemy minions. You can see there was one meteorite each that kind of targeted onto the Zodins. And these meteorites do a little bit of damage and spawn those fiery imps that we also saw on Flames of Muspel. Now yourself, Surtur, you're the large meteor. If you come crashing down and hit an enemy, you'll actually deal extra damage and knock them out. So it's got a little bit of CC component as well.
That is, I mean, that is an incredible ability to look at. Like, I feel like every god that comes out has one thing about them, or one piece of their kit, or one part of their design that you look at and you say, I can't wait for skins to come out for this. To see what that changes. And for me, that's what it is. I mean, the imps will be cool to see if they have a different look whenever skins come out in the future, but like, I want to see what a skin meteor looks like, because that is just such an incredible, unique ultimate ability that I'm just excited to see this not only in play, but to also see what kind of beautiful ideas our amazing teams come up with to make that really shine, or shine even further in the future.
Yeah, there you go. So that is Surtur the Fire Giant, the first god of Year 10 Season of Monsters. I'm super excited to see players play him on the battlefield.
Yeah, and I guess to wrap this up, I just have to ask, y'all have been playtesting this character. He had this awesome kit. What do y'all think? What is his role? You know, obviously he's a warrior, but like, where has he seen the success? And what are y'all looking forward to seeing in gameplay from this character in the game when he comes out?
So like you said, being a warrior in Conquest, you're going to expect him to see in the soul lane. And because he's pretty interesting, where his 2 can be body blocked a little bit. His 3 is probably not the ability you want to level up to max at least, but you do want to start with it because it's kind of your only cleaving ability. You also really want to, like Glimmer said earlier, focus on gaining those stacks of Flames of Muspel, because it's something that's going to really show which Surtur players are like good versus amazing. You want to be careful that you're also not being selfish around it. Like if you're just doing this in lane nonstop and you're not joining team fights, you know, you're not really helping out the rest of your team.
Yeah.
I wouldn't focus on maxing it, because that's not the goal. If you get to 200 stacks, congrats. There's no achievement for that, because that's just a little bit too much.
Yeah.
So he's a little bit of a lane bully once he gets enough levels online, once he deals that magical damage, because that's also pretty important. He is a physical character, so you'd expect to itemize physical defense into him. But that magical damage proc from Flames of Muspel means he's kind of bypassing that. He's like cheekily getting a little bit of extra damage from it too.
It does affect you pretty well. And then once he goes to the late game, he's pretty good at being a backline bully. He's not much of a peeler, as you might say. He's not a Horus, that's for sure. He's more of a, I'm going to lock at your squishies, and either I'm dying or they're dying.
Exactly.
That's incredible, and I'm looking forward to seeing, especially with, like always, what the community does, and you know, when the pros get their hands on this, what they'll do with that as well. Because you know, I'm a very casual player, unlike some of my cohorts here, and I'm always excited to see what people who really have, like when Smite is their craft, what they can make with this kind of stuff. So I'm sure playtests have seen a lot of fun in action, and I'm looking forward to seeing that myself. So Surtur will also, like with all the other gods, have skins that they come out with, including Azure Flame Surtur, which is the standard recolor. The
Fire.
Oh,
that's so cool.
Awesome.
That
I love this part, because while working on Surtur, I haven't seen all of the different like variations. So like seeing the card art specifically, that's just sick.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I always love these like action card arts, because you can see he's sweeping people away.
Look at them go.
The little guys.
That's him using Flames of Muspel on the minion wave, you know, just cleaving them away.
So along with this, we will also have, and we have the card art for this, the Ascended Surtur. So this is part of that Year 10 pass that y'all heard me talk about in the
I know
community
this
news
one.
section.
I like this one a lot. He's got like that neon teal green.
Oh, he almost looks
It's
like he's
sick.
from I guess it depends on the depiction, but like Helheim, you know, with like
Sure.
the, like,
yeah,
blue
good
colors.
call out. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
That's sick.
look, he's breaking free of the chains. He's leaving the fire giant pit.
You can't hold me as an NPC any longer.
Nope. Select me in the screen and let me get 53 kills. We also have, and I know who's going to be going for these soon, the masteries for Surtur. So let's get a preview of them here before you see them in Twitter
Nice.
threads.
Gonna be rocking that from day one.
He's angry. Oh, you're going to be rocking like the third one as well, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be shiny.
You'll be locking this one from game 3.
Okay, well, I can't get that many worshippers.
Oh,
in the game.
nice. We're seeing it in game.
Yeah.
I love the way his sword and his beard and his horn
Dude.
changes.
Yeah.
That's one of the nicest golden skins I think we have in the whole game.
The blues are just so deep too. They have such, and it's such a contrast from all of the reds in the original
and the
skin.
magma's like white, like it's white hot. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, sweet. Then we
That
go
is
back to that fiery
so
red, but I
cool.
mean,
Yeah,
the
it
red, gold, and
highlights the-
black. It's so
It really
iconic.
does.
Wow.
Those are some of
Okay,
my
here we
favorite of
go.
the black and gold.
Here we
Alright,
go.
It's
Yeah,
on
it's
the
like,
way. You know it's
You don't want to
creeping
speed up the turnaround, but at the same time, I kind of want to
Look at how
see what's gonna
magma-
I
happen.
mean, this
Sword
one's
is.
always gonna look nice, right?
It's
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's always a beautiful color palette.
there we go.
Oh,
We're
that-
back to the white hot.
that is perfection. I will not be.
Sleeping. you're gonna be playing and
Yeah,
grinding.
I'll
for
be
that.
playing all day long. Not only because the entirety of Year 10 is coming out, but Surtur is coming
my
along
gosh,
with
that's
it.
so true.
And, wow.
And one thing I noticed too is with the first skin, that it was like the gold and the blue, the fire was still red, but for this one, even the fire is that like
nice.
that white
Good call
color.
out.
That's so cool.
So just attention to detail on that. You got to earn the flames. Always just such a good-looking skin.
Yeah, I can't wait to use that. I'm
Yeah.
so excited.
Yeah, you can't wait to use that day,
Day
one. I'll see
one,
the Twitter
exactly.
thread. It'll be
Night
day
one,
one,
hold
12th
on.
hour.
No,
I have
okay.
it. So, oh man. Well, again, incredible. You know, we have talked about so many things here.
Yeah,
It
we
feels like
survived.
this show started in a different year. Like I feel like 2024 is right, but it's just how much we had to talk about. You know, and this has been a huge year. Or it's going to be a huge year. It has been season 9, but now we're in year 10, the big 1-0. And, you know, I'd like to lead off by thanking the community, especially those of y'all who have been around with us since the beginning. Like, y'all have given us the opportunity to continue to grow and start doing these crossovers and expanding our game and making crazy changes like this. But I'm going to ask y'all for help, too. PTS, no waiting for Friday. It's going to be right around the corner. It's coming today because we want y'all to get in
Sweet.
there because there are so many things to test out, you know? We're looking forward to that feedback. If you love something, let us know. If I see it on Twitter, I'm going to be like, hey, yo, they said they love the art. The artists will, like, blush and cry and be happy because they love hearing that. If you don't love something, also let us know. If something's broken or buggy or a little too overpowered, you let us know, and that's what helps us make this game as great as it is, and that's what helps us move into this 10th year is y'all's support and how incredible the community has always been. So again, look out for PTS news coming very soon. We want to get y'all in there ASAP to start testing all of this incredible new content. And other than that, I look forward to seeing all of y'all on the battleground for SMITE's Year 10. Thank you so much, everybody.